So from the 19th of September 2025 to the 6th of October 2025, I have played every single Soulsborne game, minus Sekiro, which I'll get into in a minute, so that I could rank every single boss from worst to best. Now, I just want to make clear, every single boss in Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Bloodborne, minus the Chalice dungeons, because they're just awful, and with Elden Ring, it's Remembrance bosses, and some that I count as main bosses, like Margit or Red Wolf of Radagon, that aren't Remembrance bosses. So, all the main bosses or important bosses in Elden Ring. I'm not doing every single Erdtree avatar. Now, I'm not counting Sekiro simply due to the fact that it's just too different to me. I know a lot of people do count it as a Soulsborne game. I don't personally. I just feel like it's too different, but I do love Sekiro and I do own the game. So I would like to do a separate ranking for Sekiro bosses. I love Sekiro. Anyway, I just want to get that out of the way. This is going to be all of those bosses. I think it's 172 bosses, I believe. I mean, I'll put something on screen if I need to correct myself, but I believe that's how many there are. And we're going to do them right now, ranking from worst to best. I'm not going to go super in-depth with every boss, because there's so many, and I've not got a script, so I'm just going to go through them. I've got the list in front of me. I'm just going to go through them from worst to best and just rant. There'll be a lot of ranting and just talking about these bosses, but, you know, I've played all of these bosses very recently, so I probably remember the vast majority of them. So coming up last on the list, I have Lud and Zelen, the King's Pets. Now, they're a repeat boss in terms of this. This is a Dark Souls 2 DLC boss, and Dark Souls 2 being last on the list isn't surprising, I suppose. But these bosses, it's two bosses that are a repeat of a boss that's on its own earlier on in the same DLC. This one is optional, the other one isn't, to be fair. But the boss is actually worse when there's two of them, not one of them. I prefer the one, which is a lot higher up on this list, actually. So already they're just a repeat boss, but they've just repeated them twice in one boss fight instead of once, so it's whatever. But the thing that makes this boss absolutely terrible is the run back. I urge you to look up the run back. I mean, all the gameplay you're seeing is mine, but I don't know if I captured the run back. I think I just captured the fight. But, oh my god, look up Lud and Zelen run back for Dark Souls 2. It is by far the worst run back in FromSoft history. Getting to the boss, I died 4 times, and then I beat the boss first try. This is the only boss on this entire list that I was actually considering if I did not beat them first try, I might have rage quit. So it would have been the only boss on this list that I hadn't beaten. Every single boss on this list I have beat. Lud and Zelen were the only ones, literally the only ones, that I considered just being like, well, I've got enough gameplay for them, I'm just going to show them me losing, and then that'll be enough gameplay. I genuinely just hated that run back so much. And the fact that that is the only boss that made me think that, makes me think they've got to be last. Coming up next on the list, we have, to no one's surprise I'm sure, Bed of Chaos from Dark Souls 1. It's a gimmick boss where you have to... I mean, the run back's not particularly amazing. It's no Lud and Zelen, but it's not particularly amazing. And then you have to slide down this thing, which is fine, I suppose. The boss isn't that cool looking. And then you have to go to one of its 3, like, glowy parts while dodging a bunch of swipes and the ground falling beneath you. And then you just go to the glowy part, hit the glowy part, and then go to another glowy part, hit the other glowy part. But, like, it's just, like, it probably doesn't look as bad, or it doesn't sound as bad as I'm describing it here, but if you play it, it is just awful. I remember fighting Bed of Chaos for this video, and I was like, you know what, Bed of Chaos isn't even that bad, but it's because I used the cheese strat, where you go to one of them, then you quit the game, then you go to another one, quit the game, because it's with Bed of Chaos, it saves your progress, so if you quit, it spawns you at the front of the like just before the boss fight, so then you slide back down again, and you attack it. I might even show gameplay of me quitting out, I don't know. So the fact that I have to do that strategy to make it even bearable makes me think that this boss is just as awful as everyone says it is. Now, the first worst boss on this list is one that maybe people think will be too low, I don't know. It's Godskin Duo from Elden Ring. I just find these bosses to be awful. They're a duo boss, but like there were far better duo bosses earlier on, Dark Souls 1 specifically. You'll know what I'm on about if you've played Dark Souls 1. But these guys just don't work together. They've got a ranged attack, which they don't need to have because they're already as aggressive enough, and the ranged attack actually makes it worse. There's pillars everywhere, but they can be destroyed. So once they're destroyed, you can't dodge the ranged attacks unless you know they're coming, but then you're focusing on someone else. They just don't work together as a duo. You can fight both of them, the Godskin Noble and the Godskin Apostle, I believe they're called, like separately at certain parts of the game. One of them you've got to fight to get to another boss that I've ranked on this list. However, on their own, they're a lot better. I mean, they still wouldn't be great on their own, but they wouldn't be this slow. Together, they just do not work. It's like they put two random bosses that do not work together. I mean, they're both Godskin bosses, so I suppose they're related in some way, but they don't work together mechanically, and they put them together and just thought, you know what, this will be a good boss, I suppose, or it makes sense for this to be a boss, I suppose. And it's just awful. I really do not like this boss, and the fact that you've got to fight this boss to fight Malekith, which is a great boss, which we'll be talking about a lot higher up in the list, I just do not like this boss at all. I think Godskin Duo are awful. They do not work together well at all. Sticking on Elden Ring, and the next 3 are also Elden Ring bosses, so we've got 4 Elden Ring bosses in a row. We've got Murta, or Metir, Mother of Fingers. This is an optional boss, so luckily it's optional in the DLC for Elden Ring, but my god, this boss is just awful. The camera with this boss is terrible, the moves of this boss is terrible. Like, it feels like with this boss they went more for, like, how cool can we make the boss look, more than, like, how it practically would work, because it's got so many moves that, like, they look kind of cool. There's one where, like, there's a big, in the sky, there's, like, a big black hole, I suppose, that, like, shoots stuff. It's, like, hard to explain. I suppose I'll put my gameplay of it on now. But, like, I'm sure you can technically dodge it, but it's just so, like, hard to dodge and so stupid and so, like, and there's too many flashes and stuff, and it's just, like, it's just too much. It's just too much for the average person, and I just do not like it. And I just feel like mechanically this fight is awful. I genuinely do not think I will ever fight this boss again, ever. Like, like if I'm kicking in like 5-6 years from now, maybe I'll go through all the bosses again, and I'll have to fight that because I want to go through all the bosses again, at least main bosses. But if I ever replay Elden Ring, which I'm sure I would, I will purposely avoid this boss. I want to play the DLC because I like DLC bosses, but this boss I will purposely avoid. I just do, and to get to this boss, it's not a painstaking task, but you do have to go very out your way. It's an optional boss, and it's probably the hardest optional boss to get to. It's not insanely difficult, but it's just not worth the trouble. And then coming up, as I said, another Elden Ring boss, we've got Fire Giant. Fire Giant is just bad. It's completely non-optional if you want to beat the main game, and it's just really, really bad. The reason I like it more than Metir and Godskin Duo is because it at least works, I suppose. Like, you can dodge everything within reason. Like, it works. It's just an awful fight. Like, it's got an extreme amount of health. It's extremely unfun to fight. I put them above the others because I think he's less BS. I think he is fair. I just think he's awful. So Fire Giant, and the remembrance you get from him has awful additions. His braid whip is absolutely abysmal. Like, there's nothing out of this guy that is good. He's just awful. And when I beat him, it's more just relief. I think it took me 4 or 5 attempts to beat him in this run, and it was more relief than anything. I wasn't even happy, or like, not happy. I was happy that I beat him. I wasn't like, wow, that was a good fight, I can't wait to replay it. I was just happy to get it over and done with, right? And then next on the list, we have Yori, Elder Inquisitor, however you pronounce that, which is a boss that I'm sure some people probably didn't expect me to count, considering I'm only doing what I consider main bosses, but I think you've got to fight this boss to fight another boss I've counted on the list, so I thought I should probably count it, if that makes sense. But yeah, this boss is pretty poo. There's not much to say about this boss. You can just look at the gameplay and it speaks for itself, I suppose, but unless you're like blind, or you just, you know, you're maybe you're in the shower while listening to this and you're not quite looking at the screen. Basically, it's just a guy who, like, he's a magician, I suppose, and he just summons ads. And that's the whole fight, is just trying to avoid ads while hitting him. It's extremely unfun, but it's not as unfun as Fire Giant, so, you know, that's why he's here, I suppose. So up next, I have Gravelord Nito. Now, I just do not like this boss at all. I understand you can get rid of his annoyances, his ads, his skeletons, by using a specific type of weapon that permanently kills the skeletons, but or knocks them down. Is kill the right word for skeletons? I don't know. But even if you get rid of all the ads, this boss is still unbelievably awful. It's got an absolutely abysmal run back. It looks awful. Its arena's not that fun. Its moveset, I think, is crap. But the ads are just an additional crapness to this boss, right? So even taking away the ads, this boss is awful. Now, I struggled with this boss a lot because I wasn't using I don't think I was using an extremely overpowered build, although correct me if I'm wrong if you think my build is overpowered, but I don't think I was. And also, I didn't use the weapon that permanently knocks down the skeletons, so I was having to deal with them. But even if I knocked down the skeletons permanently and was using a weapon that would, like, 5-shot him, it would still be an absolutely awful boss. I just don't like Gravelord Nito at all, and he's non-optional, so you have to fight Gravelord Nito from Dark Souls 1. So next on the list, we have our first Demon Souls boss, which is Man-Eaters, or Man-Eater. There's two of them, so I'll pluralise it. But Man-Eaters, they're just awful. Their attacks... Oh, I should specify, actually. I've only ever played... I've beaten it twice now, but I've only ever played the Demon Souls remake. So this is specifically remake, although I'm sure it's the exact same as the original, but just in case. But yeah, Man-Eaters are just terrible. Their run back is bad, but that's to be expected with Demon Souls. They're just not fun to fight. Their moveset's awful. They can knock you off the pillar, which is the most... Like, on this playthrough, I beat them first try, but the last time I beat Demon Souls, I think I beat these guys like 4th or 5th try, and literally every single try I died, I think besides one, I just fell off because I got knocked off, and they have a move that knocks you, so like you're meant to be able to be knocked off. That's the whole point of the fight. Not the whole point, but that is a point of the fight. And I just don't like it. It's just annoying. It's more annoying than it is fun to dodge. It's not fun to be like, oh, like there's certain bosses that are a lot higher up that it's fun to like know what your surroundings are whilst fighting them, to like multitask, and I don't mind it. With this boss, that's not the case. It's just infuriating. If I fall off, I'm like, if I fight these guys once, just once, and then fall off, I might punch my desk. That's how bad they are. Even though I've only died once to them, they are just awful. And then a second one comes in when the other one's like quarter health. If you're lucky enough, you can take out one quick enough before the other one has a chance to properly do anything. But this boss is just awful. They also don't look that interesting. I don't think they're just a reused enemy, like standard enemies, so at least there's that. But yeah, I don't particularly like this boss, really. And for the area it's in as well, it's just disappointing. Coming up next, we have Sarah, Varg, and Grave Robber, which are a gank boss from one of the 3 DLCs of Dark Souls 2. There's not much to say here. It's just 3 normal enemies that you would fight throughout the world, but, you know, as a boss, I suppose. Like, it's just not fun. I'd rather fight them than Gravelord Nito, but it's still not fun. There's really not much to say. It's just kind of a crap idea, right? And Valiant Gargoyles are in the next spot. Valiant Gargoyles, I just think are awful from Elden Ring. The only credit I can give them is their run back is very lenient, like it's non-existent, like they've not got a run back really. So that's the only thing, so you can keep trying them over and over and over again. But other than that, I just really do not like this boss. I think they're really poor. It's akin to Godskin Duo, which is another Elden Ring boss, where they just don't work well together for me. I feel like one's, like, yes, one attacks you and the other one's a little more standoffish, but I just feel like it's still a bit too aggressive. They also have, is it toxic or poison or whatever it's called, which can build up really quickly, and it's just annoying. It's just a more annoying boss than a fun boss, and a lot of these F-tier bosses are just more annoying than they are fun, which is why they're so low. I'd rather fight a boring boss than an aggravating boss, right? And Valiant Gargoyles are aggravating. It only took me about 3 or 4 attempts to beat them on this run, but like, if you're doing a level 1 run and you're doing every boss, then wow, like, tell me how it went with Valiant Gargoyles. Seath the Scaleless is next, and I feel like this might be the first one on the list, actually, that people are, like, really, like, disagreeing with, because I feel like Seath most people wouldn't put this low, but I personally don't know why. I think Seath is awful. Now, I keep mentioning runbacks, but I count them as a part of the fight, because, I mean, you're expected to die on these bosses, so the runbacks need to be taken into account. The runback is awful, but that's expected for Dark Souls 1. But the boss design, I like. You actually interact with the boss earlier on, and it's a mandatory death, which I think is fine, it's whatever. And the arena that you fight them in is fine, but it's got an awful run back. But the worst part about it is just the fight itself. It's just awful. Every single time I fought Seath the Scaleless, it's literally just I tank everything to then hit them, and tank everything then hit them. Like, they shoot crystals on the ground. There's not an amazing tell to where they're going to hit. Like, you can... And this fight, if you know the strategy, can be very easy, just running around avoiding the crystals. But even if you know the strategy and don't get hit, I mean, I don't really know the strategy. I know of it, but I purposely don't learn it because I don't really care. I just tank everything. But if I was to do like a level 1 run, I'd need to learn that, right? But even if you learn a strategy to just not get hit by the crystals, it would just be a boring fight anyway. You're just running around in a circle, hitting the boss. There's no cool moves to dodge. Like, this boss, it's like a dragon with tentacles. Like, it looks kind of cool, but it's like, it's so underwhelming, and it's a main non-optional boss. It's just extremely underwhelming and extremely poor. The runback's a cherry on top. I just really do not like this boss. We've got 2 Dark Souls 2 bosses up next, the first one being Ruin Sentinels. Ruin Sentinels are just, later on in the game they become normal enemies, so they're just normal enemies, but there are a few enemies on this list, or bosses on this list, that are normal enemies, but these ones take the cake for me because they are just so poor. I just really dislike the area these guys are in. Well, it's not extremely horrific for Dark Souls 2 standards, but it's not amazing by any means. It's definitely one of my least favourite parts of the game. The run back is awful, but the bosses itself just also don't work together. It's another boss, like, where they just don't work. Like there's 3 of them, but the first one you can take out really, really quickly because you spawn right in front of it, and the other 3 are quite far away, and they're really slow. But then once you take out that one, the other 2 become, like, far more aggressive, and they fight you at the same time. And it just doesn't work. Like, it seems to be a theme with FromSoft. We've got Godskin Duo, we've got Valiant Gargoyles, and now we've got these guys, which are just duo bosses that just do not work well together. Lud and Zelen would be one, but I killed Lud, or I think it was Lud, very quickly, so Zelen didn't really have a chance, or it might have been the other way around. That boss is awful, I want to forget about it. But, yeah, like, these duo fights, I mean, they do good duo fights. There is a duo fight much higher up on this list, which you'll know if you know. But yeah, just it doesn't work. Ruin Sentinels are just bad. And to be fair, even as a normal enemy, I don't particularly like them anyway. So they're just not good. They're a normal enemy I don't particularly like, in a bad location, as a boss, and they're just crap. They're just crap. And then next we have Royal Rat Authority. These guys, the reason they're so low, they would still be like an F tier boss, but the reason they're so low on this list is simply due to the fact that the little rats, like the ads, which aren't the main boss, I suppose, but they feel like it, they're impossible to hit. Like, you've actually got to, like, do some Einstein calculation to try to get the right angle to be able to hit this boss, right? I don't know if that made any sense, but this boss, the boss is the ads. The ads are the hard part of the boss. Once you've got rid of the ads, the boss is easy. And the little rats, and I think the main boss, but the main boss is easy, the ads can also stack on. I can't remember what it's called in Dark Souls 2 and in any of these games. It's either like poison or toxic or something along those lines, because there's so many games and they name them different things. But it stacks on a poison, and once that stacks on, it's just like, it's just a really, really poor boss. If it was just the big rat on its own, this boss would be a lot higher up. It'd still be bad, but the reason this boss would be a lot lower, the thing that saves it is it's got a non-existent run back, and the actual main boss itself is not as bad as, like, Ruin Sentinels and stuff. It's not, but it is aggravating to fight. It is such a bad boss. Capra Demon from Dark Souls 1 is next. Yeah, I mean, yet again, this is another one where if you look at the gameplay, I mean, it seems to be a theme with a lot of these early bosses on the list, where a lot of them are just terrible gank bosses, and Capra Demon's no exception. I think the only reason I like this more than some of the others is, in fact, I really don't know why. Capra Demon is also terrible. Yeah, there's literally nothing I can say about Capra Demon. In my gameplay, my recent playthrough of Dark Souls 1, I beat them instantly because I was overleveled for the area. I purposely was overleveled to fight this boss because I disliked the boss, so I purposely waited until I was overleveled. So I beat them first try quite easily. But the boss is either extremely easy and just terrible, or extremely aggravating and still terrible. Like, it's just a bad boss. Next on the list we have Ancient Wyvern. Ancient Wyvern, technically you can fight quote-unquote normally, but it's a gimmick boss where you run around a bunch of enemies, which are the real boss to be fair, and then you just drop down on Ancient Wyvern, insta-kill them. And you have to fight Ancient Wyvern to get to another boss in the DLC, not the DLC, the optional area, Archdragon Peak, I believe it's called, from Dark Souls 3. In fact, this is the first Dark Souls 3 boss on the list, so Dark Souls 3 is looking quite good at the moment. But maybe that won't last, who knows. But yeah, Ancient Wyvern's just awful. It's probably the worst gimmick boss in any of these games. Well, Better Chaos is the worst, actually, but yeah, there are some gimmick bosses I actually don't mind. It's not, if a boss is a gimmick boss, doesn't instantly mean I dislike it. But yeah, Ancient Wyvern's just awful. Coming up next, I have Leechmonger from Demon Souls. Leechmonger, the boss fight itself is pretty poo, and the visual design of the area is pretty poo, but it's a quite unique looking boss, and I actually don't outright despise the boss itself. It's just the area it's in and how you get to the boss, kind of like Lud and Zelen, is just abhorrent. If you die to this boss, which I actually did in this playthrough, this was my second attempt, I died and then came back later, I think. Or was that that might be in a different time I played Dark Souls, actually. Whatever the case may be, I've died to this boss before and had to run back. And oh my gee golly gosh, Batman, it was absolutely awful. This is kind of like Capra Demon, where I purposely, and you might see it in the gameplay, I purposely overlevel for this area of the game. I leave it till, like, as late as I can, just so I can get through the area extremely easy, because the area it's in is abhorrent, and if you die, you have to restart the entire area again. There's no shortcut or anything, like, at least in the next part of the same area, which is like a swamp that everyone hates, which I can see why people hate, at least there's a shortcut to the boss. There is no shortcut to this boss, unless you do some like weird glitch with like falling off and then quickly quitting out the game, or it's whatever. But yeah, this boss is just awful, but mainly because of that run back. The boss itself would still be crap. It would still be really low in the list, but it'd probably be a few places higher. And then we have another Demon Souls boss with Old Monk. Old Monk is just awful. I'm taking into account this boss is a boss that is meant to be like an online player, but it's also like a CPU, I suppose, because if you're not playing online or whatever, and also if you can't find anybody. But I'm only taking into account, there's another boss on this list that's the exact same as this. There's only one other that's like this, but I'm taking into account the non-online version because it's more consistent, obviously. You don't know what you're going to get with the online player, but it's a cool idea, I suppose. But I don't think they should have ever done it again. Old Monk, the normal boss for like the single player version, is just far too easy. Like, it's just boring. If you somehow die to Old Monk, the run back is pretty annoying because it's just a small staircase with a bunch of difficult enemies, which it's just annoying. That being said, if you die to Old Monk, then don't play Elden Ring. But Old Monk, like, it's just extremely boring in terms of it's just extremely easy. But at the very least, the reason it's higher than a lot of these other, like, it's pretty much not even a boss fight. You just get through it in like seconds. It's not, there's no, you could just tank everything. It's not a boss fight. That being said, the reason it's higher than a lot of these other ones is because it's not aggravating. Like, if I fight Old Monk, I quickly kill them and get on with my day and forget they even exist. It's not so rage-inducing it'll make me punch a hole through my monitor, right? So it's not that bad. And then next on the list, we actually have Pinwheel from Dark Souls 1, which is very well known in the community for being an extremely easy boss. If you think easy bosses in Soulsborne, Pinwheel is the first one that comes to mind, I'm sure. But it's the same as Old Monk. I think it's a little better than Old Monk, but Pinwheel is just extremely easy. But it's bad, like it's a very bad, boring boss. But you could just quickly get it out of the way, even more so than Old Monk. It's like literally 10 seconds, I think I beat it, maybe even less. You just, if you're leveling up normally, that is, you just kill it, get out of the way, and then move on. It does suck that Pinwheel is the boss that you fight before Gravelord Nito, which it was very low in the list. So you fight Pinwheel to get to Gravelord Nito, so it's not like you fight Pinwheel and get to an even better boss. You get to a worse boss in my eyes. But yeah, Pinwheel is bad, but he's not aggravatingly bad. He's just like crap, right? Now here we have Dragon God from Demon Souls, and I feel like people would have this guy bottom 3. He's really hated, and I can see why. He is a crap boss. He's a gimmick boss. You like play hide and seek against him, and considering how hyped up this guy is and how cool he looks, it's very underwhelming when you realise what the boss is. That being said, I would rather fight Dragon God a million times over like Leechmonger, for example, personally. Like, the reason he's just a lot higher up than maybe people expect is simply due to the fact that I just, like, he's another boss that doesn't aggravate me. Like, I can get, if you know how to do him, which I do, you can get through him quite quickly. He's not that difficult. It could be a little inconsistent at times when he spots you, I think, but, you know, I've not had too much experience with that because I've only beat Demon Souls twice. But yeah, in general, and his run back is non-existent. I keep talking about run backs, but they're like my favourite thing to talk about, because if a boss has got a good run back, they go high in my books. But yeah, he's non-existent run back. He looks cool. His fight itself is awful, but it's not, you know, I'd rather fight him than Fire Giant, right? Now, next on the list, I have Nassandra, which is one of the 3 final bosses of Dark Souls 2. There's 3 final bosses, or 3 final bosses you can get. I think some of them are optional, but correct me if I'm wrong. But Nassandra is one of the final bosses, and for a final boss, it's so disappointing. It's so awfully, like, it's extremely easy, even though I did die on her, but it is extremely easy, but in like a boring way. Like it's kind of like Pinwheel, where like you just want to get her out the way and be like, oh, okay, I've got her out of the way now, that's cool, let's move on, right? The only issue there is it's the final boss of the game, or one of 3 final bosses, which you do back to back to back. So I think it's the one in the middle. There's one, and then you do this one, then there's another one. And the other 2 are obviously higher up in this list because I've not mentioned them yet. Her moveset's also just awful. I don't, like, her design's okay, I suppose, but she's also a bit hyped up throughout the game, and, you know, not extremely so, but she is, and, you know, super underwhelming. Nassandra's just not a particularly great boss. And the 2 bosses that come either side of them, although not amazing by any means, are definitely better. So Estelle, Natural Born of the Void, is next, and simply put with this boss, I just feel like some of the tells aren't good enough for you to be able to, like, within reason, dodge them, I suppose. Like, I don't know, like, it's hard to explain. I just don't like some of the tells. I also just don't like the hit markers, I was about to say, like it's Call of Duty. What would it be? Like, the hit recognition, is that what you call it? But I'm looking for a word and I can't think of it. But basically, the amount of times I try to hit this boss and it just, like, it's impossible to hit because it's just so squirmy. And it's just got moves that I don't think are that fun to fight, and I actually don't think it even looks that good. I know people are like, wow, it looks cool. I'm scared of space, so anything space-related doesn't interest me. Obviously, this is a personal list, and so space doesn't make it look cool to me. In fact, it looks horrifying. Thus, yeah, this boss to me is just nothing. It's a big nothing burger. It's not aggravatingly awful. I only died to this boss, I think, 2 or 3 times. That being said, it's just not a fun boss for me. Champions Gravetender and Great Wolf, another Dark Souls 3 boss, is up next. This is an optional one of 2 DLCs. It's one of only 2 bosses in the DLC, but the other boss is going to be a lot higher up on the list of the Ashes of Ariandel DLC for Dark Souls 3. But this one's optional, the other one isn't if you want to beat the DLC. But yeah, I mean, it's just a gank fight again. It's got an amazing looking arena, and I don't mind the way you get to the boss. In fact, it's quite easy to get to. You can get to it pretty much as soon as you get into the DLC. Like, you go into the DLC, give it like 2-3 minutes, you should get to the boss. You've got to hop down this area, maybe you can fall off. Anyway, that's besides the point. But the boss it's a grave tender guy, NPC, whatever, and he has like 3 wolves, quite easy to take out, and, you know, it's just really boring. It's just like an NPC with 3 dogs. You know, imagine if you get invaded by somebody, but there's 3 dogs around, or wolves in this case, but dogs, wolves, whatever, same thing. That's what this fight is, basically, right? However, once the guy is like a quarter of his health left, and hopefully you can take him out quick enough, so it's just a 1v1, his Great Wolf companion will spawn in, which is a lot better, but it's still not very good. It's like another wolf fight that's higher up on this list, but with a lot less of a moveset, and a lot less interesting. But this fight sucks because the arena is so cool. Like, it's like you look at it and you're like, wow, what am I going to fight in this arena? And it's just these goobers. I don't know, it's just a very uninteresting gank fight. And even the wolf on its own, which is the Great Wolf on its own, which is the best part of the fight, it's still not got a great moveset, and it's not particularly fun to fight. But at the very least, it is quite easy. I mean, in my gameplay, I beat them first try, but I think I just tanked, like, loads of hits from the wolf. I think. I could be misremembering, but, you know, I don't even bother really trying to dodge or learn their moveset. I just don't really like the boss at all. And Deacons of the Deep, another Dark Souls 3 boss, is up next, and, yeah, they're just really poor. There's this red aura that is, like, on one of the deacons. Then you hit that deacon, kill them, and then the aura will move to another deacon. And then the second phase, the aura's just on one guy, like the main guy, the main deacon of the deep, I suppose, the main Donny. And you then try to attack him, but they're all crowded around him. Now, they're not very aggressive, so it's very easy. Like, they're not, like, constantly hitting you. Like, you can just... And if you have a strength weapon, which I'm not sure if I did in Dark Souls... Did I use a strength weapon in Dark Souls 3? I actually can't remember what weapon I used in Dark Souls 3. What weapon did I use? Oh, I think I used Astoria's blade. Or Artorias' blade, rather. Although... I don't think I used it in Deacons of Deep, so I don't know what... It's probably just a normal sword in this gameplay. But if you have a strength weapon, is what I'm trying to say, then this fight is extremely easy. If you have a dex weapon, it's just more aggravating, but it's still very easy. But it's just a really bad fight. Like, it's akin to a pinwheel or an old monk where you can just get through it quickly, but it's just, you're more likely to die on this fight. The reason it is higher is because there is more to the fight, and it is better in my eyes, but it's just not a very good fight. Now, next on the list, we have the boss with maybe the best name in all of Souls history, is Ceaseless Discharge. Ceaseless Discharge is a banging name for a boss, and we all know the strategy, or at least I'm assuming you might know if you're watching this video, the strategy where you can one-hit the boss, where you, like, you run to the other end of the arena, it flops its meat onto the arena, and then you just one-shot it, which I believe I did do for my gameplay. However, even if you fight this boss normally or do that, it's just the same, kind of boring. In fact, I purposely do this every single time because I just don't want to fight it normally, like quote-unquote normally, because it's just not fun. Like, it's not extremely difficult, I suppose, but it's just not a fun boss. It's got a cool aspect to it where once you kill it, the lava in the area, or at least a lot of the lava, goes away, thus you can walk on it now, and I kind of like that, like it changes the area that you're in. But it's also the boss that, once you beat it, it helps you get towards Bed of Chaos, which is awful. And this whole area is just underdeveloped. What's it called? Lost Isolith, I think. It's just awful. I don't know if the Ceaseless Discharge is in Lost Isolith itself, or if that's a bit further on. But that whole area, leading up to Lost Isolith and Lost Isolith itself, is just the worst area in Dark Souls 1, and maybe all of Souls. It's really awful. But yeah, there's nothing much to say. Ceaseless Discharge is just I wouldn't say it's a gimmick boss necessarily, but it's just not a particularly good boss. Coming up next, I have Skeleton Lords from Dark Souls 2. I mean, they're just another gank boss. I mean, this is these first like 20, 30 bosses are just going to be filled with like gank bosses or gank bosses. How do you even say that word? Gank? Bosses with ads, bosses with friends that help. Like, it's just a bunch of guys as the boss, or at least two, if not more, guys. And this is just a group of skeletons, normal bog standard skeleton enemies, just as a boss. But it's just less aggravating than the rest before it, so that's the reason they're not as low. But they're still awful. There's literally nothing I can say about this. It's literally just normal enemies that are skeletons, that are bosses, and they're called the Skeleton Lords. But they're crap. Next we have Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing from Elden Ring. Now, this guy's got a cool concept where he's just a guy, I suppose, and you can find him throughout the game, or you can speak to him throughout the game, and he's like talking to you and stuff. He's an NPC. And then it turns out that, he wants to fight you now or whatever. And he has the abilities of the bosses you defeated. So if you defeated like Moog, Lord of Blood, he'll have like a blood attack. If you beat Melania, I think he might have a Melania, like a Scarlet Rot attack, although correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong there. But depending on the bosses you've beaten, and some of them are obviously not optional, he'll have like a bunch of attacks from those bosses, which I think is a really cool idea. And like him having all these moves, I think it's cool, but he's just crap to fight. He just spams a bunch of moves. So the strategy is to either just be extremely aggressive and have an extremely strong weapon, so you just knock him out instantly, or just play extremely passive and boring until you finally get a chance to hit him, I suppose, and even then you might not have a chance. And then you just take him out. Like, it's just a crap fight. It's just not very fun. Really cool idea. I just think it's awful. So, but I do respect the attempt. And, there's worse bosses. Now, next we have Rom the Vacuous Spider from Bloodborne. The first Bloodborne boss, actually, on this list. I think Bloodborne is the only game I've not actually ranked a boss from so far. So now we've done all the games. But yeah, Bloodborne, very good game. And I think it's probably the only boss I would consider an F-tier boss. But it's Rom the Vacuous Spider. Rom is just really, really bad. It's another boss. Who would have thought it? With ads that are in the arena. But, it's first phase. Rom is just like, it doesn't attack. And while I say it's first phase, I mean, it's kind of got two phases, but it's all kind of all into one. But the first phase, it doesn't attack, and it just has a bunch of spiders that you've got to attack. The spiders have got a one-shot hit where they jump up in the air and hop down if you've not got enough health, which you need quite a lot to be able to survive it, which is a bit annoying. But they're not fun to fight, they're just tedious. But, you can just get it over and done with. And then you fight Rom, and then once Rom teleports away, and if you're lucky enough, you can get a lot of damage in before they teleport away. But once she teleports away, which, yes, this spider is female. I mean, to be fair, I don't know. It's not even a spider. It's got a gazillion legs. Anyway, whatever. Once Rom teleports away, then she'll start having, moves. There's one where she shoots meteors, and one where she, if you're too close to her, she'll, do an AoE explosion. There's one where she gets rocks out the ground, which is AoE-esque as well. And they're just terrible moves. They're just not fun. That being said, is Rom so unbelievably offensively bad that she should be lower on the list? No. I'd rather fight Rom than anything before it, but she is very, very poor. The spider, I feel like it would be less annoying if, you had the spider ads, but once you've taken them out, they don't respawn. But every time she teleports, she spawns more spiders. And sometimes I feel like it bugs out, and you can have, she can spawn 2 sets of ads. Now, I don't know whether there's a reason for that, but sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But then you've got 2 times the amount of spiders to deal with. And, is it the hardest fight in the world? No, but being hard doesn't make it bad, being easy doesn't make it good. It's not extremely easy, it's just a bad fight, in my opinion. I really do not like Rom. Next, we've got Velstat, the Royal Aegis from Dark Souls 2. I mean, the boss is just too basic for me. I mean, a lot of Dark Souls 2 bosses are like this, but this is kind of like Nassandra, where it's got so few moves that it's just so, it's just extremely boring, right? It's just, the moves aren't fun to, it's not fun to fight, the moves aren't good. It's just, there's really not much to say about this fight. It's just, obviously it's Dark Souls 2, it's not Elden Ring, so I'm not expecting that quality of, the amount of moves. But I swear this boss has, 2 moves, maybe 3 if I'm being lenient. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but it feels like it does spams the same move every single time, and the moves it spams are not fun. There are some bosses on this list, higher up, that feel like they have, one move they spam, but it's at least a fun move to dodge. This move is just not fun. I don't know, I find this guy extremely uninteresting to fight. He's not annoying, he's not extremely bad, he's just boring. He's just nothing. He's a big nothing burger. He's a patty with no cheese. He's a burger with no honey mustard. And can you imagine a burger with no honey mustard? couldn't be me. Anyway, next on the list we've got Moonlight Butterfly. I mean, Moonlight Butterfly is just a bit tedious. It's just a flying boss that, unless you've got magic, which I never use magic in these games. I think with magic it's quite easy, but everything's easy with magic, but without magic you've just got to dodge a bunch of attacks, wait till it lands, hit it a few times, it'll fly off, rinse and repeat. If you're lucky you can do it within 2 cycles, if you're unlucky it'll be 3 or 4. Yeah, the boss is just tedious and boring, but not offensively bad, kind of like Velstadt. It's just, you know, if I almost forgot this boss existed, I think, when I played the game. I was like, oh yeah, Moonlight Butterfly exists. Like, it's just a nothing. Next I have Ancient Dragon from Dark Souls 2. It's this big dragon. He has literally, I think, 3 moves. He has one where he goes up in the air, shoots fire, which is quite easy to dodge. I heard somebody talk about him being bad because you can't dodge his fire unless you predict it beforehand, but you run towards his tail to dodge it. You don't run away from his tail. Quick strat for anyone there that's struggling with this boss and its fire attack. You don't have to, like predict it before it happens. Once it happens, run to his tail. There's a chance you might still get hit by it, but that's the strat. So, you know, it's not like I hate his attacks because they're like BS or anything. He's also got a stomp attack, and actually I think that's it. I think he's got 2 attacks. I think he's actually just got 2 attacks. Is there a 3rd attack that I'm just missing? I actually think he might... Oh no, he has one where he like shoots fire forward if you're in front of him, but because I wasn't directly in front of him, I don't think he ever did that attack. And if he lands on you when he's in the air, if he like drops on you, you're instantly done. Which is annoying. This guy's just very tanky. He's very boring to fight. There's better dragons in the game he's in, Dark Souls 2, let alone in all these games in general. He's just pretty bad. And considering he's like the main daddy dragon, he's the ancient dragon, you know, I mean, the only cool thing about it, I suppose, is how big he is. It's like, wow, it's a huge dragon, but I mean, you know, it's just a bad fight. Royal Rat Vanguard is next, and we had Royal Rat Authority earlier, and now we've got Royal Rat Vanguard from Dark Souls 2. They're just far less annoying than Royal Rat Authority, which is why they're a lot higher. It's just a bunch of rats which are relatively easy to avoid and take down, and they also I don't think they stack any ailment, although correct me if I'm wrong. And then like a rat, I think it's a rat with like a mohawk or something comes in, and then that's the boss rat. It's just a normal rat, but it's like kind of hidden away, and then once you take out that rat, they all like, you know, retreat, and then you've beat the boss. It's a bad boss, but it's not, you know, it's not as annoying as Royal Rat Authority, which is kind of like its kin, I suppose, and the bosses that come before it. It's another boss where it's just like, I'll get it out of the way, cool. Mimic Tear is next, and Mimic Tear is just a cool idea, kind of like Gideon Ofnir, both from Elden Ring, but just not executed well. Mimic Tear is literally just a boss that is like a duplicate of you. Like, it's an NPC fight, but it duplicates your guy. Now, there is a strategy to like take off your armor, take off your weapon and stuff, go into the fight, then re-equip it all, and then it's just an unfair fight. But I just fight this guy normally, because it's not that hard anyway. I had a dual-wield weapon, I think, but I think the Mimic Tear put it in one hand, and then just was hitting me with the left-hand fist at one point. Like, it didn't know how to use my build, even though it was extremely easy. Like, it wasn't complex at all. So, yeah, it is a bit goofy, and it's a cool idea, but it's just not a good fight. Like, they could have done more with, like, fighting the shadow version of yourself or something. Kind of like, I mean, spoilers for Ocarina of Time, I suppose, but kind of like Shadow Link, or is it called Shadow Link, or is there another name for it? Dark Link, I think, or whatever, which is the best fight, even though it's not classed as a proper boss fight. But it's the best fight in Ocarina of Time. But it's like, that's way better. That's far much more of a cool idea. Here, it's just like that idea, but far worse, right? Like, there's much more they could have done with this idea, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's here for a reason, right? It's not a very good boss, but, you know, it sucks that it's not good. And the boss that I would consider maybe last in F tier, like every boss after this probably isn't in F tier anymore. We've got High Lord Walnir, which is a gimmick boss from Dark Souls 3. Basically, you just hit his 3 bracelets, and then he is no longer in this corporeal realm. His little jump scare at the start, where like you see him for the first time, and he's just like a big skull, is kind of cool. But that's the only, and in his design's kind of cool. But other than that, he's just kind of like lackluster, I suppose. There's so many moves he has which you just can't see because you kill him so quickly. But even if you see those attacks, they're not fun attacks. Like, he whips out like a sword and like, I don't know, it's just not enjoyable. I don't know. High Lord Walnir, yeah, he's here on the list. Not particularly great, but he's not abysmal. So coming up next on the list, I have Demon Fire Sage, who is just a reskin of Asylum Demon, who is the tutorial boss of Dark Souls 1, but he's got a few additional moves, I believe, but they're just poor. Like they're just more annoying than anything. They're not good moves. He's also on fire, which is like cool because the other one's not on fire, I suppose. But he's also in Lost Izalith, or at least that general area. I don't think he's in Lost Izalith itself, but he's in like the area. Like you've got Ceaseless Discharge, then you've got this scuba, then you've got another boss which is a slightly higher on the list, but not that much higher. And then you've got, well, it's relatively higher, and then you've got Bed of Chaos at the end. So this whole area is just an absolute stinker for bosses. Magma Worm Makar is next, another fire-themed boss, and the next one is actually a fire-themed boss as well. It's like I'm on a theme here. But Magma Worm Makar is just a really poor boss. I mean, I consider it a main boss because I looked up online, like, what people consider main bosses, and this was one, even though it's completely optional. And you can fight multiple of these type of enemies, kind of like a few others that I'll mention on the list up and coming. There's a few of them, like, in the open world, in, like, certain dungeons and whatever. But Magma Worm Makar is, like, seen as, like, the main one of the bunch. It's not an awful fight. It's just the moveset isn't particularly interesting. He's got very few moves. None of them are good. His lava that he puts all over the floor is fine. It's not, like, bad. His runback's also relatively, well, I say relatively good. It is perfect. It's very, very short. So it's pretty much at his door. So, but yeah, like, I don't really know what to say about Magma Worm Makar. He's just plain boring. He's not extremely horrific. I can't sit here and roast him, but he's just, like, nothing. And the crazy thing is, the next boss on the list, all fire-themed, by the way, and speaking of coinkydinks, the Magma Worm Makar and Demon Fire Sage, the last two, if you combined them together, you would actually get the next boss, which is Lawrence, the First Vicar, which I think some people will be shocked about, because I think Lawrence gets a lot more praise than he deserves, because he's ass, in my opinion. But Lawrence is a reskin of Cleric Beast, which is the tutorial boss, well, basically the tutorial boss. He's optional, but he is the first boss everyone will fight in Bloodborne. But not only is he a reskin, but just on fire, which is Demon Fire Sage. In his second phase, he also leaves around lava everywhere, which is Magma Worm Makar. He did come out before Magma Worm Makar, obviously, but he's like a baby of them two. I've just realised that, and I put them all three there. I swear to God, genuinely, I did not do that on purpose. That's just a massive coinkydink, but I'll take it. It actually makes this list more interesting. And I must have put them there for a reason, right? The fact that all three of them are there in the list. But yeah, Lawrence the First Vicar, he's the only optional DLC boss, which is nice, because it means I can avoid him every single time I play the DLC, my favourite DLC in any Souls game. I also think his movesets, like, it's the first phase, for the most part, I think there's one or two extra moves, but for the most part, it's the same as, it might even be entirely the same as Cleric Beast. It's just Cleric Beast, but he hits harder, and some of his moves, when he hits the ground, when he pulls back, it has like an AoE explosion of fire, which is like, it's whatever, it's fine, it's not a big deal. In fact, maybe it's kind of cool to dodge, I guess. I don't know. I think it's fine. It's relatively easy to dodge. And the second phase sees him like crawling around, like he gets split in half and he crawls around and stuff. And I actually I like the second phase a lot more, but it's kind of like Magma Worm Makar, not in terms of the lava everywhere, although that too, but in terms of he's just uninteresting to fight. Like, his moveset's not horrific, it's just not fun. And I think the boss hits far too hard. He's got far too much health for just an absolute this goober. And Lawrence, I like Lawrence's lore, but like his lore, his build up, all this sort of stuff, and you get this. I don't think this is like the true form of Lawrence. Because this is in like the Hunter's Nightmare. If you know anything about Bloodborne, I think it's just a variation of him, or like what the dream version of him. I don't think it's actually him himself. I think, although I could be wrong, because you can see his skull in the main game, so I don't think it's actually Lawrence exactly. But even being called Lawrence is just offensive to me. The best part about this boss easily is the banging soundtrack. It's in Latin. The Latin's wrong, but it's still an absolute smacking beat. That being said, smacking beat, is that even a thing? Anyway, yeah, Lawrence I just do not like fighting, and it's cool that those three fire bosses are all there on the list. Next on the list I have... God, I'm speaking quite fast, by the way, I do apologise. But next on the list I have Four Kings. Very briefly, I'm going to speak about these guys, because they're just kind of like Magma and Makar and Lawrence, where they're just... Their moveset isn't horrific, it's just boring. Their arena is awful, it's just black, which I know it's meant to be, but doesn't make it not shit. The design of these guys I don't find interesting. You need a ring to be able to fight them, so you take up a ring slot. I don't know if you need it for the entire fight. I believe you do, but I can't remember. I'm trying to remember, because these guys are so forgettable. They're just so bad, and they're not optional. You have to fight them to beat the game. They're also in the worst area, probably in Dark Souls. Well, is it the worst area? Probably not the worst area. Lost Izalith's definitely probably the worst area, but it's a pretty crap area. What is it? Is it New Londo? I believe it's called the New Londo Ruins. It's just super poor. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just Lost King. Four Kings are just Lost Kings. I even got the name wrong. Lost Kings. I just said it again. Four Kings are they're just bad. Next up on the list, I'm going through a lot of Bloodborne bosses here. We've got Living Failures. Living Failures are, well, I mean, they are living failures. They're also like Lawrence, where they're a crap boss with an absolutely slapping tune. I don't know what Bloodborne's got with giving crap bosses absolute bangers, but they do give good bosses bangers, so yeah, they make up for it, I suppose. That being said, I always cheese these guys. I don't know if I cheese them in my gameplay, where you just kill one, it respawns, kill it, respawns, and you just do that over and over again until they die. They've got one move where like space comes and meteors come down. It's a cooler space move than anything that Estelle has, I think. But I've already told you my opinions on space, but that's not why they're so low. They're just bad. It's just a bunch of guys that share a health bar. They don't look as goofy as the next one on the list. That's why I put them higher. Yeah, overall they're just... Yeah, their run back's not as bad as Lawrence. I don't know. I find them better than Lawrence in every way, but they're still not good. And after this fight, at the very least, you have... Literally right after this fight, you have a really good boss. Thus, like, at least when you're fighting them, you've got something to look forward to, so you've got some sort of joy. Yeah. And they're far easier than Lawrence as well, so they're less annoying to get through, but they have got far too much health. And I kind of alluded to it while talking about Living Failures, but next on the list I've got Celestial Emissary. There's a few reasons I put these above Living Failures. 1, the run back's far better. 2, they look far goofier and far funnier and far more just gooberish, which I like. 3, their sound design is also goofy. I mean, maybe I'll just play a snippet of sound of the game. 4, you've probably seen the gameplay, you can take them out in actual seconds. It's like it's close to Pinwheel. I don't think it is Pinwheel levels of quick, but it is very quick. Give it like 15-20 seconds, I probably killed this boss. Maybe slightly longer, but... And, yeah, that's the only reasons I really put it above Living Failures. The only thing I like more about Living Failures, well, 2 things. 1, the boss after Living Failures is better than the boss after Celestial Emissary. But, you know, that's not really the boss itself, that's more just what you're excited for afterwards. But, I mean, maybe I'll take that into account. And also, Living Failures has a better song, like OST. But OST, although I'm taking everything into account, like lore, gameplay, everything, OST is towards the bottom of the list of what's important when making a boss, right? It's important, but not as important as, like, fun, I suppose, right? Next on the list, we have an absolute heater, I think, because people who watch this, maybe there'll be 5 people who watch this, maybe there'll be 100,000, and this will be an extremely popular video. But however many people watch this, which it definitely won't be that many, will probably disagree. I don't think there'll be a single person that agrees with me here. I hope there is, but I don't think there will be. Morgott the Omen King is next on the list from Elden Ring. Now, I don't know, this is not defending my case at all, I don't really know what I dislike about this boss, aside from his awful delayed attacks. There's some certain bosses higher up on this that have delayed attacks. In Elden Ring, every boss has a delayed attack. That being said, they're not as annoying as this. These delayed attacks, they're just so annoying. Like, it's not fun to dodge, it's not fun to time, the tells aren't very telly. Well, they are, it's just I don't want to learn them. But, and his second phase transition is no better. If anything, it's just the exact same shit. His other version, Margit, which is the tutorial boss, is a lot higher up on this list. I have included him in the list. The arena you fight this boss in is okay, I suppose, but there's a better boss that you fight in the same arena later on, so you might as well just count the arena for both of them, obviously, which the other one's a lot better, so it's like you'd still get to fight in the arena regardless. I like Morgott's lore, I suppose. That's something I would say. I also really like his boss weapon, which I use in Elden Ring, actually. You'll see in the whole DLC, I believe. But and then when I fight like Malenia and certain bosses like that, which I did before the DLC, I believe I fought them with his weapon, his boss weapon, which I really do like. I don't think it's like OP or anything, but it's good. I just like it personally. It's just cool. But the fact that that's one of the compliments I'm giving him, I like his boss weapon. It shows you how much I just have nothing to say about this boss. But yeah, honestly, it's his delayed attacks mainly, and I just feel like his attacks aren't as fun as his predecessor or his other version, Margit. I feel like they're not as fun to dodge. They're not as well designed in my eyes. I don't like Morgott, and I'm struggling to find the words for it. I'm stuttering a lot, which doesn't help my case. You're like, well, you're just putting Morgott here for rage bait. No, if I was doing rage bait, I would put Malenia here, right? That's not the case. I'm not doing it for rage bait. Every time I fight Morgott, I just hate it. And if I die to Morgott once, I actually start to like clench my fists in anger. I just want to get him over and done with. But I can at least admit he's not as bad as like High Lord Walnir or like Metir Mother of Fingers. That's why he's a lot higher than them. But still, I don't like Morgott. Now, after that Yapaholic session in which I said so much, but really said so little, I'm going to try to be a bit more brief with a lot of these bosses. Curse Rotted Greatwood, basically a gimmick boss. An optional boss, which is technically mandatory because, like, it is a mandatory boss. Like, it's technically not mandatory. It's technically optional. That's what I meant. However, because you have to beat this boss to get boss weapons, it's really, or like boss spells or whatever. It is not optional. It's mandatory. But it's a very easy boss, I suppose. I mean, it's not the easiest in Dark Souls 3, but it's easy enough. I don't hate the gimmick of hitting the pus-filled sacks. That's a thing I never want to say again. That being said, hitting his balls is not enjoyable, and dodging him. He also has ads which are annoying, and you can't get rid of them all before the first phase begins. That being said, if you get to his second phase quickly, once he gets to his second phase, he breaks the ground beneath him, and the ads all die. So, like, from fall damage, I don't know how... You're just a tank, I guess. I mean, you do take on, like, gods and stuff, so I suppose it's expected. But, you know, it's not offensively awful. It's just, you know, putting this guy above Morgott is going to have some people seething. Anyway, next on the list, I have Old Monk's Compatriot, in terms of it's the only other boss that is, like, an online boss, although I'm counting the offline version of this boss. We have Half-Light, Spear of the Church. Pretty poo boss, simply because it's just an invader, really. Kind of like Old Monk. He is harder than Old Monk, but not by much. I mean, the only major thing I dislike about this boss, I mean, besides the fact that just before you fight this version of the boss, there's like a guy you've got to take out, and then the boss fight starts, and if you die, you've got to take him out again. And he's quite easy to take out, and he's not difficult, but it's just like, it's a bit like eye-rolling, I suppose. He's not like super interesting. Although it can be done very quickly. But yeah, this guy, he has an ad that shows up just before he does. But you can take it out with like a backstab and a few attacks or whatever quite quickly, that's whatever. But halfway through the fight, I think it's called is it a Painted Guardian or something? But halfway through the fight, another one spawns in, and you've got to take it out. Because it's quite aggressive. And two, if you leave it for long enough, it will start to heal the Half-Light Spear of the Church, like the main boss. Thus, you know, you want to take it out, really. Half-Light Spear of the Church is just a normal invader who's got a few cool moves. He's using the Uchi Katana, I believe, or he's using some sort of katana. He's a lot more interesting than Old Monk, but he's still not, like, to fight, but he's still not good. He's just, you know, inoffensively poor, I would describe him as. Next on the list, I have Flexile Sentry, the most nothing boss probably on this entire list. It's literally just a reskin of an enemy, which isn't, you know, unique, especially to Dark Souls 2, where we've got, like, Ruined Sentinels, which I mentioned earlier. That being said, this boss is, like, the only boss in this whole area. It's like a pirate ship kind of area, which I kind of like. I've not seen that in another Souls game since, and I kind of like that vibe. That being said, this whole area just to do this one boss, which is it optional? I'm not even sure if it's an optional boss, but I think it is, but I mean, I could be mistaken there. But whether it's optional or not, I played it for this playthrough, obviously. It's just an awful boss. It's as a normal enemy, it's not particularly great. As a boss, it's even worse. That being said, one thing that puts this boss above a few of these bosses, well, there's two things. One, if you level up normally while playing the game, it's going to be quite easy and quite easy to just quickly get through. I purposely leave this level a bit later to make it even easier. I'll like 4-shot the boss, 5-shot the boss. You'll probably see in the gameplay. But also, if you are underleveled for this boss and you don't kill the boss within like 30 seconds, if that, the water starts to rise. And although I've never seen it because, well, not on my own gameplay, I've seen it happen to somebody, because I'll kill the boss too quickly. It's kind of cool. The water starts to rise, and I believe it might affect your ability to roll, and if it gets too high, you might drown, although I'm not sure if it can get that high. I'm unsure. But I feel like that's a quite unique feature, that the arena changes the longer you wait for the boss, or the longer you fight the boss. I just think it's kind of cool, and that's why I've put it above a few of these. But in the end, it's just an enemy, which isn't a good enemy, really, to begin with. I like it more than Ruined Sentinels. I don't like the enemy itself more than a Ruined Sentinel enemy, but the boss fight itself, I think, is a better boss fight. Next on the list, we have Dark Souls 1's Taurus Demon, who is it's a really early boss that's just really poor. It's on a bridge and it's a big boss, which I'm sure you could make work, but it's kind of like man-eaters in the sense that you'll just get knocked off, and instead of being like, oh, that was just my skill issue, it's just more annoying, I want to punch my desk if you die to them, which I actually do think I died to Taurus Demon once, which is crazy, by the way. That is mad. Taurus Demon also isn't super cool design-wise. Like, it's like so bland and boring. It's not like really cool looking, it's not really bad looking, it's just like I'd almost rather a boss be awful looking, because at the very least it'll be memorable. Taurus Demon also has like a bit of a cheese. It's not really cheese, because you don't like insta-kill it, but like Ceaseless Discharge or Ancient Wyvern, but where you can like drop down and attack them, which we'll probably see in my gameplay, and take off a lot of health. But if you're playing the game normally and you're not doing like a challenge, like a level 1 challenge, this boss isn't too hard. And even with a level 1 challenge, it's probably one of the easier bosses in the game as well. But yeah, Taurus Demon's just a big stinker, I suppose. Next on the list, I have Dragonkin Soldier of Noxtella. There's a lot of Dragonkin soldiers throughout the game, but this is the only one that I would consider main. I mean, well, to be fair, I don't think I would, but I looked online for, like, what bosses in Elden Ring would be considered main bosses to, like, before I played the game, to, like, discuss with myself, or, like, which ones I would count for the list, because I wanted to have a comprehensive list before I played the game. I didn't want to, like, while playing the game, kind of, like, flip-flop, right? And Dragonkin Soldier was one that a few people did count, a few websites, I should say, counted as, like, a main boss. On a tier list maker, it was also counted as a main boss. Thus, I counted it as a main boss. And it does feel the most main of the Dragonkin soldiers, maybe, I suppose. I killed it really quickly, so I don't know why I'm yapping. The gameplay's probably already over. But I'll just replay it, I'll repeat it. I was very overleveled for this boss, because I forgot it even existed while I was playing the game. But, yeah, the moveset of Dragonkin soldiers aren't particularly great. This one's no exception. I like the arena you fight this guy in. I think it's kind of cool. There's, like, a big statue of a skull sitting down. Like, I don't know, I can't remember what it is exactly, but it looks really cool. I say a skull, a skeleton is what I meant. Next on the list, I have Demon of Song from Dark Souls 2. I think this guy gets maybe a bit too many flames. I know people really dislike this boss. I think it's better than a lot above this list, but well, obviously that's why I've put him here. But yeah, he is still a stinker. Demon of Song, first off, I will say the runback's okay for this guy. So for Dark Souls 2 standards, I need to point that out, because all the runbacks in Dark Souls 2 are ass. So considering Dark Souls 2's runback, this guy's is actually pretty solid. That being said, the boss itself, the whole gimmick is... Oh, and I should actually mention before I get into the boss that the area, that kind of like Leechmonger, the area this guy's in is possibly the worst in the entire game. It's a slog to get through. It's so annoying. Even if you know how to get through it quick, it's still just an ass area. But Demon of Song's whole gimmick is you can't damage him until he attacks, and then once he's finished attacking, you've got a small window where his head's open. I mean, I was going to say he looks like human male genitals. It's kind of what it reminds me of, but maybe that's a bit vulgar. But, yeah, his attacks are just really boring. Kind of like Taurus Demon and Dragonkin Soldier. Maybe Flexile Sentry as well. There's kind of a theme here, where his attacks are just quite boring. They're not enjoyable to fight, but he's not, like, rage-inducingly bad. Although if I do die to him, I might grit my teeth a little bit. I just find it more fun than the others that I just mentioned, simply due to the fact that I feel like his attacks are more fair. Like, they're more... like, the tells are more, like, obvious. Like if he's going to swing for an attack, it's more obvious that he's going to swing for an attack. And if you've fought him at least once before, like, let's say you've just died to him, you'll know, he's far quicker to get used to, I think. And for bosses that aren't particularly great, I give credit for that. I also don't mind his arena. I wish he uses his frog-like visuals a bit more. I don't think he really uses them, if at all. I think he might jump for one attack. I could be misremembering. But it'd be cool if he used that a bit more, but he doesn't. Although, to be fair, if he was constantly hopping away, maybe that'd be annoying. But yeah, Demon of Song is here on the list. Next on the list, I have Golden Hippopotamus, it is called Golden Hippopotamus, but it's like a rhino / hippo / porcupine in the second phase. Really peculiar specimen. But yeah, Golden Hippo is kind of like Dragonkin Soldier, where it's an Elden Ring open world boss. This is for DLC specific, however. But the open world ones only have a first phase. This one has a second phase, and probably more health, although I could be wrong. The first phase of the boss I actually prefer, because I felt like the attacks are more obvious, and it's just less annoying to fight. The porcupine version is just a bit more frustrating, but it's not bad by any means. I just find Golden Hippo to be a big... I mean, I'm going to say this to probably a lot of these bosses, but I just find Golden Hippo, like, nothing. Like, he's not a boss. Like, if someone said, what's your opinion on Golden Hippo? I'll just shrug my shoulders. Like, he's whatever. Elmer of the Briar is in a completely optional area, quite far away from anything else. Like, down this, like, hill. It's like a castle, but it's like a castle in, like, the Grand Canyon. Like, it's just kind of closed off from both sides. There's only one way in, one way out. Elmer of the Briar, I just don't like the moveset. Like he has... It seems cool, and I think you can actually get his weapon and use his moveset. Which, well, not his entire moveset, but I think that's cool. His weapon is like... It's like, you'll see it. It's like... I don't even know what you'd call it. Is it like gravity? Like telekinesis, maybe? But it's like some sort of telekinesis, and he gets out his sword and he flings... And it's cool looking. It's just to dodge, it's not fun. I don't think the moves are done well. They come out too fast, I think, for someone who's not even that difficult to begin with. I feel like I don't know. I just find the guy... It's kind of like Morgott, where I don't really know the exact reasons why I dislike the guy. I just don't like to fight him. I find him really boring. Every single one of his moves, there's not a single move he has. Like, I think it looks cool, but there's not a single move he has, which I think is good. So yeah, I just find him really poor. Next on the list, I have Old Hero from Demon Souls. Now, I'm taking into account that Demon Souls is the first game, so I'm giving Demon Souls bosses, like, some slack, which is why some of them are probably higher than you think they should be, because Elden Ring's had loads of bosses to get better. Like, they've had loads of time to get better, whereas Demon Souls was literally the first. So I'm taking that into account. But also, old Hero just looks cool. He looks really, really cool. My issue with old Hero is, one, if you've got the thief ring, he is actually just not even a boss. It's actually just 5 minutes of wasted time, which I always use, because why would you not make the use of the thief ring once you know about it? Which is very easy to get. In fact, if you've not got the thief ring in the game, you're probably doing something wrong. Or, like, speed running and just running past everything. Not only does that make it really easy, but if you fight this guy normally and die to him, which, oof, God forbid, because the run back is absolutely abhorrent. Now, I know I'm taking into account Demon Souls, I just said, but I can't forgive that run back. It is absolute cock. It is so unbelievably awful. It is beyond words. Now, is it Lud and Zelen awful? I mean, it's up there, I said Lud and Zelen have the worst boss run back, and they do. This guy's not far off, this run back is... But at least this guy is a lot easier, and if you have the thief ring, he's actually just not even a boss, so he has that. But the reason he's quite high, I'm taking into account Demon Souls, and he looks cool. Coming up next, we have Giant Lord from Dark Souls 2. He's just a giant lord. He stomps a few times, swings a few times. Relatively boring boss next. Osiris, the Consumed King, is up next, and he's just... one attack he's got. One attack, which everybody knows, and you know what it is. It's the... he has like 2... dash attacks, right? I think, at least, like 2 charge attacks. One of them comes out of absolute nowhere with no tell. The only reason I don't think I got hit by it in this gameplay, although I might have, and I might just be misremembering, is simply due to the fact that the strategy with this boss, and a lot of bosses, to be fair, is just go behind him. If you just go behind him, or go inside of him, at least in his second phase, he can't hit you, right? His first phase, I would say, is better, but it's really boring. So you've got like a... His first phase is boring. His second phase is overall better, besides one attack, which is like the worst attack in any Souls game I've ever seen. It's actually just straight up bullshit. So I don't know which phase I actually like more. I don't mind his, like, voice acting, I suppose. He talks to you. He also, like, absolutely smacks up his invisible baby, which is a crazy sentence to utter, I suppose. But, I don't really know the lore too much of him. He's a consumed king. I don't know what he was the king of. I really don't know his lore that much, I'll be honest. But yeah, Osiris... I mean, mainly because of that ass attack, but even without that ass attack, and he's got a shit run back. So, kind of like old Hero, Is it as bad? No, but it's not particularly great. Leone Misbegotten, I hope I pronounced that right, is next on the list. The boss of, I believe, Castle Morn, which is one of the better castles in the game. I think he's absolutely fine. I mean, I think I forgot about this boss again. I think I actually fought Radahn and Moog and beat them before I fought this guy, although I might be mistaken there. I know I definitely fought Radahn before fighting this guy. I don't know if I did Moog before him, but basically what I'm trying to say is this guy I fought extremely late, so I like free shot him. So before you're saying, your build's super OP, no, I just forgot he existed, right? And he's a very early game boss, and he is optional if you couldn't tell. That being said, it does suck that you can so easily, like even if you're normal level, you still do an extreme amount of damage. He's very fast though, maybe that's like to compensate for that. But his moveset's not particularly great. I say this for a lot of these bosses, that the moveset's not particularly interesting, but that's why they're this low. What else do you want me to say? He's also another boss, Elden Ring, it's Elden Ring, what do you expect? But it's also another boss that appears loads in the game, but this is like the main version of this boss, I suppose. I don't mind the arena you fight him in. The run back's fine. I mean, I think that's a Stake of America, actually, although correct me if I'm wrong. I've never died to this boss, so even if I fight this boss on normal thing, I say normally, you fight it whenever you want, but like if I'm a bit more lower leveled and a bit less of a higher leveled weapon, if I'm not free shotting the boss, I still don't think I've ever died to this boss. I've only fought him like 3 or 4 times ever, but yeah, I'd say this boss is like mediocre. We're getting into the tiers now of like bosses that are meh. Like they're not awful, they're just meh. They're like a shrug your shoulder type of boss. So next on the list we have Iron Golem, which before you start singing Revenge by Captain Sparkles, I just want to point out that Iron Golem in Dark Souls 1 was before Iron Golem in Minecraft by a few years, I think, but I know it was definitely before. So, put away your pitchforks. I can't believe they copied Minecraft. No, Minecraft copied these guys. These are the OG. My guys. Iron Golem is still not a good boss, though. And, I mean, it's kind of funny that you can, I don't know if I did in my gameplay, you can knock him off if you keep hitting him. He can actually fall off. I mean, it's a lot better of a small area big boss fight than Taurus Demon, which they're both in the same game. And his run back is, for Dark Souls 1 standards, very lenient. That being said, he's still not particularly great. And the area to get to him is also quite crap. Is this the guy? I think this guy you fight and then you get to Anor Londo, which is one of the better parts of the game, if not the best part of the game. So there's also that to look forward to. But yeah, Iron Golem also, although he's very bare bones, he's extremely easy, even on low levels, to take out. Thus, he's kind of like Pinwheel, not to the same extent, where you can just quickly get past him and then move on. So he's not in your way, really. It's almost like he doesn't exist, but I'd rather that than an aggravating boss, right? Next on the list, we have Looking Glass Knight. Looking Glass Knight is kind of like Velstadt, a lot better in my opinion, but kind of like him, where he just suffers from Dark Souls 2's lack of moves, in my opinion. The reason this guy's a lot higher is, 1, I love the rain, if you couldn't tell by my YouTube channel name. 2, I love the rain. And 3, I just love the rain, so that's why he's higher. He can summon an ad, but your chances of seeing the ad are very slim, because you'll take him out way before that. But even if you do see the ad is like really laid back. It's almost like he wants you to kill his daddy, which, to be fair, that's a crazy sentence, but to be fair, I probably like that than the other way around. I actually don't mind this guy's design as well. I think it's kind of cool. He has like a mirror shield, and like the ads he summons, or I know he summons at least one, he might summon more, I don't know, come out of that glass thing, which is something that happens earlier on in the game as well, which I think is kind of cool. The glass of the mirror. But yeah, overall, like, the boss has everything going for it, besides the moveset, which is like the most important thing for the boss. And I can't remember the soundtrack, to be fair. The runback's fine. Next on the list, we have the Rotten, another Dark Souls 2 boss. The next one is also Dark Souls 2, so we've got a bit of a theme going on here as well. The Rotten, the runback's just crap. Like, it's very short, but it's just like there's a bunch of stuff shooting at you for no reason or whatever. But the Rotten, it sounds really weird, but I prefer the moveset more than Looking Glass Knight and all the other Dark Souls 2 bosses before it. It just seems less, like, boring, like, less, like, there's more to it, even though there's not much to it at all. But the guy is hideous. He's like Leechmonger, but looks worse. But to be fair, I really don't know why I put the Rotten this high. I really don't. The more I'm thinking about this list now, I'm like, why is the Rotten so much higher than Leechmonger? Like, they're very similar. The Rotten is a far less annoying area. Like, the area that Rotten is in, which people might disagree with this, because I know people hate this area in Dark Souls 2, and so do I, that the Rotten's in. It is an ass area. But the area that the Rotten's in, I actually like more than Leechmonger, which is crazy, because the Rotten's in probably the worst area in Dark Souls 2. One of, like, 2. Demon of Songs area is also ass. I think I like the Rotten's at least. To be fair, though, with the Rotten's area, if you know where to go, which I do, it's not that difficult. Not that annoying. Saying that, the fact that I'm talking about the area and I've barely mentioned the boss shows you how... Like, I don't know why this boss is so high. Let's just move on. Next, I've got Executioner's Chariot from the same game. It's a gimmick boss for the first phase, in the sense that the boss is running around in a circle. I say first phase, it is a phase change, it's just that there's no health that goes down, I don't think, but where you, like, have to get these, like, ignore these ads and stuff, or kill them or whatever, although I don't know if you kill skeletons, and then you pull a lever, the chariot, like, comes to a crash. It's going around in a circle, you can get hit by it. There's also a hole in the floor you've got to be careful for, I suppose, but you pull this, you make it crash, and then you fight the horse, which is the chariot boss, I suppose, and then it's over. And that horse boss shows up once again later on in the game as, like, a normal enemy, like a normal mini boss, but it's not everywhere like an Elden Ring boss is. So I just think it's super inoffensive. Like, as far as gimmick bosses go, and it's only the first phase it's a gimmick boss, it's fine. Like, it's it's not very good, but I don't hate it, and I may fight this guy. I think this guy might be optional. Actually, is he optional? I can't even remember. Next on the list, we have Fool's Idol, which is a Demon Souls boss I'm not going to mention. Well, I am going to mention, because I'm mentioning it. The awful runback for Fool's Idol. That being said, Fool's Idol is the best boss. It's in the area with man-eaters and Old Monk, so it is by far the best boss in this location. Still absolute poo, though. And the whole gimmick with this boss is it, like, teleports, and when you hit it enough, kind of like ROM, but it also, instead of ads, well, it does have ads, so it's not even instead of ads, but instead of, like, the summoning of ads, which it kind of does, in a way as well, it summons multiple versions of itself, and only one of them's the real version, but I believe if you lock onto them, only the real one doesn't have a health bar above them, because they have the boss health bar, so it's very easy to figure it out. It's just a very poor fight, but as far as Demon Souls fights go, it's one of the more intriguing ones, I suppose, but also it's just... I think this fight's better than Executioner's Chariot, right? But it's not much I can say about this. This literally, it's a mage. Like, cool, it's here. Coming up next on the list, we have One Reborn from Bloodborne. Now, there's loads of, like, witches with bells all along the sides. You take them out, otherwise they'll fire magic at you through the fight, which is just annoying. I think they might actually be able to heal the boss as well, but I could be mistaken there, because I've never let them live. However, after you've taken them out, you go to the boss, and you hit its middle part, it'll collapse, and then if your weapon's got enough damage, which mine did, because I'm goated, I was playing the game normally, but I know the location of like all the upgrades and all whatever. If you just keep hitting its like appendages, like its legs on each side, and then its like main bit of its body or whatever, it will just completely stagger, and then you will kill it like without it even attacking you. If you fight the boss, I say quote unquote normally, this is a normal way to fight the boss. It can be staggered like that for a reason. But if you fight it like not doing this, it's far more annoying. But I kind of like the design. The intro cutscene to this boss is kind of cool. The design, I mean, it's not that good, but it's like it's like Meta Mother of Fingers is how I think of it, but just far better. And yeah, that's really it. Like it's another boss where I'm just not particularly fond of, but it's also just fine. It's whatever. I think the fact that I do know a strategy to defeat it really quickly obviously elevates the boss very high. Next on the list, I have Prowling Magus and Congregation, which some people probably don't even know existed. You might have played Dark Souls 2 like 5 times and forgot this guy even exists. Surprise, surprise, who would have thought that at the bottom of the list there's a lot of fights where there's ads? Crazy. But yeah, there's the Congregation, which is like all the people, and then there's Prowling Magus, which is like the main Don in the middle. There's these 2 like ladies in white, I believe, which are the most annoying parts of the fight. They're still not that annoying, you can get them done quite easily. The other guys you might as well just ignore to the end, like the zombie guys. Prowling Magus is very easy as well. It's just kind of like Pinwheel, but better, where you can just quickly steamroll through them. That's a lot of these bosses. I've mentioned that to like 4 or 5 bosses, but it's true. It's just not... If these bosses were extremely difficult, they would be F tier. But because they're not, I feel like they're not offensive to me, right? Next on the list, I have Throne Watcher and Throne Defender. One of 3 final bosses in Dark Souls 2. This is the first one. Then the second one is Nasandra that I talked about earlier. Then the third one is one that's actually coming up relatively soon on the list. But yeah, for a final boss like Nasandra, it's just super disappointing, and so is the other one. To be fair, the third one, which I will mention soon. But, I mean, it's like, I can't really remember them that well. That's how bad they are. They're that forgettable. The guy is kind of like Velstadt, I think, and the woman isn't. I guess I don't know. It's a really nothing fight. It's just a nothing fight. I really don't know what to say about this fight. They're meant to be the Throne Watcher and Defender of the throne, I guess. I mean, what is there to say about this fight? Somebody fight these guys and or I'll put in the comments what you like or dislike about this fight, because I literally can't think of anything. It's just crap. Coming up next, I have Smelter Demon. Now, there's 2 versions of Smelter Demon, which I'm ranking. The other one, because I'm doing all Dark Souls 2 bosses, the other one is quite a bit higher, and I like quite a bit more. Because it's got a more extensive moveset than this guy, which it's just another Smelter Demon that's better, which you'll know if you've played Dark Souls 2. This version of Smelter Demon, which is like the main version, the main game, not the DLC version, it's notorious, I think, how shit this run back is, and how awful this area is to get to the boss. I mean, not the whole area as a whole, but just... Well, no, it's the whole area as a whole. I don't know what I'm chatting about. Well, it's like the first part of the area, but the area is very small. It's just like a very small castle. On fire, kind of like Bowser's castle, I suppose. But Smelter Demon is just like, it's got a fine moveset once you actually fight the boss. I think the actual boss itself is fine. For Dark Souls 2 standards, it's fine. Like, yes, it's not got an extensive moveset. I didn't like that about Velstadt or whatever. Prowling Magus and Congregation, Throne Watcher and Defender are probably the same in terms of their limited moveset, but that's just a Dark Souls 2 standard, and an early game standard. To be fair, Dark Souls 1 will be similar and stuff. Some of the Dark Souls 1, some of my favourite bosses only have like 4 or 5 moves they spam. I say only 4 or 5 if that's no moves, but you know what I mean. So I'm not going to put that too much against Smelter Demon, because its moves are a lot better than Velstadt's to dodge and stuff. I also think the design of this guy's pretty cool. I remember watching an old Penguin Z0 video where it was called Stink Souls, and I think he was wearing the Smelter Demon thing. So that's just a cool memory. But in general, the boss is just like whatever. The thing that knocks this boss down lower, like it would be a lot higher. I say a lot higher. It'd be like maybe 10, 15 places. It wouldn't be like far higher. The thing that makes this is just the run back. It's just awful. The boss isn't super hard, but I died more. I mean, I think I beat the boss first try, but whether I did or not, I think I beat it first try. But I died to the people outside more than the boss. Even if I died to the boss like 3 or 4, I think I died outside of the boss like 5, 6 times. It's just notoriously ass. Next on the list, we have King Allant. Now, this is just King Allant, not old King Allant, which I'll talk about later. But you might be thinking, this is not even really a boss fight. Like, look at the guy. He's just a slug that can't attack you. The reason he's so high, let me just give my reasons. One, as I said with Old Hero, I'm taking into account that Demon's Souls was the first game, so they didn't have anything to reference. Two, I like the lore. I think lore-wise this makes sense. And 3, I would still rather fight King Allant than I would, like, Curse-Rotted Greatwood. As shit as King Allant is, he's at least, like, very, like, non-offensive. Like, he makes sense for the final boss of the game. You just quickly get through him. I would have liked another boss after this. Like, you could have had him, and then, like, right after this, you could have had another boss. The fact that this is literally the final boss is a bit stupid in my eyes. That being said, taking all that into account, I actually put him here on the list. I know I might get crucified for that one. That's if anyone watches this. Could get 5 views, who knows. But, you know, I would rather fight King Allant than Smelter Demon because I don't like Smelter Demon's run back, okay? Quote me on that. Next on the list, I have Mikolash, Host of the Nightmare. Mikolash is a tag boss where you just chase him, then he'll go into a room. You can cheese him by walking out the room because he summons ads in his first phase, and you can cheese it by just walking out the room, which I always do, which you'll see in the gameplay, and then the ads won't spawn, so you're just dodging one attack. He's extremely easy, even if you're low leveled. I did him on Blood level 4. First try, like he's easy. That being said, the second phase, so after you've got him to half health, second phase comes in, you go to another area, and you also start chasing him, but this time you can like teleport through mirrors, but if you know where to go, like I do, it's extremely quick. You can also cheese him in this phase by like throwing a knife at him, and then like basically killing him for free behind like this crate. Like if you look up like Mikolash glitch or something, it'll probably come up. But there's a few ways to cheese him. You can also dive off somewhere and hit him. He's got quite a few cheese, but in this fight, I fought his second phase normally because I thought I wanted gameplay of him. If I just did the cheese for both phases, it would be not much gameplay. So I fought him normally for the second phase. He's got this like insta-kill attack. What is it called? It's called like the Call from Beyond, I think it's called, which is just annoying. It's I mean, I've learned how to dodge it over time, so it's not as bad, but it's not a particularly great fact. But with Mikolash, if you're just very aggressive to him, he'll never use it. And every time he looks like he's about to use it, if you shoot him quick enough, he also will stop using it. If you shoot him too late, he will end up using it. He's also got Augur of Ebrietas, which is like the tentacles you see, which, I mean, if you're leveling up normally, will probably not insta-kill you. But it depends what you're leveling up. I suppose if you're putting nothing into health, then maybe. But, you know, he's not a great fight, but I really like Mikolash. I like the lore. I love his voice actor. Like, some say Kos, others Cosm. That was terrible. If I just said some say Kos, others say Cosm in my own voice, I probably sound more like Mikolash, because I think he is British. So I probably sound more like him just talking normally. I doubt it. But that being said, and I love the drip he has. He's fully dripped out to the nines. He looks sick. That being said, the fight itself is not particularly great, and if you do die to him, which isn't unthinkable in the second phase at least, it is a bit of like I have to do this again. You know, and he is a little tanky. He's not super tanky, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, in general, he's probably one of my favourite characters in the game, but his boss fight is very lackluster. Coming up next on the list, we have Stray Demon, which is kind of like Demon Fire Sage in the fact that it's, I believe, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a Asylum Demon reskin. This one's better because it's just in a less... It's got a far better run back, pretty much an instant run back, and it's in a far less annoying area of the game. That's why it's so much higher. Like, that's really it. I know there's a huge gap between these two bosses, but that's showing you how poor I think of the other bosses below Stray Demon. There's that bigger gap between these two. But yeah, Stray Demon's nothing to write home about, but he's just super... I'd say he's inoffensive. He is better. He does have that terrible, like, red attack, which is like a red aura that will hit you for a bunch of damage, which I don't particularly like, but, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Next on the list, I have Elena, Squalid Queen, and she's a DLC boss. She's fine. I mean, you know, horribly, in my eyes, she spawns ads. One of those ads being skeletons, which we've already had the skeleton lords, whatever, but then the other ad is Velstadt, which, as I've mentioned his name a few times. I've probably said Velstadt more than anyone ever has ever, even people who nerd Dark Souls 2, because so forgettable, but she can summon him, and it's just like, oh, I mean, you'll probably see it in the gameplay. I'm assuming she did in my the fight I beat her. I think I died to her like a few times. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did. I know I died to her at least once, and it was always because of Velstadt when she spawned him in. Not because he's difficult, it's just I was trying to kill her and not focusing on him first, because I think I might have even in the gameplay I won, because he's just boring to fight. Like, she brings in an ad, and not only is it an ad, it's a terrible ad, a boring ad of an earlier boss, and it also makes that earlier boss even more, like, nothing. That being said, the boss moves itself, like when she actually attacks you herself, is fine. She reminds me a lot of Nassandra in terms of her design and the types of attacks, but she is better than Nassandra. And yeah, for Dark Souls 2 Sandra as well, her runback's pretty good. So yeah, in general, I think she's fine. To get to her in the DLC is a real painstaking task, though, and I do not... Actually, now that I think of it, her area in the DLC is the worst area in Dark Souls 2, in my opinion, I think. I just think it's so poorly done. If you like Legend of Zelda dungeons, which I do, I suppose you'd like it, but I don't think it suits... I don't think they do it well. So next on the list, we have Aldrich, Devourer of Gods. For a name like that, and for the lore of this guy, it's so underwhelming. He has an arrow attack, which I do not like. I know you can dodge it, it's not undodgeable, it's just a really poor attack. The boss, I mean, it's fair, it's not unfair, I just find its moveset to be really annoying to fight against. The design is okay, I suppose. I mean, it looks like Dark Sun Gwendolyn if they turned into a slug. I really don't know. It's just... Aldrich is just a bit disappointing, that's all. It's not an awful boss by any means, but it's just very disappointing, especially the Devourer of Gods, and somebody, if you know the lore of Aldrich, somebody devours gods, who would have thunk it? But yeah, it's just so disappointing. You also fight him in the room, I believe is it a guy? Whatever. You also fight them in the room you fight Ornstein and Smo, I'm pretty sure, which, spoiler alert, are a lot higher up in this list. It's just a disappointing boss overall, and I think it is the only boss in the Anor Londo area of Dark Souls 3? I believe so, but correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's just very disappointing. Next on the list I have Crystal Sage. Crystal Sage is a mage boss. It's one of the better mage bosses in Soulsborne games, which is saying something because it's still very low on this list. I find it absolutely fine. This is where we're getting into the bosses I actually think are okay now. These bosses are not terrible. Crystal Sage is very similar to Fool's Idol, actually, in the sense that it does, in its second phase at least, duplicates itself. But it is more fun to fight against. As I mentioned with a lot of these bosses, if they do have a good run back, it is a far better run back. It's not good, but it is better than Fool's Idol by a landslide. Crystal Sage is also just a bit better of a boss, I think. I think its attacks are a bit better. It's not technically really got ads. I mean, it's got its duplicate versions, which I suppose you could count as ads, but it's not got any skeletons, zombies, or whatever just roaming around. It's just a better Fool's Idol. Imagine Fool's Idol, but better. That's Crystal Sage, really. It's fine. And then next on the list, we probably have one that people are shocked is so high, I'm sure. We have, from Demon Souls, Phalanx, the first boss in the game. Well, the first, mandatory boss. There's technically a boss that is a tutorial boss, kind of, which I'll get into later when I talk about it. But this is the first, proper boss. But I don't mind this boss. I never fight this boss and dread fighting it. I'm just oh, okay, I'll fight Phalanx. That's fine. Even though it's, you look at the boss and you're how can this boss be this high on the list? I actually, I think if you play the boss, you fight the boss, you actually find it not that bad. It's not hard, it's not got an extensive moveset, it's not got any moveset really, but I just don't mind Phalanx. Now coming up next, I've got Twin Dragon Riders. It's a repeat boss, but with a friend, I suppose, and I'm actually going to talk about that repeat boss very soon, the original version of him, the OG. But yeah, Twin Dragon Riders, nothing really interesting. I'll just talk more about Dragon Rider in a moment, but yeah, the twin version just has a crossbow guy who has an extremely low amount of health, and he can't hit you. He has Stormtrooper aim, which I actually kind of like. But yeah, there's really nothing to say about these guys. And I feel the same way about Lost Sinner, who is also from Dark Souls 2, and is also just a very mediocre, nothing burger for me. I mean, I think I've said nothing burger about to 3 or 4 of these bosses, but I just feel like it's not a bad boss. I don't dislike fighting it, I don't dread fighting it, I don't think it's outright bad. But I can't remember a single part of the moveset every time I fight this guy, I just forget. And then next on the list, we actually have Dragon Rider, the OG himself, the original gangster, and he is, well, maybe I should say the OD, the original Dragon Rider, haha. But yeah, Dragon Rider is absolutely fine as a little tutorial boss, I suppose. Usually when I play Dark Souls 2, he is the first boss I will face. He's in fact, if not all the time, he's very easy, sure, but he's meant to be. Although I died to him in this playthrough more than I should let on. I think he might have taken me close to double digits, because I kept getting knocked off the edge, and I was playing Dark Souls 2 after Dark Souls 1, and I just wasn't used to it. That's my excuse. But yeah, he's inoffensive. There are better tutorial bosses, but he's whatever. Dragon Lord Placidusax is next, and this boss sucks to me because he looks so cool. His introduction, going to his arena. I mean, his run back's quite tedious, but that's for Elden Ring standards. If this was Dark Souls 2, I'd be praising the run back. But in general, his run back isn't abysmal. But then you get to the fight and you teleport to this arena and it looks so cool. Like, and he's just like floating up there, and then he has lightning and everything, and it's just, he looks cool. His attacks look cool. He has this like nuke attack, which is just like, wow. But the actual attacks themselves, I just don't think are fun to dodge. I feel like I don't particularly like fighting this guy because he's just a tank with summon moves that I find quite frustrating. I don't know, like he has some moves that I think are fine. He flies up in the air and he'll dive down to you, and you've got to like find where he is, but I think that's absolutely fine. It's not difficult to find it before he comes up. He also has a teleporting move, which another boss higher up the list has. It's very akin to that. I think it's absolutely fine, but it's like his nuke move. I think his nuke move is really cool, by the way. This is a well-known fact, but when he does his like nuke move, I keep saying nuke move, but it's just like a big explosion. Like the music cuts out. So like the music's playing. It's quite good music actually, and then it just cuts out when it's building up to this like thing, and then it hits, and then the music keeps going. The more I talk about this guy, the more I kind of want to put him higher. But every time I fight this guy, there's a part of dread in the back of my mind that's like, oh, I really hope I do this guy first try, because I don't want to keep fighting this guy. Whereas an actual really good boss for me, I would not mind dying like 30 times to, because I love them so much, right? So yeah. Next on the list, I have Maiden Astrea. Now, Maiden Astrea is another one where I'm giving it leniency because it's in the first game, the Demon Souls. That being said, the fight is really bad. It's really, really bad. The reason she's so high, obviously I'm taking into account the first game, but also I like the lore of Maiden Astrea. The limited that I do know, I do like the lore. I say limited, I did look at a few videos of Maiden Astrea's lore specifically, and I don't mind the lore there. I also appreciate that there's very little, if well, pretty much no run back for Demon Souls standards. But I like the lore of her. But yeah, she's got like an NPC guy, I can't remember his name, and he like protects her, and it's an extremely boring like invader fight. At least he's not very aggressive, so you can do it quite easily. It's just boring, and then you and if you've not got an amazing weapon, it will take an age. And then when you fight her, she's in a pit of like, is it poison or plague? I think it's plague, and it's just every time you'll hit her, occasionally she'll like have this big AoE attack that, I say big, but it's like big enough that will knock you. It's just like you just tank through it, and it's really bad, the fight, but I just like the lore. And I don't mind her design. It's like this maiden, this nice little cute maiden, and you're like, oh well, she can't be a demon, but she's actually a demon. So it's like it's showing you that not all demons are like stereotypical, I suppose. I don't know. I like the story, just not the fight itself. Mipha the Baneful Queen is next. Now, I like this fight. I mean, it's Medusa, really. She has this attack where if you don't look at her, it doesn't attack you, affect you. And in general, her attacks, for Dark Souls 2 standards especially, are actually, like, okay. Her run back, as far as I can remember, isn't awful. That being said, I did not die to this boss, so I didn't have to run back, at least in this gameplay. And I can't remember the run back. I just don't remember ever disliking it, so I assume it's okay. I don't mind the design as well. I think the design's fine. The arena's fine. Just overall, for Dark Souls 2 standards especially, but even for like all the bosses on this list, earlier I said there was a boss that was like the definition of mediocre. It's just like whatever. This is like, in my eyes now, the definition of mediocre. Like now that I'm looking at it, I'm like Mipha on this list. I keep wanting to say Mithra, but I think it's Mipha. It's just, but yeah, she's like, I don't dislike her, I don't like her. She's literally a 5 out of 10 by definition. She's just like, if I think 5 out of 10, I think Mipha. Next on the list, we have Divine Beast Dancing Lion. Now, I like the design of this guy. The soundtrack slaps, and I like the second phase transition into a bunch of different elements. There's lightning, I think there's ice, there might be fire, although I might be misremembering there. And some of the attacks are actually quite good. I just never like fighting this guy, and it's a lot like some of the others on this list where I say that I like this about it, I like this about it, I like this about it. It's just fighting them I do not like. And Divine Beast, I think it's similar to Golden Hippopotamus in the sense that, at least in the second phase of Golden Hippopotamus, some of the moves just aren't fun to dodge or aren't fun. Like, I like fights that are like a dance where, like, you'll dodge a move or a few moves, you'll get a hit in, and it's clear when you can do that. If you learn the fight, that is obviously you're not going to go in instantly and just know it off by heart. That being said, Divine Beast Dancing Lion, I mean, I'm sure if I fought the boss constantly, I would eventually, like, let's say I fought the boss, purposely died at the end, I'm sure I would eventually get used to it if I just kept fighting it over and over and over again, or just kept playing the DLC over and over again, I suppose. Although that would be more time consuming, I'm sure. But I just don't have the interest to so I feel like it's got to be lower simply due to the fact that I don't like fighting this boss. But everything else about the boss I actually do like, and I think it's a fine first boss for the DLC. So next on the list I have Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin. Now Aldia is the final of the 3 Dark Souls 2 final bosses, and I think it's the best out of them, simply due to the fact that I think the lore's better, and I just find the fight slightly more interesting than the other 2. One of them is just 2 bodyguards that are just like slightly more maybe advanced than an NPC, like an invader fight. But I just, it's just gank, and I don't particularly like it. And then Nassandra's just so unbelievably boring in my eyes, like she's got nothing really. Whereas Aldia, at least there's something to the fight, I feel like. And I like the lore more. And once you beat Aldia, it's like the final boss, so there's a bit more like oomph to it. And you also speak to Aldia a few times throughout the game. I suppose that goes into the lore. But Aldia overall is still not a particularly great fight. Nowhere near the best fight in Dark Souls 2. But a fine conclusion, I suppose. It's acceptable in my eyes, but it's not, like, great. Next on the list, I have Covetous Demon. I know this guy's a bit of a meme in terms of if somebody dies to Covetous Demon, they'll just get laughed out of the game, because, it's pathetic in a lot of people's eyes. I've never died to Covetous Demon, I don't think. Did I die to Covetous Demon in this playthrough? I don't think so, not that I can remember. If I did, you'll see in the gameplay that I'm picking up my souls or something, but I don't think so. But yeah, Covetous Demon is just... It's another boss. I mean, I really don't know what to say about these mediocre bosses. He's just fine. He's a big slug. He's like Jabba the Hutt. If Jabba the Hutt had a seizure? Like, I really don't know how to describe this boss. He's fine. For Dark Souls 2 standards, yet again, the runback's fine as well. So overall, I mean, I'm going to use this word again, and I keep using it. He's inoffensive, but not particularly great. And we have another Dark Souls 2 boss next with the Last Giant. I like the Last Giant a lot more than Giant Lord, simply because 1, runback's better, 2, he's easier to get to, and 3, I mean that's really it. Maybe the Last Giant and Giant Lord are related. Maybe they're like, brother and sister, or they're both brothers, or maybe they're lovers. Who knows? That'd be some hardcore stuff, that would. But yeah, I don't know. Last Giant's here on the list. You can tell I have nothing to say about the Last Giant. Next on the list, I have Adjudicator, the man with the big areolas himself. He's a little bit of a gimmick boss. You dodge his attack very easily. You just walk to his left, and he will not hit you. And then you hit his, he's got a bit of, massive bit of glass, or I think it might be a big sword, whatever, stuck in his abdomen. And you hit on the left side as well, so it makes it even easier. And you hit it enough, and then he falls down. I mean, you could probably just kill him without doing this, but you hit it enough, he falls over, and then you can hit his bird, and then on his head, which is a wacky design, and I actually don't mind the design, and then he gets up, you rinse and repeat. There's another boss up on the list, which is very similar to this, a lot higher up on the list, but it's similar to this in terms of you hit it a bunch. It's Demon Souls as well, where you hit it a bunch, it falls down, you hit its head. I just think this is the worst of the 2. But yeah, Adjudicator, his design is probably why he's so high up. I love those absolute tits, bro. Like, if he drunk like a Coke, he could get the bottle cap and place it under one of his boobs to hold it there. He wouldn't even need to put it on the side, and then he could get it out. Basically, I'm saying he could use it as a purse. But yeah, in general, I like the Adjudicator just because of that. He's also not difficult to get to, and as far as Demon Souls goes, he's not horrific. There is quite a hard boss, at least if you go to him early, that's protecting him, just before you get into the boss room, but I feel like you can probably run past him. The boss is extremely easy, but yet again, kind of like Covetous Demon, inoffensively easy. It's not like I'm pissed off when I fight the guy. I'm just like, okay, I got him out of the way, that was cool, next. Next on the list, I have Old Dragon Slayer, who is Ornstein from Ornstein and Smough, if you know Ornstein, which, spoiler alert, they're going to be a bit higher up in the list. But yeah, Old Dragon Slayer, and he's originally from Dark Souls 1, but he's in Dark Souls 2 now. And he's got similar moveset to his OG counterpart. It's just, he works worse together alone than he does with both of them, because he's far too easy on his own. And the arena's also not as interesting. But I'm fine with him being here. I know some people are didn't like him being reintroduced because they didn't think it was a good reintroduction. I think it's fine. I really don't find it that bad. I don't know too much Ornstein lore, but I'm fine with it. And he's a very optional fight. This is a fight that's kind of out the way. But yeah, I mean, it's not extremely out the way, I suppose, but it's a fine fight. Next on the list, I have Centipede Demon, which is the last of the, I believe it's 4 bosses that are in the Lost Islip area, or Ceaseless Discharge onwards, that whole area, the fiery area. And he's definitely the best out of the bunch, but he's still not particularly it's star. It doesn't make me starstruck, right? Is what I'm trying to say. It's not a star-studied lineup. I said the word star maybe 5 times there. Star 6. Okay. So my biggest issue with Centipede Demon is the lava everywhere. Now you can get a ring before going into Centipede Demon, which protects you from lava, which you've really got to use. I don't think you can not use it. I mean, I'm sure. Well, no, you probably can not use it. To be fair, if you've got enough vigor or health or whatever, or if you just heal at platform, little islands or whatever. But you're going to use that ring, so it sucks that it takes up a slot, but it's not a biggest deal. Centipede Demon, yeah, there's nothing really to say about this guy. He's a demon centipede. Next on the list, I have Bell Gargoyles. I'm pluralizing them here because there are 2, but yeah, I think these guys are quite a bit overrated. Nobody says they're like S tier, don't get me wrong, or a 10 out of 10, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's one guy out there, but I just feel like for what in my mind is like the first big boss, like you've got Asylum Demon, you've got Taurus Demon, which you'll fight beforehand. But Bell Gargoyle's like the first, like where you feel like you're going deeper into the story, at least for me when I play the game. And I just feel like it's a bit disappointing for that. I just don't particularly like it. The area they're in is fine. They're gargoyles, but they're on a roof. Kind of makes sense, I suppose, because gargoyles are like known to be on like buildings and stuff. I guess that makes sense. But they're not optional, I believe, because you've got to defeat them to activate the I was going to say torch the bell. Which makes sense, they're Bell Gargoyles. But yeah, Bell Gargoyle, I feel like there's a better version of them in Dark Souls 2, which you'll know if you know Dark Souls 2. Mainly because the one in Dark Souls 2 is optional. I feel like Bell Gargoyle Gargoyles would be better if they were optional. I feel like for a main boss, just a bit lackluster. Next on the list, I have Flame Lurker from Demon Souls. Now, Flame Lurker looks cool, and I like his arena. There's a few things I really dislike, though, and I'm talking about the remake version specifically. I've never played the OG. I've beat the remake 3 times now. It was 2 times, but during the recording of me doing this list, I've beat Demon Souls again. I beat it yesterday, and this is like my 3rd day of recording this list. So as of this list being made, I've just beat it for a 3rd time. But Flame Lurker for me is just, in the remake specifically, and that's why I specified remake, I don't know about the original, it's just, like, he's far too bright. I can barely see him. You can't see the details on him because he's just far too bright. Maybe it's more realistic if he's on fire, I don't know, but I don't care about realism, I can't see him. Second of all, his moveset is not particularly super fun. It's fine and it's fair, I'm not saying it's unfair, but, like, he's like, I'd say it's more annoying than even Lawrence. Like, Lawrence is when he, like, lifts his claw up and there's a big AoE fire explosion. I feel like Flame Lurker has that, but a bit more annoying. His runback's also, I mean, it's not as annoying as Lawrence's in my eyes, but it is still pretty poor. In general, I think Flame Lurker is pretty average in most aspects. The only aspects I actually feel like he is better at is his design, like his character design, and his arena. That being said, you can't see his design because the boss is just so bright all of the time. If they toned that down a little bit, he might be a few places higher on this list. Next on the list, we have Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. I say we have, it's my list. It's not your list. But I have Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Love the soundtrack. I think that's the thing he's probably most known for. The few moves he has, I think, are very lackluster. His grab attack is solid. It's shared by another boss, the final boss of Dark Souls 3, which you'll know, I'm sure. And for good reason, it's meant to be replicated. But I like the grab attack. But besides the grab attack, I feel like all of his other moves are just so unbelievably bad, considering he's the final boss and the main, like, antagonist of the entire Dark Souls series, or like right up there as one of them, if not the one. Like, Gwyn is like the main Don, the main god himself, and this is like a lesser version of him, I think, a more like degraded version of him, a more like washed version of him, I suppose, but that doesn't change the fact that it's just so underwhelming. And my god, the run back is abysmal. I think I died to this guy like 2 or 3 times in this playthrough, and even though it was only 2 or 3 times, the amount of sighing I did, and the amount of, I mean, I don't think I did like put a hole through my monitor. In fact, I know I didn't, but I was probably not far off. But yeah, like I said, his soundtrack's really, really good, and I do like the area he's in. It's, you only use it to fight him. I want to get clear, like, it's not like you do anything else in this area. That being said, the big kiln that he's in is kind of cool, and the kiln of the first flame, like, it's just, lore-wise, I also really do like him, and he's responsible for a lot in lore that's really cool. I just don't like the fight itself. So next on the list, I have Commander Gaius. Now, Commander Gaius is, I mean, he's known, I'm sure, for the charge attack, which a lot of people think is BS, and I'm in that camp, kind of. I mean, I found out a strat that if you get really close to him, he becomes a lot easier to dodge, and if you're far away from him, you're going to get hit unless you use your horse, I suppose. In Elden Ring, I feel like boss fights where your horse can be utilised well, they're usually not the best fights in the game, at least in my eyes. Fire Giant's a perfect example for that. That being said, Commander Gaius is, I'm going to use the word again, inoffensive. I've actually said that word so many times, it's probably lost all meaning in this list. His run back is non-existent. His arena's fine, it's got all the swords. It's akin to, like, if anyone knows Fate Stay Night, like, I am the bone of my sword. It's like that. It reminds me of that to an extent. It's not, like, an exact thing. Although, I suppose Radahn's arena, which we'll talk about later, is probably more akin to that. But anyway, I digress. Commander Gaius, he's also got these, like, gravity moves in his second phase, which are a bit more annoying to deal with than fun, but I wouldn't say they're straight up annoying. Like, if there was a scale between 10 being great, 1 being annoying, it's like a 4, a bit more into the annoying category, but it's not bad by any means. I don't mind the design of Commander Gaius either, and the reward for beating him is you get a bunch of Scadutree fragments after him, which is neat. But in general, I have little to say about this guy. I think his movesets are akin to Tree Sentinel, if you know Tree Sentinel from Elden Ring, which isn't on this list because it's like a minor boss. I do like Tree Sentinel actually a bit. If Tree Sentinel was on this list, I'd actually put him slightly higher than Commander Gaius, I think. But not an extreme amount higher. I do think Commander Gaius is fine. Next on the list, I have Regal Ancestor Spirit. Now, there is another boss called just Ancestor Spirit, but this is the Big Daddy Ancestor Spirit, the Regal version, the king himself, or queen. You know, don't want to judge, could be either. Regal Ancestor Spirit is, I mean, fine. It's got a neat soundtrack. I like the soundtrack. Elden Ring slaps with a lot of its soundtracks. I find the boss design kind of cool. The arena's fine. I like some of the moves. I just feel like it's got a very lack of moves, and it's not particularly interesting to fight, really. I've probably said that to a lot of these bosses as well. But yeah, I mean, Regal Ancestor Spirit is another one that's absolutely fine. I'm really struggling to talk about these mediocre bosses because I neither dislike or like them. They're just, like, here. So when we get to the S tier, I'll be able to speak in length. And when we were in the F tier, I could speak at length for, like, stuff I dislike. With these mid-tier ones, it's like, what do I really say? They're just mid. Speaking of mid, we have Shadows of Yharnam next from Bloodborne. Love the design, love the arena, crap run back, and they become normal enemies later on in the game, which is a bit annoying. And the snake moves that they have in their second phase, well, they're like third phase, I suppose, that they can have, like, when there's one left, they can summon snakes, is a little bit poo. But other than that, they're absolutely fine. Now, next on the list, I have Vendrick, and Vendrick is another boss. I really don't know what to say about him. He's just fine. I don't mind the lore, but in general, the fights, the design, everything is fine. Once you beat him, you get a cool little scene where you can go into, like, a memory, which I like. But in general, he's absolutely, like, he's the definition of mediocre within Dark Souls 2. Like, I don't think the boss is bad. Well, Mithra is also there. These bosses are so close together. Mithra, which I talked about earlier, and Vendrick, or even the next one, could be, like, right next to each other on the list. They are, like, there is barely any difference between all of these last bosses I've said. Like, they are so close together for me. They're all 5 out of 10. Next on the list, I've got Vort of the Boreal Valley. Now, Vort of the Boreal Valley his song is, like, the biggest meme ever, like his second phase at least when it comes to Dark Souls 3, and probably all of Souls music, to be fair. If you don't know any Souls music, you might still recognise it. It's like, if you see memes on the internet about, like, when a boss approaching or something, like, and boss music playing or whatever, it's always his second phase music. But I think Vort is fine. I think his design's fine. For an early boss, his attack range is also fine. By attack range, I mean, like, the range of it, like, how many attacks he has, not his actual range. His second phase, he develops a charge attack, which is fine, I suppose. He's very easily dealt with by just going into his bum the entire fight. But that's, like, a lot of bosses in Souls, and it is a very early boss. Overall, yet again, a fine early boss, a very early boss at that. Nothing more to say, and I do think his music is a little overrated. I think it's good. It would possibly get into, like, a top 30 songs for me in all of Soulsborne, like, boss music, but it would be nowhere near top 10. I think it's very overrated, but that's just me personally. Next on the list, I have Renala of the Full Moon. Second phase looks really cool. I'm scared of space, so you know how I feel about the moon, but in general, I can even, like, trying to be as objective as possible. It looks really cool. I like some of the attacks. She has ads, but the ads are actually not too bad in this fight, and it actually makes the fight better in my eyes. Without ads, it would be the most boring fight ever. That being said, her first phase is also kind of, like, I like how unique it is, in terms of there's a bunch of, like, children that throw books at you, and you've got to take them out to, like, stop them throwing books at you, and if you take out 3, she can be attacked. So, like, it's such a wacky thing. If you know, you know. If you don't, then if you close your eyes and I describe that, it's going to sound like the most horrific thing ever, but it's not. But yeah, in general, I just like the boss. I think parts of it's goofy. For Elden Ring standards, the runback's really poor. I don't know why there wasn't a stake of merit at this boss, to be quite frank. That being said, I don't mind it. And she's the boss that once you beat, which is not optional, I believe, but once you beat, you actually get the ability to respec. So that's nice as well. And next on the list, I've been kind of teasing this guy. We have Asylum Demon from Dark Souls 1, who is the tutorial boss for Dark Souls 1. Very easily dealt with, very inoffensive, he's a demon in an asylum. What else do you want? Next on the list, I have Pursuer. Now, Pursuer's really unique on this list in the sense that you can actually fight and beat Pursuer before his boss fight, and if you do, you actually don't get him as a boss, if that makes sense. And I beat him before his boss fight. So he is an actual boss with a boss health bar and everything, which is why he's counted on this list. But I beat him before, he was set to be a boss, right? When you beat him beforehand, he's actually easier because his arena's a lot bigger, whereas in his actual boss arena, it's a lot more closer. Although you can use this, what they call, a crossbow, this big bolt that fires, these enormous arrows, and it can, pretty much one-shot him, two-shot him. So it's easier in that aspect, I suppose. But, so when you're seeing this gameplay, I just want to make sure that you know that this is a boss. I'm just fighting him earlier. It's a bit of a wacky situation, but he usually does have a boss health bar. But Pursuer, yeah, I don't mind him. He's a lot better in this location than I think he is in his standard location, I suppose. And I also don't mind the reward you get for how easy the boss is at this stage. But I mean, it hits hard, but it's also not too difficult. I like the tells. It doesn't feel like it's a BS boss. In Dark Souls 2, a lot of bosses have terrible hitboxes. This one seems absolutely perfect. And then when you beat him, you actually do get quite a nice reward as well for how early in the game you will fight Pursuer. So I just think overall Pursuer is fine. I actually don't mind the design as well. My biggest issue is Pursuer shows up loads in the game in terms of as little mini bosses. So this one, the boss one, or the one you fight before the boss, which makes there not be a boss, it makes them feel less unique because there's a bunch throughout the game. You'll go into a certain area and a Pursuer will spawn. It'll have less health, I'm pretty sure, as the boss version, although correct me if I'm wrong there. But yeah, it just feels a bit, makes it less unique and cool. But in general, I like Pursuer. Next on the list, we have Witch of Hemwick, which some people are going to be like, how is Witch of Hemwick this high? But just let me bear with it. One, I like that if you go into the fight with no insight, it changes the fight completely. It makes it really easy, but you can't do it first attempt because just seeing the boss will give you one insight. That being said, I like the way it changes. Secondly, I like the area. Thirdly, I think the boss fight arena is actually kind of cool. I just like all the hanging corpses and stuff, and the lore behind the Witches of Hemwick with the eyes and stuff, I don't mind. And 4, I actually don't find the fight that bad. It's pretty easy. I probably in the gameplay made it look more difficult than it needs to be, although maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was just as easy as I remember. That being said, I do not like how they are reused enemies. There are enemies later on in the game that just are the Witch of Hemwick, just more in the Hypergean jail, for example. That being said, I really don't mind the Witches of Hemwick, and I don't think they should be anywhere near an F tier on a list. I just find them really inoffensive. Are they a good fight by any means? No. But I think they're absolutely fine. I think for what they add to the game, and they're technically optional, although they give you the ability to have, is it runes they're called in the game, or, I think, are they called runes? I don't think they're called runes. They're called, whatever. The ability to have, extra abilities. I can't remember what they're called. I'll remember at some point and then I'll just randomly spout it out. But they're kind of like Curse Rot Greatwood, where they're optional, but they're not optional, really. Next on the list, I have Scorpioness Naka. Reminds me a bit of Mipha, the Baneful Queen, just in terms of their aesthetics. But Scorpioness Naka, she could be naked if she... Okay, I'll shut up. But Scorpioness Naka is, fine. Again, it's a kind of... Not a repeat boss, but it's very much inspired by a boss that's higher up in the list. By quite a bit, I think, which is from Dark Souls 1, which is another woman with her boobies out, who is some sort of arachnid. I believe the scorpions are arachnids. This one is just the worst of the two. The OG I do prefer. That being said, absolutely fine boss. There's not really much else to say. I don't mind the design. The arena's fine. The area she's in is not annoying. It's fine. Next on the list, I have Dirty Colossus from Demon Souls. Dirty Colossus is another one with a banging name. What we've got: Ceaseless Discharge, Penetrator, which I haven't even mentioned yet, but there is a boss called Penetrator, and Dirty Colossus. Some of these names are absolutely beast. The Rotten is just a goofy... Well, no, the Rotten's crap, I don't know. Yeah, forget I said the Rotten. But anyway, Dirty Colossus I just like the name. The run back for Demon Souls, absolutely fine. Compared to Leechmonger, this is an area after Leechmonger. I don't know how people dislike this area more than Leechmonger's, because at least you can run through this area. You can't Leechmonger. It's just whatever. Anyway, his run back's fine for Demon Souls standards. I don't mind his design. His fight is a bit annoying in terms of he shoots bugs onto you, and then they will constantly damage you over time, and it is a bit like... And his moveset's really poor. It's not particularly interesting. That being said, his name's Dirty Colossus, so he's got to be this high on the list. Next on the list, I have Crossbreed Priscilla. Another banging name, you know. Some of these names are slapping. But Crossbreed Priscilla looks cool. She's like this woman in... Well, I say woman, I don't know, like, is she like a beast or something? I don't know, but she's like in white, like feathers or something, and I don't know if it's clothing or her, I don't know, but... And she's got a big scythe, like an ice scythe. Not the coolest ice scythe in the game, mind you, in Soulsborne, mind you, but, you know, pretty cool. And I think the concept of her going invisible at the start of the fight, and then you have to, like, find her, which isn't super difficult, but it shouldn't be. I think that's kind of cool. But when the boss fight actually starts, she's just far too easy, and she's got, like, so few moves, it's actually embarrassing. So, I don't know. Visually, everything she's got going for her, besides her moveset, which is, like, one of the most important things for a boss. Yeah, Crossbreed Priscilla becomes here. I also don't mind her boss weapon, I think, if I'm thinking of the right boss weapon. Next on the list, I have Dark Sun Gwendolyn, who is the OG femboy of the series, at least I believe so. I think... Lore-wise, this is another one where I like the lore a lot more than the fight itself. Although I don't... Kind of like Witch of Henwick, I do feel like this boss gets too much stick. I don't think the boss fight's even that bad. Is it extremely easy? Yes. Is it pretty poor? Yes. But is it like Leechmonger? Is it like Demon God? Is it like King Alant? No. It's a lot better than those, right? So I do think Dark Sun Gwendolyn gets a bit too much stick. I think it's way better than like Lawrence, the first Vicar, which may get some people heated, but... I'm like that. I'm going to stop. But Dark Sun Gwendolyn, I think, is absolutely fine, inoffensive. They're also a femboy, which obviously knocks them up higher in the ranking, obviously. If Mikola was on this list, they'd probably be S tier. I don't mind the moveset. The lore I like, and I like the reference back to them in Dark Souls 3. Next on the list, I have Guardian Dragon. Guardian Dragon is just... It's a Dark Souls 2 Dragon boss, and it's not my favourite Dragon boss in Dark Souls 2. There's one a lot higher. That being said... Compared to Ancient Dragon, which this actually comes before, it's a dragon that guards Ancient Dragon, really. It's night and day. This dragon, it actually has more than, like, 2 moves. And it actually feels a bit more like a fight, not just waiting around with a huge health bar. And the run back's also fine. So, yeah, there's not much to say about Guardian Dragon. It's just a better dragon boss than the previous one. So next on the list, I have Yorm the Giant. Now, Yorm the Giant is a boss that I actually like. So this is where we start getting into, like, above average. Like, this boss might be like a 6 out of 10, a 5.5 out of 10, somewhere around there. I think we're going past the average bosses now, although he is still amongst this litter, I suppose. Yorm the Giant is a gimmick boss in the true sense of the word, in the terms of, if you ask anyone in the Soulsborne community, name a few gimmick bosses, like, name 5 gimmick bosses, Yorm will definitely be a name mentioned. He might even be first or second to leave someone's mouth. The whole point of this fight, and I do believe you can fight him with a normal weapon. That being said, it would make the fight a lot worse and tedious in my opinion, but I do believe you can fight him with a normal weapon. That being said, he is meant to be fought with the Storm Ruler, and I actually don't mind the Storm Ruler fight, even if the Storm Ruler isn't upgraded at all, which I'm not even sure if you can upgrade it. I've never tried. I'm sure you can because it's a weapon, but I don't know. But you fight him with the Storm Ruler, and you've got to charge it to be able to use it, like the wind projectile from it, which is what damages him. Trying to get the timing of when you can use that and not get hit by Yorm, I like. I also like all of Yorm's attacks. He's got very few, but they all feel fair. And if I get hit, I feel like it's more of a skill issue than just terrible boss design. And I still don't mind his arena, and I definitely do not mind his design. So overall, I actually think Yorm is actually a pretty solid boss, even though I'm sure he disappointed some people. Next on the list, I have a boss which is similar to Commander Gaius in the sense that it's a Tree Sentinel-esque boss. So we have Loretta, Knight of the Halig Tree. You can actually fight her, like, illusion or her ghost, or I don't even know what it would be, earlier on in the game. But this is, like, the true version of her. And if you're going to fight Malenia, I believe this boss is unmissable. So, you know, by all intents and purposes, this is the main version of the boss. It's also the harder version of the boss. I use hard in big asterisks, because at least if you're leveling normally, this boss isn't too difficult. I don't mind the moveset. I would probably say I like her more than Tree Sentinel. Commander Gaius, I said I didn't like as much as Tree Sentinel. I've mentioned Tree Sentinel in here more than I have actual other bosses that are on this list, even though they don't appear. But Loretta, Knight of the Halig Tree, she's the boss that stops you from going to the area. Like, she's the guard of the area which Malenia is in, and if you know how to get to her, just run to her. You can get to Melina like 2 minutes after this fight. So she is a boss that many people would have fought, because I'm sure if you play Elden Ring, you probably want to fight Melania. I think she's fine. She's a boss that, yet again, like I said with Yorm, we're getting into the better bosses now. I wouldn't say she's average, I'd say she's slightly better than. She's an okay boss. That being said, I'm really struggling to figure out stuff to say to her. She's got projectiles, but they're all fair. She's got, you know, those, I'm going to say it again, Tree Sentinel-like attacks. I think they're fair. I actually don't mind her design. I believe you can get her armor in the DLC as well, although correct me if I'm wrong there, which I think is cool. I mean, you buy it in the main game, in the round table hold, but I think you can get it once you beat a certain boss in the DLC, I believe. And I don't know, I just don't mind this boss. I actually don't mind the arena as well. My biggest issue with this boss is the runback. It's not abhorrent, but for Elden Ring standards, it is abhorrent, if that makes sense. Like, there's way worse runbacks. There's no Legend Zelon runback in Elden Ring, but this is probably the closest to a Legend Zelon runback. Still not on the same level, obviously. Next on the list, I have the Duke's Deer Freya. The Duke's Deer Freya is also similar in terms of the runback is poo-poo, although I did beat them first try here, but the area that Duke's Deer Freya in is also an area that I'm not too fond of, although that's quite common in Dark Souls 2. The Duke's Deer Freya is a big spider, tarantula, whatever, arachnid, with 2 heads, and whichever side you're on, the head will shoot at you. I think it has a beam attack. It also can shoot webs, I believe, but I might be misremembering. It has a lot of ads, which usually would be annoying, but I think without the ads, this fight would be far too easy, and it is quite easy anyway. So I actually think the ads are fine. They're not intrusive in my eyes, but they're not good. They're just, like, okay. I think without the ads, the fight would be worse, to be fair. But even though I think the fight would be worse, I still don't think the ads are that good. Does that make sense? The ads aren't great, but without them, the fight would still be worse. But it doesn't make the ads great. Anyway, the Duke's Deer Freya is a fine boss. It's one of the better bosses in Dark Souls 2 in my mind. The issue is really the runback and the area it's in. So when I beat the boss, I'm actually kind of relieved. It is one of the main bosses as well, I believe, although correct me if I'm wrong. Next on the list, I have Dark Beast Parl. Now, Dark Beast Parl I think is a little overrated, and here's a few reasons why. I mean, I don't know how many people would put them extremely high, but I feel like they would usually be rated higher than this. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm in the majority. But Dark Beast Parl's still solid, but there's a few reasons I'm not too keen on Dark Beast Parl, as much as other people are. First off, I think the design is a little overrated. I don't think it's bad by any means, it's actually quite cool, but I think it's a little bit overhyped. Secondly, the moveset is quite lackluster. I wouldn't say it's bad, and it's definitely not BS, it's just a bit lackluster. But my main issue with Dark Beast Parl is simply the fact that it's so easy to overlevel for this boss. Kind of like Leone Misbegotten earlier, but just a far better version of Leone Misbegotten. Dark Beast Parl is a boss that is just so easy to overlevel for. In my gameplay, I believe, when I played Bloodborne for this video, I believe I purposely went to the Hypogean jail, which is where Dark Beast Parl is, early, to fight her, or him, I believe it's a boy, whatever, them, as early as possible. That being said, I still absolutely clapped its cheeks. Now, you could just say I'm using a good weapon, which the Sword Cleaver is goated. You could just say, well, you are overleveled, or your level's too high weapon, whatever. But most people who fight this boss will fight it far later than I did, because the Hypogean jail you can go to early if you know the secret to get there, whatever, but usually people will get there just later on in the game when they fight the One Reborn. It's also similar to the One Reborn as to where you just hit its limbs and it goes down, which is a fine concept, but you don't even have to hit the limbs all that much, especially if you've got a weapon like the Sword Cleaver at like +3 or 4. And I don't remember exactly what level I was in the gameplay. I might show it at the end, because I think I wanted to specify what level I was, but I couldn't have been much over 40, if even over 40, I might have been in the 30s. But whatever level I was, it's so easy to overlevel. I was just playing the game normally. I wasn't doing a challenge, like trying to be like as low a level as possible, but I was just playing the game normally, right? I wasn't overleveling, I wasn't grinding any runes, and it's so easy to overlevel for this guy. He's basically not even a boss fight. Usually when I fight him, he literally dies within 20 seconds, if that. I purposely went out my way in this gameplay to not try to, and I still killed them extremely quickly, extremely easily, and it's just so disappointing. I don't understand why they place this boss here and put so little health on them. I really don't understand why. They're in a late game section, or a late-ish game section, and a secret hidden section if you want to get there early, yet it's so unbelievably weak, and I don't understand why. I don't like bosses that are hard for the sake of being hard, but Dark Beast Parl is just far too easy. The only difficulty, quote-unquote, I'll give it, is that it does hit quite hard if you get hit by it, but then if you go to fight Dark Beast Parl when you're like level 60, like, you're just gonna like free shot him. It's anyway, yeah, that's my biggest issue with Dark Beast Parl and why they're so low. Even if this wasn't the case, it still wouldn't be much higher, but that's the reason it's so low for me. Next on the list, I've got Amygdala, and be ready for quite a few Bloodborne bosses here, because I've got quite a few Bloodborne bosses next, but Amygdala's next, and Amygdala is, I wouldn't say a gimmick boss, but the big thing with it is its head is the weak spot, and you want to keep hitting its head. There's quite a few bosses on this list, actually, where their head is like their weak spot, which makes sense, I suppose. And I don't mind the attacks. I don't mind, and once you know how to dodge a lot of them, they're not that bad. I think I probably defeated Amygdala instantly as well. It's a boss that I usually get rid of in like 30 seconds. But not to the same level Dark Beast Parl. It's definitely harder than Dark Beast Parl. It's just I probably made Amygdala look easier. If you have like the Moonlight Greatsword or what they called, the ammo, the bullets you can get, I can't remember what they're called, the like silver bullets. No, they're not called that, are they? I don't know what they're called. Like a bone marrow powder, I think it's called. You can easily dispatch this guy as well. But yeah, like... Yeah. I think he's fine. He's absolutely fine. I'd rather fight Amygdala than Dark Beast Parl, simply due to the fact that, you know, it's harder to be over-leveled. Like, for Amygdala, I at least have to try. For Dark Beast Parl, I barely have to try, right? I will say, though, the fact that Amygdala is like it's the Amygdalas, like the Great Ones or whatever, are like godlike beings in the Bloodborne universe, and Amygdala and a bunch of Amygdala-like entities are, or the Amygdalae, whatever the plural will be, are a type of Great Ones. They're not... the Great Ones, like, they're not unique looking, they all look the same, but they are a type of Great One, right? At least in lore. And the fact that the fight is like you would expect it to be a bit more, like, grandiose, so that's a bit disappointing. But in general, we've got better Great One fights anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Speaking of better Great One fights, but not by a landslide, and these next two are also counted as Great Ones, I believe, although maybe only one is, I'm not sure. This next one, I'm not 100% sure if it's a Great One, but correct me if I'm wrong. We've got Murgo's Wet Nurse. Love the design, pretty cool. The arena's quite cool, and I like the soundtrack. It's so unbelievably unique. It's very melancholy. It's Murgo's Lullaby, which I really like. It fits this boss so well, and it's also very unique in a good way, in the sense that it's not super hype and bombastic. It's not depressing. It's just like a children's lullaby, and I just think it fits so well. My issue with this boss is it's just quite crap to fight. It's extremely easy. But even if it wasn't extremely easy, it would still, like, the moveset's just not particularly interesting. I also find there's one move that this boss has where it, like for 30 whole seconds, you just have to dodge it constantly. There's no point fighting it in this phase, and you just run around the arena. You can dodge it, and usually I do dodge it, although in this gameplay I don't believe I did, but maybe I'll be corrected, but I don't believe I dodged it. But overall, it's just got crap attacks. Its attacks are not interesting. So it's a boss that has everything going for it besides the attacks. Lore-wise, I don't know very much about Murgo or Murgo's Wet Nurse itself, really. I know bare bones stuff. That being said, I like most things about this fight besides the fight itself, and that's my issue with Murgo's Wet Nurse. And I have a similar feeling with Moon Presence, which I know is definitely a great one. It might be the strongest entity, lore-wise at least, that you fight in this entire game, although I could be wrong. But the Moon Presence is the secret final boss of the game. There is a final boss that I haven't mentioned yet, but Moon Presence is like a boss you can fight after that boss if you do certain requirements, right? It's a secret final boss. And besides one cool move where he, like, gets rid of, like, in Bloodborne, if you don't know, you have is it called rally system, I think it's called, where if you get hit for a brief period of time, you can gain health back if you hit the enemy beforehand. That's what, if you're looking at Bloodborne gameplay, there'll be like a little, your health will go down, but there'll still be a little red bar. That's what that is. He has a move where he, like, zaps you with his eye or something, and then he takes all of your health to, like, 1%, or 1 HP, but then he stands still for, like, 10 seconds, and you can just hit him. And I like that attack. That's actually kind of cool. Even though it makes it easier, I actually like that attack quite a lot. My issue with Moon Presence is just how hyped this guy is. The intro cutscene's so cool. He's, like, the guy. Moon Presence is Himothy, yet he's just so underwhelming. His boss fight is not hard. The boss beforehand I actually think is harder, even though lore-wise he's nowhere near as hard. Moon Presence is, like, he's a slave to the Moon Presence, pretty much, if not. And the Moon Presence is somehow weaker. I don't like bosses, like I said earlier, that are just hard for the sake of being hard, or they're really unbalanced in my eyes, or whatever. But Moon Presence is, like, it could have been harder. But like everything else, I like the arena. It is shared by another boss, but I still like the arena. I like the design of this. I like the intro cutscene. I like the lore. I can't remember the music, to be fair. The runback's non-existent, so I like all of this aspects, but just, it's kind of like Murgo's Wet Nurse, where the fight is just, but it at least has one interesting move, whereas Murgo's Wet Nurse doesn't. Next on the list, I have Red Wolf of Radagon. I think Red Wolf of Radagon is absolutely fine. There's not much I can really say about Red Wolf of Radagon. It's not the best Soulsborne boss that's like a feline that has a sword in its mouth. or the best wolf that has a sword in its mouth, I should say, that, which is a crazy thing to say, but there are multiple wolves with swords in their mouth. But still, it's an absolutely inoffensive boss. It's better than the boss that comes after it, Ronaldo of the Full Moon. I just find the boss to be absolutely fine. It is found in the open world of Elden Ring quite often, but it's Elden Ring, what do you expect? Although, we're getting higher in the list now, and there's going to be less and less Elden Ring bosses that are just everywhere in the open world. In fact, very few. There might be one more, maybe, but yeah, very few. Next on the list, I have Sanctuary Guardian. Sanctuary Guardian is fine. I don't mind the design. My issue with Sanctuary Guardian is Dark Souls 1's jank. It just feels really unfun to fight, but I think it's just because it's Dark Souls 1, like it's gameplay, and I don't think it can help it. There are some bosses that deal with Dark Souls 1's mechanics a lot better. That being said, if Sanctuary Guardian was in any other game, I think it'd be a lot better, which maybe is not saying much, and it is in Dark Souls 1, I've got to take that into account. But also, the run back is non-existent. I don't mind the arena, and the DLC as a whole in this game, Dark Souls 1 that is absolutely slapping with bosses. So the fact that Sanctuary Guardian is so low in terms of compared to the other DLC bosses, it's just more, it's been overshadowed by far better bosses, not that it's bad itself. Next on the list I have Pontiff Sullivan. Pontiff Sullivan, you walk up to his boss fight and his swords light up and it just looks really, really cool. He also has an ability in a second phase where he duplicates himself, and the duplicate will do a move, and then he'll do a move right after, and I think it's a cool concept. It's just kind of like Sanctuary Guardian in terms of, I just personally, obviously this is a very subjective list, I personally don't enjoy ever fighting Pontiff Sullivan. I think he's a solid fight. I like the arena, I mean, it makes sense for him. Reminds me of, you could have put him in, well, no, actually, I was going to say you could put him in Deacons of the Deep arena, or vice versa, and it would work. Maybe Deacons in his arena, but he would not work in their arena, I don't think. But anyway, I digress. I think Pontiff Sullivan is cool. I like his name, Sullivan. It's spelt wacky, but I do like the name Sullivan. It's kind of goofy. That being said, well, it's not that goofy, but yeah, I'm just yapping now because I can't really think of anything to say about Pontiff Sullivan. I just find him not super fun to fight. Next on the list, we have Champion Gundyr, who is the tutorial boss of Dark Souls 3's true form. And I've actually got the tutorial boss, because it's not been on the list yet, higher, which a lot higher actually, so I feel like a lot of people might be like, well, Champion Gundyr is definitely better than Eudex Gundyr, who is the tutorial boss, which we'll talk about later. But the reason I like the tutorial boss more, I mean, I should really talk about this when the tutorial boss comes up, but, I'll just do it now, and then I'll quickly skip over Eudex Gundyr when I come to him. I feel like Eudex Gundyr is better than Champion Gundyr in the fact that it's a really good tutorial boss, and I think he does his role better than Champion Gundyr does his role. I also think Champion Gundyr has a few attacks that I'm not particularly fond of. His run back is far worse. I don't think the added attacks, it's really cool. I think the idea is really cool that you can fight him in his prime, but I don't think his added attacks are amazing. That being said, he's a very fair boss. Even though I don't like some of his attacks, I think he's a very fair boss. I don't think he's unfair even remotely. He's very fast, doesn't give you much time to heal, but I think it's completely fair. I don't want you to think that I'm saying this is BS, the moveset's BS. It's not. Completely fair. It's just I personally don't particularly have enjoyment when I'm dodging the guy. So when I dodge him a bunch, I'm more relieved than I am like that's cool, right? But anyway, the main reason he's this low is because I find the tutorial boss does a better job of being a tutorial boss than Champion Gundyr is at being the tutorial boss's better half, I suppose. His true power, personally. But, I still think Champion Gundyr is very good. He's very high up in this list. Next on the list, I have R'hllana Twin Moon Knight. I think R'hllana Twin Moon Knight has some great moves that are really fun to dodge, I think it's in her first phase going on to her second phase. It's not quite the transition, but it's close to, where she has this sword that comes up twice, slams it down, and then she spins around this ice sword or whatever it is, this magic sword, and it looks really, really cool, and it's really cool to dodge, and you can actually do it yourself as a player as well. But I just think it's such a cool move to dodge. In her second phase, she has a moon attack when she's on low enough health, where she puts 2 moons in the ground and then slams, and you've got to jump, and I love how they implement the jump, and I think it's so fun to dodge. Even though it's very simple to dodge, I still like it a lot. The issue is if you get hit by it, you get hit by it all, so just don't get hit, I suppose, skill issue. And I like the design of R'hllana. There is no run back, and I don't mind the arena. My issue with R'hllana is simply, I just don't find her as enjoyable as bosses higher up on the list. She's not unfair, she's not bad, I just don't find her as enjoyable as other bosses on the list. It's as simple as that. It's not that I find anything about her horrific. Maybe, I was going to say something, but I just think that's BS. No, in general, it's just she's not as good as bosses higher up, in my opinion. Next on the list, I have Manus, Father of the Abyss. Maybe a bit low for some people, but I don't know, this boss is just, first off, I need to get out the way. It is Dark Souls 1, so I'm probably just a broken record here, but the run back is absolute cheeks. Definitely, I would say the worst in the DLC. Well, not definitely, it is the worst in the DLC, in my opinion. That being said, it's not by far the worst in the DLC, and there is worse in the main game. Seath comes to mind. In general, Manus' runback is not particularly great, and he is probably he is, in my opinion at least, the hardest boss by far in the game. So, you will die to him a few times. I think this is the only boss in the entire game of Dark Souls 1 that is not any of these games that took me double digits. I think he probably took me about... It couldn't have been many more, if more than 20 tries, but he did take me double digits, I do know that. And he was the only boss to do so in the entire game. I think some of the harder bosses took me like 4 or 5 tries, but he was the only one that took me double digits. Which isn't me saying I'm good. Dark Souls 1 is a lot easier than some of these other games. That being said, it just shows you, at least for me, how much harder he is than the rest. But I think it's a good level of difficulty. He's got one move I think is complete ass, where he like has a bunch of like portally, like abyss magic, whatever it is, in like a big circle around you, and then it encloses in. I don't know if I have gameplay of it on mine. I'm sure I would. And I just find that, like, you can dodge it, of course, you can dodge every attack, but I just find it to be crap. Like, it comes on too fast, out of nowhere. It's also just shit. I feel like it takes away from the flow of the fight. I just don't like it. When it comes to, like, big, like, AoE attacks you've got to dodge or jump over or whatever, I feel like there's far better in other games. Even Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, I'm sure there's better. It's just something I'm not a big fan of. But most of his moveset, I think, is absolutely fine. He's just very akin. I also don't really like his arena. I know he's the father of the Abyss. It's not as bad as Four Kings Abyss, but it's still not particularly good. The reason he's this low, though, compared to where other people might put him, is I just don't find him as enjoyable as other bosses. Kind of like Rolana. I don't think he's bad. There's certain parts I don't like about him. I don't think his design is as good as maybe it could be. I feel like it is a bit lackluster, but in general, I think the boss is fine. It's just not as good as other DLC bosses, let alone other bosses in any of these games, right? Because I'm doing all of these Soulsborne games. So next on the list, I have Ebrietas, Daughter of the Cosmos, another great one from Bloodborne. Ebrietas is another boss, kind of like Osiris from Dark Souls 3, where there's a BS charge attack. The reason it's BS in this game, though, isn't because you can't see it coming, because you can. It's because its hitbox is just so unbelievably wide. Like, she's far wider than she should be. I think the hitbox should be more lenient than her actual width, but in this it's actually far more harsh than its width. So I'd rather something look like it hits and doesn't hit than the other way around, right? Because it's far more annoying that way around. And when you get hit by that, like, there is ways to get around it, like if you just stay really far away or really close or to her sides. If she does it, she won't hit you, or she might not do it at all. That being said, it's still a particularly poor move in my eyes. At least it's coded poorly. That being said, the rest of the attacks I think are fine. If you know how to dodge them, I say, well, that's the same with every boss, but they're fine. Her second phase has very few additional attacks, and the attacks it does have are kind of like whatever. The runback is fine on this boss. I don't mind the design. I will say that if I was to miss... Like, there's a very few bosses when I replay Bloodborne that I would not fight. I only fought them all here because I wanted to get gameplay for them all, obviously. But there's very few... And rank them on this list. But there's very few bosses I would, ignore. One is Moon Presence. Sometimes I just don't fight Moon Presence because I just don't care. And then one is Celestial Emissary and Ebrietas. Not because I dislike Celestial Emissary. It's just because Ebrietas can be quite annoying to fight. I can agree that Ebrietas is a good boss fight, or a good boss in general, but it can be really frustrating and annoying, and sometimes I will not want to fight it, and I feel like that's not a good thing. There's really hard bosses, Melania, Promised Consort, Radan. These are known as like hard bosses, quote unquote, that I say quote unquote, they are hard, but I would much rather fight them than Ebrietas, right? I'd rather fight them 30 times than Ebrietas 5, right? Ebrietas can get very annoying for me. Now, I feel whoever the genius was at From Software, who named both Ceaseless Discharge and Dirty Colossus, must have been the same guy who came up with this banger. We've got Gaping Dragon next on the list. Now, Gaping Dragon, obviously, if you look at the boss, its most obvious feature is its features, is its design. Very wacky and wild, but I do actually really like it. Its moveset's absolutely fine. Very, I'm going to use the word again, inoffensive. How many times have I said, going to use the word again, and inoffensive? How many times have I said, how many times have I said? Anyway, this is what happens when you don't have a script. Now, I want to refer back to Lawrence for this next boss, because this next boss, Tower Knight from Demon Souls, is kind of like Lawrence in the fact that I feel like it's two bosses melded into one. That being said, this boss is a lot better than Lawrence in my opinion. We've got Tower Knight, who, when you hit a bunch in the legs, it falls down, kind of like Adjudicator, where you hit the head to get extra damage, or the helmet. And then he's also got archers around that you have to, well, you don't have to, I suppose, but to make it better and easier, you attack them to get rid of them, kind of like the Bell Maidens in the One Reborn fight, even though that came a lot after this boss, obviously. But yeah, Tower Knight, I think, is absolutely solid. I love the design. It's in my favourite part of the game, Boletaria, and its sound design is immaculate. When a beam at you, when you're attacking his, friends, his knights that are around, his archers, it's like, pew! I don't know how many people would have watched this far. People will either watch the first, like, minute, be like, yeah, I don't want to watch this video, or they'll skip to the last, like, 10 on the list to see who I put at the top. But if you are in this, like, middle section of the list, or just, like, slightly higher than middle section of the list, you may be surprised that Belfry Gargoyles is this high and this much higher than Bell Gargoyles. My only reasoning for this is I actually don't mind Bell Gargoyles. I just like Belfry Gargoyles more. One, because I just like the vibe more. I don't know why. I must have just been liking Belfry Gargoyles when I was playing Dark Souls 2 more than... Like, it might just be, like, the time of day that I was playing them, or how I was feeling at the time, maybe. But also, I like that Belfry Gargoyles are completely optional, and you don't even have to remotely... I mean, they're not super hidden, but they're hidden enough. Next on the list, I have Vanguard Demon, which is a peculiar boss because it's the tutorial boss for Demon Souls Remake, or, well, Demon Souls, I'm assuming it was in the original as well. That being said, you can actually skip it. You have the option to skip it at the start, but I never skip this, like, tutorial section, just because you can get through it really, really quickly, and I like the Vanguard Demon's design. I like the goofy nature of when you hit him, his bum cheek jiggle, and I absolutely love it. Like, just look at the fight, look at the jiggle physics on his ass. It's so, like, I just want to grab it and just, oh, it's so crazy. But also, this boss, if you are killed by it, you don't get to redo it. You get to fight the Vanguard Demon without the boss health bar, like as a mini-boss later on in the game. As, like, an actual boss with a boss health bar, you don't get to redo this guy. You're meant to take a death to this guy, but if you do manage to kill him, which you can do, and it's relatively easy if you know to just run around him, I suppose, then you actually get rewarded with a few extra little goodies before going into the game. You don't get anything amazing. It's not like you get, like, 10 free levels or something. It's not, like, nothing insane, but you get a few, I think you get a few, like, stones to upgrade a weapon. You also get, I think, a soul or two to be able to get a few extra souls earlier on. So, I don't know, I just like it. And then you do take a mandatory death once you beat him anyway. But I just really like Vanguard Demon's concept. I also don't mind how simple his moveset is because he's the tutorial boss of the first Souls game, and his bum cheeks are voluptuous. Next on the list, I have Old King Allant. Old King Allant, there's really not much to say. I like his arena. He's the true final boss of Demon Souls. I mean, it is technically King Allant, but he's the guy, really. He's like the, in his prime version, I suppose, of King Allant before he became a slug, which is crazy in a sentence. That being said, I don't particularly like his moveset. He has one cool move that's like a grab attack where, well, it's not like a grab attack, it is a grab attack where he drains your soul level, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if there's a cap on it. I assume there must be, unless he can get you down to level 1. That'd be crazy. And I think I've only ever died to this guy like once or twice, but, you know, I would be interested in actually knowing that. Maybe I'll look it up, or just, you know, somebody will tell me. I think his design's kind of cool as well, and his weapon's sick, that you actually get his weapon after defeating him, and then you can combine it with another weapon to get, like, a new game plus. Is it called the Demon Brand or something? Or no, it's called, there's a Demon Brand, the Summit Brand, and then it turns into something. Anyway, Old King Allant overall is pretty solid, especially for Demon Souls standards. Next on the list, I have Armor Spider. Armor Spider, I think, is overlooked. Don't get me wrong, it's not an S-tier boss. It's not up there with the likes of, I'm not going to spoil, I almost spoiled some bosses, but it's not an absolute belter of a boss. It's not an absolute, you know, hit, a home run. That being said, Demon Souls, again, I'm taking into account, it's the first game, but also, I actually find this moveset to be relatively fun. It's very simple, and the only quote-unquote BS attack or annoying attack, if you don't know it's coming, but, like, every boss has attacks, if you don't know they're coming, will probably one-shot you, is the, like, oil on the ground and then the fire, but that's, like, the time to heal, and once you know it's coming, it's extremely obvious. If you get hit by it, it's your own fault at that point. But I kind of like him. I like the design. The only thing I really dislike about this boss, and by the way, the run back is actually pretty solid for Demon Souls standards. If this was Elden Ring, I'd be saying it's ass, but it's, you know, for Demon Souls. That being said, one thing I dislike about him, and it is the most minor thing, so it really doesn't knock him down at all, is his name, Armor Spider. He's a spider, or arachnid, whatever, well, I assume it's spider because it's in the title, with armor. The simple names don't change, because our next boss on the list is Blood-Starved Beast, which I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say it's a beast, which is rather blood-starved, but maybe I'm wrong there. But yeah, I like the design of this guy. It's a beast that's been blood-starved, if you couldn't tell. It's like got skin flaps over it. It can't really. It seems like it can't see because its skin's over its eyes, which sounds gross, and I suppose it is, but I like it. I like its boss arena. I like the area before it, Old Yarnum. I like a lot of aspects of this boss. I like the fact that you can easily cheese this boss. I didn't, but you can cheese it without using a glitch or anything, where you use blood cocktails and you throw them and the boss will go for the cocktails and not you. And it makes, there's multiple ways to beat this boss. And usually I do use that way, I just purposely went out of my way to fight it, quote-unquote, normally. But I kind of like that blood cocktails can be used for this boss. It gives them a actual purpose, because I would never use them otherwise. That being said, I know people in his second phase get annoyed at, like, the antidote that you might need because of the poison that he inflicts in his second phase. That being said, I didn't use an antidote because I'm a tank like that. I'm him. And I don't think I was overleveled for this boss either, so I know. Look at the gameplay and admire the absolute greatness of me and Bloodborne. That being said, Bloodstarved Beast, very solid boss. The only thing I'm not particularly fond of, kind of like Old King and Lantern, a lot of bosses in the earlier games, but for Bloodborne, this is, there's only like 3 or 4 bosses I would say are like this, where the runback is pretty poor. It's probably the least poor out of the poor runbacks, but it is one of the more bad ones, if that makes sense. Not quite as bad as like a Lawrence, I don't think. Definitely not as bad as one that comes higher up. That being said, it's still a pretty poo runback. Next on the list, I have Lich Dragon Fortisax. I don't know if he plays a saxophone, and I don't know... Does Lich Dragon mean Light Dragon? Anyway, whatever the case, cool name. I love the design. The song is an absolute belter. That being said, he has this thing like Dragon Lord Fortisax, Dragon Lord Placidusax, or Placidusax from earlier, where if you're like stationary for a while, which is not a long time at all, lightning will strike that position, so you've got to be constantly moving, and it works much better with this boss than I think it does Dragon Lord Placidusax. I don't know, there's something about this boss that I just rubs me the wrong way, that I can't put it higher, because I usually will not fight this boss. I usually do try to avoid it. It's just because I was doing every boss I consider a main boss for this video. But if I was playing normally, I'd probably avoid this boss. It is a side quest you've got to do, but it's a very easy side quest to do, very quick. So it's not like it's out the way, really annoying. Relatively out the way, I suppose. But yeah, in general, Lich Dragon Fortisax is pretty solid in everything, besides the fact that I just kind of try to avoid the boss, which must knock it down a few places. Now, next on the list, we've got Radagon and Elden Beast, which, by the way, are the same boss. I know there's some people on their lists, especially if they're only Elden Ring, like, boss rankings, but just in general, a lot of people count them as different bosses. They are the same boss. They are 2 phases of the same boss. I don't care how different the phases are, they are the same phase. People always use the example of, like, Moon Presence and the boss that comes before Moon Presence, because they are also back-to-back. But the difference is, you've got the first boss, once you beat him and go to Moon Presence, once you die on Moon Presence, you only get Moon Presence, because Moon Presence is that next boss, like, when you run back. Whereas if you die on Elden Beast, you have to fight Radagon again. So the Elden Beast is the second phase of the same fight. Also, you can't avoid fighting Elden Beast and only fight Radagon unless you just don't beat the game, whereas you can fight the first final boss of Bloodborne, or just not fight them at all, and then not fight Moon Presence. Do you see where I'm coming from? So they are 2 separate bosses. So Radagon and Elden Beast, I don't know why people say these guys are 2 separate bosses. They are not. They are the same boss. My rant is now over, and because I've mentioned them being 2 separate bosses so much, I'm just going to move on to the next one, but it angers me. They are clearly the same boss. Anyway. Will you be left in the dust until I stuck by you? You're my sunflower. I think your love will be too much. Coming up next on the list is Chaos Witch Quelaag, who is a boss that I really, really do like from Dark Souls 1, and I think she makes the area she's in far more bearable. Blighttown is not as unbearable, I personally think, as others give it credit for, but it is not a good area by any means. And after you beat Chaos Witch Quelaag, you go deeper, closer towards Lost Islith. You'll fight Ceaseless Discharge, Demon Fire Sage, Centipede Demon, and then the Absolute Beast, which is Bed of Chaos, after this boss. And you've got to defeat this boss to get there, unless you, like, glitch the game, I suppose. And if it wasn't for this boss, this area would be so worse. Going through Blighttown, getting to Ceaseless Discharge, or if there was a stinker boss in place of her, like, it would just be so much more of a drag. Now, she is the first out the bunch, so she is, once she's over and done with, it does get a bit more like, but at least there's something to be hyped for. I actually don't mind fighting this boss, and that's mainly the reason she's in this place on the list. Also, she's got boobies, which I think is pretty cool. Next on the list is Starscourge Radahn. Starscourge Radahn, try to say that 5 times fast, Starscourge Radahn. But Starscourge Radahn is really, really cool, and we're getting to the point now in the list where these bosses are really, really good, so I don't want people to think because he's below the 30th place, it must mean I hate the boss. No, there's 172 bosses on this list. Everything about this boss is hype. The run to the boss is hype. The arena's hype. I am the bone of my sword are. The design is hype. I feel bad for the horse he sat on. His moveset is super hype. His second phase transition where he comes down like a meteor. I know it seems a bit BS for people who don't know it's coming, because it seems to come out of nowhere. That being said, there's a lot of moves like that with a lot of bosses. It's not unique to Star Scourge Radahn. And his build-up and lore, I think, is also hype. And, like, you know, the Radahn festival and stuff. I wish there was a few more people at his festival to make it a bit more hype. But in general, his build-up, his lore, I just absolutely love it. Hype, 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 hype is what I think of when I think of this boss. Next on the list, I have Burnt Ivory King, who probably has the best entrance of any boss on this list. John Cena, I think, would actually be quite proud of this entrance. The biggest issue with this boss, I mean, the run back is non-existent, but my biggest issue is, even though it doesn't technically have a super long run back, the first phase, I mean, it's not really a first phase, but the first phase is like this little war with a bunch of knights, and it is a bit like, you know, oof. And although I've never died on this boss, I'm assuming you probably have to do this whole thing again when fighting the boss. I'm unsure. Whether you do or don't, he wouldn't be that much higher anyway. I like the soundtrack of this guy as well. His lore is pretty cool. Lore! The amount of times I've talked about lore, I'm Matt Pat at this point, but maybe I'll take his place on a game theory. But in general, I really, really like this boss. I think he's super hype. He's kind of like Star Scourge Radahn. I mean, they're really right next to each other on the list, where in their respective game, they're like the most hype boss. He is so hype, Burnt Ivory King. But yeah, I just like bosses more higher up. I'm not really going to say many negatives about bosses now, because these bosses are all absolute beasts. Which goes for the next boss on the list, which is Soul of Cinder. Soul of Cinder is the final boss of the base game of, or just the game in general, of Dark Souls 3. And he's like, his second phase, I'll talk about first, is Gwyn. Basically, he turns into, his moveset's very akin to Gwyn, and his soundtrack is basically the same, like a remixed version of Gwyn, the final boss of Dark Souls 1. But he's just better in every way. His soundtrack's just as good. His moveset's far more interesting in terms of the moves he does, the way he looks. The fact that his run back's also non-existent helps, I suppose. And he also has that cool grab attack, which was like the only attack I liked from Gwyn. So yeah, that's cool. His first phase is also a bunch of movesets. I think it's a sword moveset, a spear moveset, and there's a bunch of movesets that it can switch between. But it feels fair, not just out the blue, out of nowhere. And these movesets are meant to signify, because this is like the soul, like in Dark Souls both 1 and 2, the past, like, people who lit the fire, the people who lit the flame, the past, like, protagonists. So the player, everyone who played Dark Souls 1 and created a character, that character's in this character. That's kind of like what it's meant to be, right? It's meant to be, the first phase is meant to be all of the protagonists in one, and then the second phase is meant to be the first Lord of Cinder, Gwyn, right? So I believe that's the case anyway, but both parts of the soundtrack, specifically the second part, are banging. I like the arena. I think it's super fitting. I just think everything about this boss is really, really solid. Yet again, like the two that came previous, it's not bad at all, and I can't really think of anything negative to say about it, other than the fact that I just like other bosses more. And I'm going to stop prefacing that I like other bosses more, because a lot of these bosses I'm not going to say negatives about, but they're just not going to be as good to other bosses, in my opinion. Next on the list, I have a bit of a shocker, I think, to some. Old Iron King. Old Iron King, I like the design of. It comes after Smelter Demon, the first Smelter Demon, that is. That has it's just a trek to get to, unless you, like, glitch out bounds to get to him, which there is a glitch you can do, but, you know, I never glitch games because I'm not skilled enough for that, I suppose. I also don't mind his moveset, as simple as it is. I actually just really like Old Iron King. I don't know his lore at all, even remotely, but I just kind of like the fight. Every time I fight this guy, who is a main boss, a mandatory boss, I just kind of like it. Like, most people will probably have this guy, like, bottom 10 in all of Soulsborne, because I've never seen anyone hate on him, but I'm sure he is hated. Because he's quite basic, I suppose, kind of. I mean, it's quite unique, I think. He's also this big demon-looking guy in lava. I kind of like the area he's in visually, not actually to go through. I don't know, I just like Old Iron King. Sue me, I'm sorry. Next on the list, I have Demon Prince, or Demon Princes. This is a very hit-and-miss boss for me, because I don't like the first phase. I don't think they're horrifically bad or anything. They work okay together. But it's just the toxic that one can spew at you. I think they both actually can. And also, sometimes they're both a bit too active for my liking. So the first phase, I don't think it's bad, and I like the concept of whichever one you beat is you get a different version of the boss, slightly, kind of like another boss later up on the list it clearly was inspired by. That being said, the second phase of this fight is super cool, badass, just, oh, it's so good. This boss would be about It wouldn't be F tier, don't get me wrong, but it would have been a lot lower in this list. But then that second phase comes in, and it's just super cool, and it is the boss that's the entrance to the DLC, which has some of the best bosses in the game. Now listen to this song. And tell me that you don't want to cry. Great Grave Wolf Sith, absolute banging song. It's not even... banging's the wrong word to describe this somber, melancholic, lovely, peaceful tune. I don't like it. It puts most lo-fi to shame in terms of how just vibey it is. I really like Great Wolf Sith's song. I like the lore. He's the dog, or the Great Wolf, I suppose. He's not a dog, he's a wolf, actually, of Knight Artorias. I do like the arena you fight him in at Artorias' grave. I like the lore of the area he's in. His run back for Dark Souls 1 standards isn't abhorrent, and he's also quite easy, but I actually don't mind how easy he is and the limited moveset he's got. And the moves he has got is kind of cool. He's also the one that I was talking about earlier when I talked about Red Wolf of Radagon being not the best wolf with a sword in its mouth. This is that wolf, I suppose, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, everything about this boss is just way cooler than Red Wolf of Radagon. Lore, design, arena, soundtrack easily is far better. I mean, I can't even remember Red Wolf's soundtrack. And also, if you save Great Wolf Sith in the DLC, which is set in the past, there's actually a slightly different intro cutscene where he sniffs you beforehand and then gets a bit, like, sad that he's got to fight you kind of thing. And it's cool, so it's like, you can actually change it up. I don't think I've ever done it myself, because I always fight Sith before the DLC. Next on the list, I have Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Dancer of the Boreal Valley looks really cool. The sound design I like when, like, she's stepping around, you can hear, like the sound of footsteps, it's like, boom, boom, but they're, like, very quiet for how big this beast is. It just fits. It's like, super nimble. It's like, well, it's meant to be a dancer. It's almost like, it's like a ballet boss, I suppose. I don't know, it's really cool. The design's cool, the weapons she uses are cool, and the first phase moveset is really, really fair. The second phase moveset is the part where I just don't particularly like it. I feel like there's a lot of moves that are just kind of BS. Like, I'm sure, as I said with a lot of other bosses, they're dodgeable, I'm sure. Just because something's dodgeable, though, doesn't make it, in my mind at least, not crap. And she's got a lot of moves. There's one where she transitions into a second phase where she just spins a gazillion times. I go behind like a post usually to dodge that, although in this gameplay I'm not sure if I did. So there is at least that. But then there's just some moves that seem to come out far too quick, especially because you can fight this boss as the second boss in the game. You can actually fight this boss and beat it, I'm pretty sure, before Vault of the Boreal Valley. I feel like it's just a bit too, whatever. I don't think it's too tanky, because it is optional for... it's not optional for the whole game, but to fight it extremely early on. But I just feel like the moveset isn't very conducive to the fact that you can fight it early on. Now, Martyr Ligarius is a boss I like quite a lot. The design is really cool. His introduction cutscene I really like. Reminds me of Ganon from Tears of the Kingdom, if you get that reference. And his second phase is a lot better than his first phase, but I don't mind his first phase. And I also like that after you've beaten him, you actually get a big secret with the hidden castle behind the boss fight. If you know what I'm on about, you know. If you don't, you don't. I'm not going to go in depth, but with the Crown of Illusions. I also love the area Canehurst Castle. I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favourite. It's either this or Central Yharnam that is my favourite place in the game, and I keep flip-flopping between the two. It does suck that this is the only boss here, although he is solid. My biggest issue with this boss, and this is not why he's this low, I just think there's a lot of bosses that are better, but one of the reasons he's a little lower than maybe he should be, at least in my eyes, is his runback is awful. It's probably the worst in this game, but it's definitely one of, like, two. Between him and Shadows of Yharnam, I think, are probably the worst runbacks. Next on the list, I have Cleric Beast, who is one of two tutorial bosses in Bloodborne. The other is much further up in the list, but Cleric Beast by no means is bad. He's very, very solid. I like the arena you fight them in. It's kind of like a closed-off bridge, like you can't actually go the other side, so this is just a dead end with the Cleric Beast, but you never want to ignore the Cleric. Like, if I was to play through Bloodborne, like, there's quite a few bosses, like I said, Ebrietas and Celestial Emissary, Lawrence in the DLC, I'll sometimes just ignore or not fight. But this guy, even though he is technically optional, I will literally always fight. Now, the mandatory tutorial boss in Central Yharnam, which I'll obviously mention later on because he's not been mentioned yet, his way that his tutorial works, I suppose, is that he makes you get used to, or hopefully get more used to, the parrying system to get visceral attacks off. Whereas this boss is a good tutorial for the bigger bosses that can't just be visceraled with the gun, or at least not as easily. And I think he serves his purpose very, very well, Cleric Beast. I also really like the soundtrack. It's shared with this and another boss, which sucks a little bit more for the other boss, because this is the first time you'll usually hear the song. Although I saw the alpha version of this game had a different song for Cleric Beast, which I also like. So I don't know why they didn't use that for this boss, and then have the other boss have the one that is with Cleric Beast as well. So it sucks that it shares a song, but the song is a banger, or the soundtrack, the OST. And this is also the boss that Lawrence is reskinned from, but I just like the OG far more. And you could probably see in his attack range, he's got a lot of the similar attacks that Lawrence has got. He doesn't split in half when you hit him, and he is very easy, but he is the tutorial boss. Next on the list, I have Ava, the King's Pet. Now, this is crazy that it's this high up, because it's literally the singular version of Lud and Zelen, who are smack bang bottom on this list. But there's a few reasons why. One, I actually don't mind the moveset of the King's Pets, especially for Dark Souls 2 standards, but even in general, it's just that two of them makes the fight worse. Second of all, the run back is nowhere, which is probably the most important part. The run back is nowhere near as bad. Nowhere near. It's actually very lenient, like for Dark Souls 2 standards, yet again I'm going to say for Dark Souls 2 standards, it's actually relatively lenient. There's a little bit of a run, but there's no enemies in the way or anything. I also think it's cool that this boss actually appears invisible, and you've got to do something throughout the world to, like, you've got to go through the level, this is a DLC boss, get an item that then makes it visible, but you can actually fight it when it's invisible, and I think there are a few other items that can help you fight it when it's invisible, but I may be mistaken there, because I've never fought it invisible. At least not purposefully. When I first fought it, it was invisible. And I like the design, I don't mind the design. I don't know the lore about this boss at all, so I'm not going to pretend I do, and sit here and say I like the lore, because I don't know the lore. I think it's Burnt Ivory King's, like, pet. I assume that's the king that they're talking about, because they're in the same DLC, but I don't really know the lore. Next on the list, I have Abyss Watchers. Abyss Watchers, one, super badass, I just need to get that out of the way. I like their weapon, and you can also get it as a boss weapon, and its moveset's super cool. It's got one move in particular that's so cool. It has like a mini knife, daggery type thing, and you don't really use it to attack. It's more like to like grind across the floor. You'll see it with their moveset. I also don't mind the fight. There are ads that do come in the fight. That being said, you get an ad on your side as well, and it's like a fight with a bunch of ads. I say a bunch, there's not an insane amount, that I think is done rather well. I never get annoyed at this fight if I get killed by the ad. And there is an ad that will attack you, but if you're far enough away, it will attack the others, which I think is, you know, kind of balancing it out, I suppose. The second phase is really cool as well. I mean, the main Abyss Watcher takes in the souls of, like, all the other dead Abyss Watchers, I believe, and then it becomes, like, the ultimate Abyss Watcher, I suppose. I don't know, when it's, like, blade becomes fire. And the arena I actually don't mind. My biggest issue with these guys for Dark Souls 3 standards, because it's quite lenient Dark Souls 3 in a lot of the runbacks, is the runback. It's not abysmal. I wouldn't say it's Lud and Zelen levels, not even remotely in the same ballpark. I've mentioned Lud and Zelen a lot, but their run back is just so ass. Like, I can't believe that was even passed through. And that was the third game. That wasn't Demon Souls. That was the third game. So they had, like, anyway, I digress. But Abyss Watchers, their run back is a little bit, like, it's nowhere near the worst even in the game, I don't believe. But it is a bit, you know, annoying because they're not so easy. Like, if I was doing a level 1 run, the run back would annoy me more than the actual boss, right? The boss wouldn't annoy me at all. I think the boss is very solid. But yeah, it's a minor gripe because I don't think it's that bad, and in general, Abyss Watchers are really, really good. Now, the reason this is a gimmick boss, I suppose, akin to Yorm, is that you use, I don't believe it's called the Storm Ruler in this game, although I could be wrong, but it's a similar sort of thing. It has a far cooler moveset, but it's a similar sort of thing. But I just like the fight a lot more. For a gimmick fight, it is so unbelievably good. It's fun to dodge the attacks. I think the second phase is worse, to be fair, because it's got one attack, which I don't believe I actually did in the gameplay, because I think I killed the guy too fast, but it has got a second phase attack where you've kind of like Murgo's Wetness, where the strat is just to run around in a circle, and it's just a bit like, you know, but it does look a lot cooler, and also not as annoying in my opinion. Well, no, it is more annoying, because it's easier to fuck up, it's easier to, oh, pardon my French, it's easier to, you know, or harder, I should say, to dodge. But I just think, especially the first phase, is super fun to dodge. I really like the fight. The run back is non-existent. The boss design is really, really cool, and the transition's cool. The weapon you get off this guy is like the best weapon in the entire game, although, like a lot of weapons, it's shrank down, because the boss wielding it is huge, and when you get it, it's like a tiny version. Obviously, I mean, it makes sense, obviously, but it's just goofy. Maybe there's a lore reason that happens, I don't know. But in general, I think this boss is really, really good, especially for what is considered a gimmick boss. You can, kind of like Yorm, defeat this boss with just normal weapons, but it's just far too tedious, far too long, and it's meant to be defeated this way, like Ancient Wyvern as well, I suppose, but I don't even know why I mentioned that guy, he's awful. And next up, we have Old Demon King. Old Demon King is another boss that's like, oh, he has a bunch of stuff going for him, besides one, and it's a really important factor. So, Old Demon King, as the name suggests, is an Old Demon King from Dark Souls 3, and Dark Souls 3 is like the end of the Dark Souls timeline. Like, you've got Dark Souls 1, which is like, it's full with gods and stuff, and you actually meet some of the gods. And then Dark Souls 2 is like, I think it's a slightly separate land, but there's references and whatever. And Dark Souls 3 is the end of Dark Souls 1, really. Like, it's like, you could play Dark Souls 1 and 3 without even playing 2, and it's like the beginning and the end. And a lot of the stuff of Dark Souls 3 is like the world's crumbling, and you're going to link the last flame, or the world's going to basically, the world's coming to an end, right? And all of the demons pretty much have become extinct. There's a few scattered around, and they're all far weakened, but the demons are dying out, especially as the bed of chaos has now been defeated. And this guy, being an old demon king, he's like his fight feels like it's just a worn down guy, and this is exemplified in his final attack where he bursts into flame, or like bursts into an AoE, which is a bit BS because it's quite difficult to dodge, and it comes out really quickly out of nowhere, and I don't think there's any reason you should suspect it. That being said, lore-wise, it's super cool, because after he does the attack, he can barely hit you, he can barely stand, and the fight becomes absolute novice, the easiest fight in the game by far. But it's right at the end of the fight, and I love it, the last grasp. Like, lore-wise, this guy is so cool. I also like his design. The arena he's in is super cool. In general, I love everything about this boss. It's just fighting the guy is not as good. Like, Rykard, Abyss Watchers, Ava the King's Pet, Cleric Beast are all far better. Even Martyr Ligarius are all far better fights. This guy's lore, I just think, is so unbelievably cool that he's above them. But if we're talking, if I was rating this list on just fights, just how good a fight it is, this guy would be a lot lower. He'd probably be 20, 30 places lower. I don't think his moveset is abysmal by any means, but he has a few attacks that are just not super fun, and he has quite a few attacks that kind of make you disengage from the fight, unless you've got an extremely strong weapon, I suppose. It's just not super great, right? It's not abysmal, but it's average absolute best. And that last attack is a bit BS, to be fair. That being said, it's so cool. Next on the list, I've got Sin, the Slumbering Dragon, and I'm going to try to rattle off quite a few of these now, because these upcoming bosses, pretty much everyone from here on out has very few things, if any, that I dislike about them. It's just that there are better bosses, right? So now I'm talking about like the 7 out of 10s to 10 out of 10s, right? And speaking of 7 out of 10s, next on the list is Sin, the Slumbering Dragon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sin, the Slumbering Dragon above Abyss Watchers? That's crazy. But I just think, one, it's the best boss by far, Dragon boss specifically, in Dark Souls 2, which, you know, Ancient Dragon, Guardian Dragon aren't particularly great. Second of all, really good run back, especially for Dark Souls 2 standards. I mean, it's pretty much non-existent. Third, I don't mind the design and the arena. And fourth, it's not an annoying dragon to fight. A lot of dragons, there are a few dragons I've got left to mention, but in general, dragons are quite annoying to fight, especially in the Elden Ring open world, where they constantly fly away and stuff, and shoot fire at you and stuff, and they're not horrific, and they look cool. But I just feel like I don't get bored with Sin, and although I probably wouldn't do the whole DLC that Sin's in, because it's the last boss of the DLC, and I don't like the rest of the DLC. It's got the 3 people fight, and Elena, the Squalid Queen, which are both quite low down on this list. So I don't like Sin enough to go through them to fight Sin, so maybe I could take that into account and put him lower. That being said, the fight itself I do like. If it was an optional boss, but it was easier to get to, I would do it every single time I play Dark Souls 2. But I just like Sin. I just think he's a high point of that DLC. That DLC without Sin, or a worse boss, would be an absolute stinker. Next on the list, I've got Margit the Fell Omen, or Margit, however you pronounce his name. But I really like this. It is a tutorial boss for Elden Ring. I mean, it's the first boss on that you will fight in Elden Ring that I'm counting on this list. Like, technically, it's an open world game, so you can fight Tree Sentinel, or go to a dungeon, fight a dragon, whatever. But this is the first boss I'm counting on this list, because I'm not doing, like I said, every single Elden Ring boss, every 200 boss. Only the ones I count as main bosses. This isn't a remembrance boss, but it is a main boss in my eyes. And Margit, I think, is far better than his, like, better version, quote-unquote, which is Morgott, the Omen King. So this is, like, his alter ego version, is Margit. And I like him a lot more. I like his attack. His first phase, I think, is really, really solid. He can whip out a knife really quickly if you're close to him, which I'm not too keen on, but once you get used to it, it's quite, you know, you just back away. It kind of punishes you for being too aggressive. And his second phase, and his first phase does this as well, gets you used to how fast Elden Ring's going to be. I think it does a good job at that, because it's a lot faster than even like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, in my opinion, let alone Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2. Saying all this, though, in his second phase, he has got an attack, and a lot of Elden Ring attacks, or bosses have attacks like this. Like, they've got a name, I can't remember off the top of my head now, where it's like meant to catch you out, like catch you in a roll, like roll catches, is that what they're called? I can't remember. But basically, he'll whip out a hammer, or a sword he can do it with as well, and he'll like slash with one and then slash with another one straight after. Well, you don't really slash with a hammer, but you know what I'm trying to say. It just doesn't seem, for a tutorial boss, dodgeable within reason. I don't know. I'm just not too keen on that move, but literally every other move, especially in the first phase as well, I just really, really like. And he's got certain moves I think are really, really good. His jump attack with a hammer, very easy to dodge, but I think it's really cool. And he's got one where he like can dash towards you unless you're too close and he'll just swipe. And that's so easy to read as well, but it's really, really fun to just do every time. Next on the list, I have Dark Lurker. Now, Dark Lurker, like, for just standards in general, let alone Dark Souls 2 standards, he's got a really cool design, really unique. I can't imagine anything like it in FromSoft's catalogue off the top of my head right now. His moveset's also pretty unique, especially for Dark Souls 2 standards, but just in general, and I like his moveset. He's only got like 4 or 5 moves, but all the moves he has I really, really like, and they're quite well telegraphed, right? I really like him, and I like his quest. That being said, my issue with it, well, his quest isn't that good, but we'll get into that. My issue with him is his quest is extremely long, so to get to him, and he's completely optional. You don't even have to remotely even know this guy exists to beat the game. And he's quite well hidden, I suppose, but his quest is pretty long, and there are some annoying aspects of the quest. You've got to like defeat these 2 giants to get a key to. You've got to go to these 3 different dungeons around the world, and then you've got to fight a bunch of people in these 3 different dungeons, and then you've got to go to one of the dungeons, and then defeat the 3 people in that dungeon, and then you can finally get to him. But the issue is, to do any of these dungeons, you need to use a human effigy, which is a very important resource which is limited in the game. So unless you're just cracked and doing every boss first try, they will be quite useful. And to be fair, in this game, it's normal enemies that are harder than the bosses, to be fair, so you're probably dying to normal enemies more than bosses. But human effigies are a very valuable resource, so every single time you want to attempt one of the 3 dungeons you've got to do to be able to even fight this guy, you've got to use a human effigy. But even if you do them all first try, you've then got to use another human effigy to even be able to fight the guy. Well, actually, you can fight him after you've done the 3rd dungeon, I believe. Although, correct me if I'm wrong there. But if you die to him, you've then got to go to one of the dungeons again, and then you've got to defeat all the enemies in that dungeon again just to get to him, and you've got to do that every single time, on top of the fact that every single attempt you've got to use a human effigy. So it's just, like, Lud and Zelen exists, so I feel bad calling this guy the worst run back in Dark Souls 2, so I won't. That being said, it's just ruined by the run back is so crap. I don't understand what was going through their minds when they made this boss. Like, do they think harder is always better, I suppose, with Dark Souls 2? I don't know, but most of the bosses are easy. It's not like, I mean, this guy did take me the most attempts out of any. He's the only boss in this whole playthrough of Dark Souls 2 that took me double digits. I think he took me probably like 12, 13 attempts, maybe slightly more, I'm not sure. I didn't actually run out of human effigies, although I only had like 4 or 5 left, but I just think the run back's so ass, but he has everything else going for him. I like his soundtrack, his arena's fine for what he is. I don't know any lore about him, I'm going to be honest. His design's cool, his moveset's cool. I just really like this boss, but they just ruined it. Why are you ruining it, man? You're ruining it. Read my lips. You're ruining it. Next on the list, I have Godfrey, or Hoaraloo Warrior. And I just really like the moveset. I think the first phase is a lot better than the second phase. It's also in the arena you fight Morgott. I mentioned that earlier, that there's a better boss you fight in this arena, which is a fine arena, and that is Godfrey, or Hoaraloo. And I just think, I like the first phase a lot more. I think the attacks are not fairer, because the second phase attacks are fair, but they're just more fun, for me at least. But the second phase is also, if it was just the second phase and there was no first phase, it would still be quite high up on this list. I like both phases. I can't remember the soundtrack, I'll be quite frank, the OST, and also, I wouldn't say this boss has like the best design. I mean, it's just a guy. Like, it's really harsh to say he's got a crap design. I don't think his design's crap, it's just, you know, it's not the tippity top of like Elden Ring bosses, or just bosses in general. But yeah, I really like Godfrey, and he's the second to last boss in the main game, if you're not doing DLC or like just all the side bosses. Next on the list, we have Smelter Demon. Now, I hear you say, you've already said Smelter Demon. No, this is Blue Smelter Demon, an optional boss in the best DLC of Dark Souls 2, in which there's only 3 bosses, and the other 2 I've not even mentioned yet. Take Smelter Demon, improve everything about Smelter... Like, Smelter Demon's probably like a 4 out of 10 boss, right? 5 at absolute most. You bump every single stat of Smelter Demon, like every single point, like his design, his moveset, his run back, like those 3 things specifically. I can't remember the soundtrack, if I'm going to be honest. Probably the same for both of them, but I'm not sure. But you get those 3 things, and then like go on your stat menu when you're creating your character, you know, you're leveling up your character, and increase those 3 stats by like 5, right? That's basically what this Smelter Demon is. That is the weirdest. I could have just said he's better in those 3 aspects and move on. I tried to complicate it, but yeah. The Blue Smelter Demon is just a better version of other Smelter Demon, and he's also optional, which is nice. Next on the list, I have Putrescent Knight. Now, I will say, I don't think it's a bad design for this boss. I'm not the biggest fan of the design of the boss, and the boss run back is 20 seconds long, so I'm absolutely outraged that it's 20 seconds. It should be instant for Elden Ring. All jokes aside, though, I do really like this boss, but I just like the moveset. He's got one move in particular in both phases, where he, like, you'll probably see it, where a horse can charge at you, then he'll charge at you, and they'll do it twice, and then you get a couple free hits in. I find it really fun to dodge, and every single one of his moves feels fair. It feels rewarding to dodge, and I like his moveset. And for an optional boss, I would probably fight this guy most times I play the DLC. Maybe even every time, but definitely most. Next on the list, I have Melania, Blade of Mikola. But Melania, I think, is a solid boss. The only issue, well, not the only issue, but the main issue I have with Melania is the waterfowl dance. Now, I know you can dodge it. I know it's dodgeable. If you're up close, you can run around her. If you're far away, you can, like, be far away, then you dodge in, and then you dodge in and back. And then if you're, like, medium distance, I mean, I try not to be medium distance, but I'm sure there is a way to dodge it. So you can dodge the attack. It's not me saying the attack's just BS and crap. Well, I do think it's crap, but I don't even think it looks that cool. And it's a bit annoying because I feel like it takes the wind out the fight. Like it's like a dance, and you're dodging and you're hitting and stuff. And every time she hits you, she gets health back, which I think is a cool aspect. And it's the only boss I think that does that. She has the rally system from Bloodborne built into her, which I kind of don't mind. And her Great Rune has that as well, which I think's cool. But in both of her phases, she has the waterfowl dance, and I'm not a big fan of it. It comes out really, really quick. You have very little time to react to it. It's also just not a fun attack. Like, when I dodge it, I'm more relieved than like, wow, that's a cool attack, right? Where every other attack, there's not a single other attack I like or dislike more. She's got a few attacks that are hard, like the one in her second phase where she can clone herself. Also, in the second phase, she can like jump up as if she's going to do the waterfowl dance, but then she can do a different move. So that actually just feels like cheating. That does not feel fair at all. Now, maybe there's a way to tell. Maybe her like feet are slightly in a different position, or her hands slightly raised or lowered or something. For someone who's like not looked up all the strategies and stuff, I'm not sure if there is a way to tell if she is doing the waterfowl dance. But for someone who's played Melania quite a lot, fought Melania quite a lot, and she took me the most attempts by far of any boss in this entire playthrough of all of these games, it just seems very BS and very ass, and I hate it. And even if there is a way to tell, it would be so slight and minuscule that it would still be ass in my eyes. But everything else I like about it. I like her design, her arena's really cool, her runback's non-existent. I love both the first phase and second phase attacks, pretty much all of them. Even the clone attack in the second phase I really, really like, even though a lot of people dislike that. I also really, really like her Goddess of Rock-like move she does at the start of her phase, and she does multiple times throughout her second phase, where she like jumps down at you. I don't think I ever got hit by that, at least not the full force. I'd probably insta-kill you. I did sometimes run into the flower too early and get a little bit of rot on me, but in general, I always dodge the main attack of it. That being said, it's just so, like, even though it's easy to dodge, it's just so cool, and it looks, and I think it's super hype. I also like the soundtrack to this boss. Would it be top 30? Probably. It'd be up there, but I do really, really like this boss in every other aspect. I just think the waterfowl dance, like, if the waterfowl dance didn't exist, you take the waterfowl dance out of this boss, genuinely, it'd probably be about 10 places higher, and that's not even a joke. Now that I've got that out of the way, next on the list we've got Dragon... God, I was passionate there. I've got Dragon Slayer Armor. Dragon Slayer Armor is just a very... I mean, I've used the word a gazillion times, but it's like... I'm not going to use the word inoffensive, actually, although that too. It's just the most perfect, like simple boss. Like, it's a simple boss. Its moveset's not super complex, and it's not got any moves that are, like, super left field, right? It's relatively easy to understand, but it just does everything right. It does all the easy stuff right, but nothing complex, if that makes sense. But I like that. It's just... It's a perfect definition of just do the easy stuff perfectly, and then you don't need to do extremely hard stuff, right? I mean, is it top 10 boss? No, so maybe if they did have a bit of that, but I like this boss all around. Its runback's not amazing, especially for Dark Souls 3 standards, but it's not horrific. There's worse in the game it's in. And also, for some reason, I think it might only be a second phase thing, but it might be for the whole fight, and I might be misremembering, because I usually do kill this guy quite quickly. But there's like some butterfly, birdie type things, I don't even know what they are, like angels, on the sides of the arena. You probably can't see it in the gameplay because you have to really look out for them. They're a decent distance away. And they'll like shoot red things sometimes into the arena. They're more of a little annoyance than actually difficult. But like to see them coming, you would have to look away from the boss, which I dislike. And I've never seen anyone fight this boss and like look at where they are. If somebody does this boss hitless, they'll either just be lucky or they'll just kill it so fast that these guys don't shoot. I think that's a bit stupid. I don't know why they added that in. Next up, I have Romina, Saint of the Bud. Maybe it's a shock that she's this high above Melania, Bluff Dragon Slayer Armor, Putrescent Knight, whatever. I beat this boss first try, and and you'll see in the gameplay, and I had never fought her before. This was the first time I'd ever fought this boss. It's the first time I beat a Shadow of the Erdtree, I should mention, right? So you know, this was the first fight I ever had with her, but every single one of her moves felt super fair. There wasn't a single move she had which I thought was BS. Like, how did that hit me? That's BS. And for how weird, like, the anatomy of this boss is, it's like a big centipede with a lady in the middle. It's like, it feels very fair, and looking at the boss, it seems like it'd be very hard to make a non-humanoid moveset fair, but it is quite fair. Like, it's far more fair in terms of, like, the reads than, like, Dancing Lion in my eyes, or I suppose, Scadutree avatar, although that is fair. But by fair, I just mean it's quite easy to read, and it just felt very nice to fight. I don't know, the run back is non-existent as well. The bonfire's right outside the door, so it's got that going for it. I can't remember the soundtrack, but I don't remember disliking it, so there's that. I like the arena it's in. I think the design's really cool, really unique. Yeah, in general, this boss is just very, very solid. I think it's a very good boss, and it is the last mandatory boss until you get to the final boss of the DLC. And I think it's, it's absolutely fine. It serves its purpose very well. Is it one of the harder Elden Ring bosses? Not at all. But hard isn't always better, and I just really like Romina, Saint of the Bud. I just like her moveset. Her moveset's really what puts her this high. Next on the list, we have, going from that to a boss that has literally one move it spams constantly, but because it's got a cool arena, because it's got a cool song, and because the one move you constantly dodge is quite enjoyable to dodge, I've put it a bit higher. It's Sir Alone, or Alone, or Alone, it's two N's, from Dark Souls 2. Now, this boss, I'm just going to get out of the way. Its run back is absolute awful. Is it Dark Lurker or Blood and Zelen level? Definitely not, but it's not particularly great. I don't like it. Well, I say not particularly great. It is ass. That being said, the actual boss itself isn't too hard, so it's not too big a deal, and it makes up for it in a lot of other ways. I do like this boss a lot. It literally just spams one attack. You'll see in the gameplay, I'm sure, where he glides across the floor and strikes, if you're far away from him, which you probably will be most of the time. That being said, I love the attack. I think it's so fun to dodge, but you're doing it constantly. So this kind of goes against everything, where a lot of bosses, I'm saying that they only have two attacks and whatever, but those two attacks are usually not very fun. This one attack is great. I mean, he does have other attacks he uses. I'm obviously joking, but it does feel like he spams this attack, but I like it. Anyway, and he's also got a really good song. Type in Sir Alone's song. It's one of the best, if not the best, in Dark Souls 2, but it's definitely one of them. Next, we have another banging name, and I think I actually referenced this guy earlier. We've got Penetrator. Now, wow. His name isn't fake, or misleading, I should say. In his intro cutscene, he does Penetrate, and he's got a move where he does Penetrate. Now, it is Demon Souls. He's got a very limited moveset. That being said, Sir Alone has one move. But I don't mind fighting him. I don't mind his moveset. Like Sir Alone, his run back isn't particularly great, but it's not offensively bad, especially for Demon Souls. I love his armor, his design. I love his, the fire on his sword, the blood, kind of. I don't even know what it is on his sword. I think everything about it's good, not just its name. I like the soundtrack as well. When it comes to Demon Souls, it's probably got one of the better soundtracks in the game. I don't know if I'd say it's my favourite in the entire game, but it's definitely one of my favourite OSTs in the game. And Demon Souls is a game that doesn't really have a lot of OSTs I like, but Penetrate is one of 2 or 3, right? Next on the list, I have Storm King. Storm King is another gimmick boss. He uses the same weapon as Yhorm to fight him. Like Yhorm, you can use other weapons. You can't use other melee weapons. You've either got to use magic, I believe, or a bow and arrow to be able to defeat him, which I think a bow and arrow is quite strong against him, and magic probably is, because magic's OP in this game. But I just think this boss is just so hype. I know some people might be saying why you're putting it above Penetrator or some other Demon Souls bosses, but the sound design, this is my favourite sound design in the entire game. I'm obviously talking about the remake specifically here, but the visuals are stunning. I love the rain. I love the arena. It's barren, bare bones, but it still looks great. I don't know how they did it. For me, it's one of the best looking parts of the entire game. And also the ads. This boss has so much going against it. It's a gimmick boss with ads, and its arena's quite bare bones, yet it just works perfectly. I just really like Storm King. It's the most hype boss in the DLC. It's also the only final boss that feels like a final boss. By final boss, I mean, you've got... not Manny, you've got Old Monk, you've got Demon God, you've got this guy, and then you've got, I think, Penetrator, right? And Penetrator, I suppose, kind of does, but this guy, it feels the most main area boss, right? Because there's multiple areas. Obviously, the final boss is Old King Alant. I mean, it's King Alant, but / Old King Alant. But this is the one that feels most final boss epic to me. I don't know, I really like Storm King. Next up on the list, I have the Lothric Princes, so Lothric, Younger Prince and Older Prince, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head. But I like this boss fight quite a bit. The first phase has this guy teleport, but it's not annoying teleportation like Dragon Lord Placidusax. It's actually quite fun to have him teleport and then attack and then teleport and attack, and every single attack feels fair, calculated. It's not too fast. He doesn't attack multiple times too fast like Margit and a lot of Elden Ring bosses do. He's just very solid moveset throughout. Kind of akin to Dragon Slayer armor, but better in the sense that his moveset isn't extremely complex, it's just fun. His second phase, his brother is on his back and he revives him, and I think it's really cool because his brother does have magic attacks, which I never really like projectiles in boss fights, but I think it works absolutely wonders here. I think it works absolutely fine. And also it's got a cool aspect where if you defeat the older brother again in the second phase, his younger brother will revive him, but whilst he's reviving him you can beat him down. So basically the boss is the younger brother, but you can also dodge behind and hit the younger brother and the older brother. So, like, if you defeat the younger brother on his back before defeating him, like, even though he's still got health, they'll both die. And I like that. It's a strategic, like, do you want to, like, be more risky, but also hit the younger brother? I mean, it's not extremely more risky, to be fair, but I like that concept. The soundtrack is also banging. It also does feel like a decent, it's not the final boss of the game, but like Storm King, it's like the final of an area, and it feels warranted, I suppose. So, in general, I just really like Lothric Younger Prince, or Lothric Princes. Coming up next, I've got Godric the Grafted. Godric the Grafted is the second after Margit boss on this list I'm counting from Elden Ring, and it's right after Margit. I mean, you can obviously go in the open world. I'm going to stop specifying that. But yeah, this guy to me is just Margit, but better, in terms of I think he's cooler. I like his moveset more. He's got one move where he, like, has a tornado around him in both his first and second phase, although in his second phase it's a fire tornado, which seems to come on quite quick, a bit like the Melania Waterfowl Dance. Although besides that, every single other one of his moves I think is very fair, very fun, and I just enjoy his fight. I really like Godric the Grafted. I think he's a very, very solid boss. Now, this boss is the hardest on this entire list to rank for me, Bale the Dread. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first time I've played this DLC, at least I assume I mentioned it. If I haven't, I'll mention it here. But it's my first time ever playing the DLC, so this is my first time ever fighting Bale, and I beat him first try by just face tanking pretty much everything. You'll see it in the video. I think I had like 14 heals, I had max heals, and I think I ended it with no heals. I literally used all my heals and just face tanked everything. Bale the Dread, I've heard, is one of the best. Like, there's two dragon bosses I've put above Bale the Dread from Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 respectively, and you'll know who they are, I'm sure. But Bale is widely considered the best dragon boss, the most recent and best dragon boss in the FromSoft Souls-likes, or Soulsborne games. But I've barely been able to fight him because I didn't learn how to dodge his moveset. I didn't learn his moveset because I just tanked everything, and it was my first time ever fighting the guy. So the only way I can get, like, a really good grasp of his moves is looking at YouTube videos. So if I fought this guy properly, if I learned his moveset and learned what makes him tick, maybe he'd be a lot higher, maybe he'd be top 10, I have no idea. But just off my experience, I'm going off because it's my experience. I've got to put him here on the list. He wasn't as amazing as people give him credit for, but yet again, I barely fought the guy. I just tanked everything and then hit him a few times. I didn't learn his moveset at all. Although, to be fair, I think I did okay, considering it was my first time ever fighting Bale. But still, like, you know, I probably should have purposely killed myself a few times just to get used to the moveset. I actually did that to another boss, not on this list in this playthrough, but I've done that to bosses in the past. And next up, I have Eudex Gundyr, who is Champion Gundyr's tutorial version, I suppose. And I mean, I mentioned it with Champion Gundyr, so I'm going to very briefly mention it with Eudex Gundyr. But I just think he's better in the purpose he serves than the purpose Champion Gundyr serves. Wow, the stutter there is crazy. But there's really nothing else to say about Eudex Gundyr. He's just a very solid tutorial boss. I think he's one of my favourite. I think on this list, I'm looking at the list now, I think he's my second favourite tutorial boss. There's one tutorial boss from Bloodborne I mentioned earlier that hasn't been mentioned yet, but he is one of my second favourite, what I would consider a tutorial boss, and I think he does his job perfectly. And next I have Fume Knight from Dark Souls 2, the final Dark Souls 2 boss in this list. Now, it's not in the top 10, sure, but it doesn't mean I dislike this boss at all. Fume Knight is just very, very cool. I also beat Fume Knight first try, but I have fought Fume Knight before, so it's a bit different to Bale the Dread, although looking at my gameplay, you probably wouldn't think so. But Fume Knight I just think is really, really cool. He's got some cool attacks. I like his second phase. Every single one of his moves feels fair. His run back is non-existent, especially for Dark Souls 2 standards, but in general, it's like pretty much non-existent. It's about 15 seconds, 20-second walk to the boss, and there's not really enemies. There are technically, but you can run past them quite easily. Like, this boss, I feel like, is the only Dark Souls 2 boss that if I was doing, like, a level 1 run, I would actually be okay with constantly fighting and dying to. Even Sir Alone, who was the last Dark Souls 2 boss, because of his run back, I think would really annoy me. But this guy's run back is non-existent, so he's, in my opinion, the best boss in the game. That being said, if somebody said Sir Alone was better or Dark Lurker was better, or Smelter Demon, the blue one, I wouldn't be offended, but I personally think, and I think it's quite a common belief as well, quite common, I don't think I'm alone in this, that Fume Knight is the best boss in Dark Souls 2. So Vicar Amelia is a boss I think is super underrated in terms of the fact that there are times people do a top, like, whatever, is it 23 bosses in Bloodborne or 22 bosses, but they'll do, like, ranking all the Bloodborne bosses, at least in the main game, and they'll put Vicar Amelia, like, outside of the top 10 or just edging top 10, and I personally disagree. Although I don't think Vicar Amelia is anywhere near the best boss in Bloodborne, she is still one of the better bosses in the game, I think. I think design-wise, her intro cutscene, her lore, the arena you fight her in, the soundtrack, which is shared with Cleric Beast, and in a way, I think she's just a far better version of Cleric Beast. She's Cleric Beast, which is a good boss in and of itself, but just better in every way, in my opinion. I really like Vicar Amelia, and I do think she gets a bit too much smack. Next on the list, we have my favourite duo boss in Ornstein and Smo, but it's my favourite today. Tomorrow it might not be. This is a boss I might flip-flop on the most out of any boss. Sometimes I'll fight Ornstein and Smo, I'm like, these bosses are top 10, they're amazing, oh my god. Then I'll fight them and be like, this is F tier, the worst boss I've ever fought. They don't even work that well together. I flip-flop on them constantly, but I just really like them. At least the mood I'm in now, the mindset I'm in now, I really do like them. They're not top 10 for me at the minute, but I really do like Ornstein and Smo. They're definitely the best duo fight, in my opinion. Next on the list, I have Gurman, the First Hunter. Now, the soundtrack for Gurman, as tone-deaf as I am, the soundtrack for Gurman is perfection. Sometimes it genuinely makes me want to shed a tear. His arena, absolutely beautiful. It fits in with the soundtrack. I feel like they work so well together, and also it works all together with his lore as well. All of this, just these three aspects, are absolutely perfect. I love Gurman. He also gets his power from the moon presence during the fight, and you can actually see when he like phase transitions, he looks at the moon, and like all these little bits, and all the stuff you see with Gurman before you fight him, where you can like, there's a secret scene where you can see him crying and stuff. His introduction cutscene, everything is a 10 out of 10 with Gurman. The only reason he's not in the top 10 or even first on this list is his fight I don't like all that much. It's nowhere near the worst in Bloodborne. It's not bad, I even think. But the most important part to a boss, I think, is the actual combat itself, the fight. And Gurman, I will always overlevel for. If I'm not overleveled already from doing the DLC when I'm fight Gurman, I will probably go out of my way to overlevel. I don't like fighting Gurman. Next on the list, I have Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame. Midra is very, very solid. The biggest issue with Midra is he's optional in the DLC of Elden Ring, and to get to him is a pain in the absolute rectum. That being said, once you get to him, I think he's an absolutely solid boss. He's got madness, but the madness isn't actually all that annoying. He doesn't spam it, and even if he did, I think it's quite fair to dodge it. Like the fact that he has his AoE madness attack, well, I say AoE, it's more of a projectile, and it's not annoying. It's just a credit to the boss design, I suppose. Every one of his other moves, I think, is solid. His cutscene to actually open up is just so cool. It's probably the coolest cutscene. Actually, no, I think it is the coolest cutscene in all of the DLC of Elden Ring, maybe even all of Elden Ring. I just think it's so cool. And because you've got to take out his like little version before his like main boss fight, you can watch the cutscene every single time you fight him. Not that I do, but it is a really good cutscene. Overall, I just think Midge was a very, very good fight. Next on the list, I have another troubled soul. Like Gurman, we've got Knight Artorias, which I do prefer Gurman's, I think, lore and like his soundtrack and all that sort of stuff. But Knight Artorias is higher simply because I like Knight Artorias' fight more. He's got a more simple fight. He's far easier than Gurman, in my opinion. That being said, I just like Knight Artorias' fight a lot more. I'd rather fight Knight Artorias 20 times than Gurman 20 times, right? That's the only reason he's higher. But Gurman's better in every other aspect. I don't know why I'm mentioning Gurman now. Gurman, you've already had your time. It's just, I feel so bad putting Gurman so low. He's just, his fight I don't like all that much. But Knight Artorias, his lore is super tragic as well. His lore is the best, well, one of the best lores in all of Dark Souls as a trilogy. The Abyss Watchers earlier on that I mentioned have a big connection with Knight Artorias. Sif, that I mentioned earlier, that is my favourite soundtrack in Dark Souls 1, is the wolf, the pet of Knight Artorias. And he's really cool as well because, like, in the world of Dark Souls, he's, like, known as the guy who fought back against the Abyss and won. Like, he's Artorias of the, you know. But then when you find him, because the DLC takes place in the past, you go into the past and you find him, and he's got, like, a broken arm that he can't use, so he only, like, wields his weapon with one arm, and he's been corrupted by the Abyss. And it's tragic, but also so cool at the same time. And although his moveset's limited for Dark, because it's Dark Souls 1, the limited moveset is so fun to fight against. There's not a single one of his moves I dislike. But my favourite Dark Souls 1 boss is Dragon Calamite. I just think Dragon Calamite, for one of the first dragon bosses, I mean, before that you had, what, Dragon God? Woo! Yeah, Dragon God, woo! But for one of the first dragon bosses, I think Dragon Calamite is just perfect in every way, and I think all the dragon bosses take huge inspiration from Calamite. I think his design's really cool. I actually don't mind his arena because it's like a contrast between the guy. His moveset feels very fun to dodge, and he's very, very good. He's got one attack where he's got one eye, which is also like a wacky design choice, but I think it's really cool. Like one like red eye in the middle of his face, at least I believe it's an eye. And he can like zap you with it, and when he does, you actually get tinnitus. I think they should have toned that down a little bit. I mean, it works, the intended purpose, it's not that bad, it is a bit deafening. But other than that, which is a very minor gripe in my eyes, and it's still a cool move, like his grab attack, he like telekinesis you, it's just really cool. But I just really like Dragon Calamite, and I feel like if you die to Dragon Calamite, it's a skill issue. I don't think he's unfair, even remotely. The only issue I really have with him is the run back is a little annoying, because like it's not extremely long, but there are 3 dogs in the run back that can hit. It's just a bit like, you know, but still, I would fight Dragon Calamite about 50 times. I really like Dragon Calamite. Next on the list, we have a boss which is just such a 50-50, but his other 50% is just so good he's got to be this high, and that's Beast Clergyman, aka Malekith, which is what I'm going to be referring to him as now on. But Malekith's first phase, I wouldn't say it's awful. It's kind of like Gurman, where I don't think the fight's awful, but I don't particularly like fighting against it. I don't think it's that fun. It can be a bit annoying at times as well. But his second phase is one of the best boss fights, I think, in all of Soulsborne, let alone all of Elden Ring. I think it is so unbelievably good. Badass, cool, the way he like uses the pillars to jump off and stuff, his attacks all feel fair, but they look badass and cool. He's fast, but he's not too fast. I just think everything goes together perfectly. Like, he's badass. Did I mention he's badass? I probably did, but he's just... Malekith, the second phase, Malekith the Black Blade, is immaculate. Absolutely brilliant, and I love the fight. But that first phase I've got to take into account, because if you die to a second phase, you've got to do the first phase again. It's 2 phases of the same fight. And I just don't like the first phase all that much. If the first phase was on its own, it would honestly be about... I would say about 40 places lower, at least. Like, I really don't like his first phase. I don't think it's abysmal. Like I said with Gurman, I don't think his fight's abysmal. The way he uses the environment as well, he's one of the only bosses to do that. I just think he's really, really good. Next on the list, I have Nameless King from Dark Souls 3. An optional boss, but a boss I will literally always fight. But it does suck that you've got to go through Ancient Wyvern to get to him. That being said, you can take Ancient Wyvern out instantly, so it's not a big deal. But Nameless King is he's seen as like the granddaddy of delayed attacks, although there were delayed attacks beforehand, obviously. But I just really like Nameless King. He's kind of like Malekith in the sense that he's got 2 phases. His second phase is way better than his first, and his second phase is what everyone knows the Nameless King as. The first phase is way worse. That being said, I like Nameless King's first phase better than Malekith's first phase. It's less annoying, it's less tedious, I feel like. His runback's also better, Nameless King, so you can get to it quicker, and he also has less health, I believe, although correct me if I'm wrong there. Maybe it's just because I'm a decent level fighter, Nameless King. At least, like, in his first phase specifically, I'm talking about. His second phase, he's quite chunky. But yeah, I love Nameless King. I just wish I could constantly fight his second phase over and over and over again. But yeah, Nameless King's really, really cool. I like his lore. He's like the lost son of Gwyn. I think it's so cool. Got a design I really like. His arena is one of the best in the entire Soulsborne franchise. It might even be my favourite. You're on the top of clouds, but it's also raining, and I love the rain, but even taking that out of account, I still think it looks badass and cool. Overall, his moveset is completely fair. There's not a single move I dislike and think is BS. I just really like his fight, particularly second phase, though. Now, just missing out on the top 10, I have Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower, if you want her full government name, but Lady Maria is just... Words can't explain how much I like Lady Maria, so I'm going to sing a few songs. I got your picture, I'm coming with you, dear Maria, count me in. Ave Maria. Maria, you've got to see her. Down, down, down. Now we're into the top 10. Ooh. And first into the top 10 is... I mean, this is going to be a crazy pick. This is the only pick in my top 10 I generally think people will be, like, shocked at, although I could be wrong. That's Commander Niall, or Neil, I think it's Niall, from Elden Ring. I know people will be shocked, like, how is this guy above Malekith, Midra? He's above Lady Maria, Nameless King. Like, how's he this high? He's above Bale. I just think he's so fun to fight. Like, he's a very optional boss, and he's a boss that's kind of, like, off on his own. You don't have to fight him at all. Well, he's optional, I just said. He's also got 2 ads, but you can take out the ads so quickly, so they're almost meaningless. I mean, if you're under-leveled, then maybe it'd be a bit more annoying, but every time I fought Commander Niall, which, to be fair, I've not fought him at, like, level 1 or anything, but every time I fought Commander Niall, once I get rid of the ads, which is very instant and quick, I love his moveset to dodge and just to fight against, and with the ads, he's very passive. Unless you go right up in his grill, and even then, he probably won't attack you. Like, he's extremely passive. But I think his design's fine, and I think... His arena's fine. I think his run back's fine. His run back isn't as good as others. Like, that are like, he doesn't have a Stake of America, but I think his run back's absolutely fine. But he's not got anything as good as, like Lady Maria, Gurman, Knight Artorias. They're all cooler in terms of, like, design, lore, all this sort of stuff. But Commander Niall's fight itself, I just love it. I think it's so cool. The lightning on his leg, when he slams down, every single attack feels fair. It feels super fun to dodge. I've actually done this guy hitless before, and when I did, I felt like super like, wow, that was hype. Next on the list, we have, well, the next two are both Elden Ring bosses. We've got Radahn, Consort of Miquella. Now, I know people dislike this fight, but I've only ever fought him when he's been nerfed. So, I mean, he's still very difficult, don't get me wrong, but I not fought him when he was even more BS, and when he was, like, blinding people, so I don't really know all of that. I know what people were saying about him, I just didn't experience it myself, I suppose. But Radahn's, he's almost like Nameless King and Beast Clergyman, but the opposite way around, where I love his first phase. I think it is absolutely one of the best fights, maybe in the entire Soulsborne. It might even be first. I really, really like it to dodge, to fight. It feels so satisfying. I like it. He's got some roll catches, but I feel like they're all, once you know how to dodge them, it's just so enjoyable to dodge. I really like his first phase. And his soundtrack, only in the first phase, though, I think it's absolutely the chef's kiss. There's a part in the soundtrack where, maybe I'll play it, but he like someone comes in with like vocals and is like, oh, like it's like someone screaming, and it's just so cool and hype, and I definitely did a job. I butchered that. It didn't even sound remotely close, but Radahn, and especially because it's just Radahn again, like, I think they did it, like, I think he's a lot better than Starscourge Radahn, in my opinion. The second phase, though, I wouldn't say ruins the fight, and it's absolutely fine. I really don't think the second phase, rather, is as bad as people give it credit for, but it's not very good compared to this first phase. The first phase has all the best attacks in the second phase are in the first phase, but less annoying. In the first phase, they're less annoying than the second phase. That's how Radahn feels to me. He's got some attacks where he, like, slashes, and it's really fast. That is a bit cock, to be fair. You can dodge them, and I think in the gameplay I may dodge one or two of them. But, you know, he's just got some attacks I'm not too keen on. They're not bad by any means, and I'd rather fight this guy a gazillion times than, like, Melania a gazillion times. This is the boss that everyone says is harder than Melania. I find Melania harder, but maybe it's because I like this boss more, so I try harder, or I learn his moveset more. Maybe that's it, I don't know. But yeah, Radahn, Consort of Miquella, immaculate first phase, amazing soundtrack. His arena's pretty cool. I like him. I know very limited lore about Radahn, even though he's like the big bad of Elden Ring. Yeah, and he's also got a femboy on his back in the second phase, so who doesn't like that, right? Mesmer the Impaler, who's my favourite DLC boss, it seems, is weird because I don't think his whole fight is as good as Radahn's first phase. I like Radahn's first phase more. That being said, as a whole package, I do like Mesmer more. I think he's really, really cool in terms of his design, his moveset. His first phase is actually hard. Like, I fought him, this was my first time fighting him, and I think it took me about 14, 15 attempts or whatever it was, but I struggled on his first phase, but I got to his second phase, and I first tried him on the second phase. So I died to him maybe like, it was double digits, I think, but I died to him, let's say, I'm thinking about 15 times, it might have been slightly less, I'm not sure, on his first phase, and as soon as I got second phase, which I actually think is easier, or it must be, I first tried it, so I never died on his second phase, but he's also got a roll catch move, which I'm not too fond of, to be fair, but it's, like I said, with Radahn, and with, was it Margit, I think, earlier, then the roll catches in this game aren't that bad. I wish they weren't there. I understand some people probably like them, it's just not my cup of tea, but I think it's absolutely fine. Mesmer I really like, though. I don't know his lore too deep. I know he's the son of Merica, or one of the many sons of Merica, Queen Merica, although I don't know who his father is. But I really do like Mesmer. I think he's a really solid boss all round. Next on the list, I have Orphan of Kos, which at one point was my favourite boss in Bloodborne, and maybe even all of Soulsborne, but he was my favourite boss in Bloodborne for a long while, for a good few months actually, quite recently. I've actually, right next to me, got a picture of Orphan of Kos on my wall, because he was my favourite boss. There's a lot of factors going into that. One, it's raining. I need to always mention when it's raining, because I love the rain so much. But I also love the arena. I think it looks really, really cool. And if you know the lore about it, it fits so well. I love the area beforehand of him. There's these big shark enemies which were really annoying, and if you know, you know. If you try to get Lady Maria's weapon, the Rakuyo, you'll know how annoying these guys are. But besides those enemies, the arena's, or the area's really, really good. I like it a lot. It's inspired by, is it Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a book I really, really like, some H.P. Lovecraft art. His design's really, really cool. He fights you with his placenta. He's an orphan of a great one. He also, in his second phase, uses his mother, like he screams, and his mother, like lightning comes out of it. It's just, everything about this fight is super, super cool. It's just as other bosses I like. The only issue I really have with this fight, and it's minor because it's not the most important thing in a boss fight, is the soundtrack is not that good. Like, I never listen to Orphan of Kos' soundtrack outside of the boss fight. And honestly, if I played the the fight without sound, even like without music on, just the actual thing, I might like it just as much, if not more. Like, I really don't think his soundtrack adds much, personally. There might be people that heavily disagree, but I just don't really care for his soundtrack. Next on the list, I have Mohg, Lord of Blood, who is top of the Elden Ring. Next on the list, actually, there's 5 bosses left after this. 3 of them are Dark Souls 3, and 2 of them are Bloodborne, so we've only got Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne left, so those 2 games are clearly my favourite 2 games, which they are, by the way. But Mohg, Lord of Blood, my favourite Elden Ring boss, he's just great all around. He uses his arena to his advantage, like Malekith, where he, like, in his second phase, he'll spray blood around, but it actually feels nice to, like, learn to dodge him or to, like, be wary of your environment. It's not annoying. It's not like, oh. I also really like his design. He's got a horn going into his ear. The lore that I know about him is really, really cool. His arena that you fight him in is really, really solid. He also kidnapped a femboy, which, to be fair, I mean, he's goated for that, right? Like, come on. But I just love him. His first phase is really, really good. The big issue with him, I suppose, would be his Nihil, which is his transition to the second phase, where he just takes loads of health off you. You can power through it, though, and I kind of like how it changes it up a lot, and you can get some that I did get to really very vastly negate the damage it takes off you. But it will make you use at least one healing item, if not multiple healing items, unless you just no-hit this guy, so you don't care if he takes off health. So that's the one criticism, I suppose, but it does fit in with his lore as well, and his weapon is really, really cool when you get it. But Mohg is just so cool. He looks cool as well. His soundtrack's also banging. Now we're into the top 5, and coming in at number 5, we have my favourite dragon boss in all of FromSoft. Now, like I said, I didn't really experience Bale properly, but I do think Midir, or Dark Eater Midir to give him his full name, is better than Dragon Calamite in my opinion. He used to be my favourite boss in Dark Souls 3, kind of like Orphan of Kos used to be my favourite Bloodborne boss. This guy used to be my favourite Dark Souls 3 boss. For good reason. I think he's so cool. I don't think he's the hardest boss in the game, especially once you get to know his moveset and stuff, but I feel like the reason people think that is because he's extremely tanky, but, you know, here's a little hint for you. Hit his head. His head is the weak point. I feel like I still see people hitting his, like, legs and stuff. That's not what you're meant to do on this guy. Every single attack he does, he leaves a little opening for you to hit his head purposely. And then you can eventually stagger him, and that'll take off an insane amount of damage, and could actually just end up straight up killing him, which it might have done in my gameplay, I'm not sure. But Dark Eater Midir is super badass. He's an optional boss of the DLC, the second DLC that is, which is called The Ringed City. But I always fight him. He's so cool. Not only does he give you a shit ton of souls, but I mean, at that point, maybe you don't need that many souls, but he looks really cool. His design's badass. If there was one criticism I could levy at him, it'd be his runbacks a little bit. Like, if you die to him, you do have to spend like 30 seconds getting back to him, maybe slightly longer, I don't know, but it's not that big a deal. It's relatively quick. And for such a big, ginormous boss, and it's the only boss really on this list I would consider ginormous. There is one boss coming up that is a big boss, but it's not to the same extent of Midir. But Midir is, like, they've just done it so well, considering most bosses this size. I feel like Ancient Dragon. Like, compare this guy to Ancient Dragon, bro. Like, it's night and day. They definitely improved upon, like, if there's a single human being, genuinely, like, I know opinions are opinions, right? Like, you can say that you prefer, you know, Mohg than Mesmer, or Mesmer more than Mohg. There are certain opinions where it's like, or you could like the Duke's Dear Frere quite a lot, or Sir alone you could think his ass. Like, there are certain opinions that, like, even if you vastly disagree with me, I can still be like, okay, I respect your opinion. If there is any single human being out there that likes Ancient Dragon more than Dark Eater Midir, you genuinely have no fucking idea what you're talking about, and that sounds really mean, but you just don't. Next up, we have maybe a bit of a shock, but I mean, I don't think so. We've got Father Gascoigne, who is the best tutorial boss by far in any FromSoft game. This is even including Sekiro, if you do include Sekiro. He's just such an absolute banger, and he's the optional one. I mean, the non-optional one. Cleric Beast is the optional one. But he teaches you perfectly how to parry. His lore is great, and it's really tragic because he lost his self to the infected blood, and, well, I say infected blood, just the blood, the old blood. And he killed his wife, and he can be indirectly responsible for his daughter's death, I suppose. He's just such a tragic... The fact that you can use the music box twice as well in his fight to, like... And he, like, kind of remembers his sanity. His lore is so good. His soundtrack is one of my favourite in Bloodborne. I don't think it's as good as Gurman's, but I think it is absolutely great. His arena is really solid. He is, like, the Bloodborne boss. When I think Bloodborne, it is this. Like, when I've looked at Bloodborne gameplay and stuff before, like, playing it myself... This was, like, what I thought of in my head when I fought Bloodborne. Like, this sort of, like, arena with the gravestones and this boss was what I thought. Like, that was my memory of Bloodborne, like, seeing people play it before I played it, because I didn't play it when it came out in 2015. His design is really cool, his intro cutscene's really cool, and his transition, where he fully loses himself and turns into a beast before your very eyes, so you can see what the old blood turns people into, It's just amazing. The fight is absolutely fucking amazing. Is he the hardest fight in the game? No. Is his run back great? No. But he's just so unbelievably amazing. You ask me on a different day, he might be slightly lower, but I don't think so. He's just such a good boss, and as a tutorial as well, and I think people have got to take him for what he is, just because he's maybe not, I mean, I think he's as hype as Lady Maria personally, but just because he might not be as hype as Lady Maria or some other bosses in Bloodborne or the list in general, and he's not got as complex moveset or all this sort of stuff, although I think his moveset's absolutely fine, you've got to take into account he is a tutorial boss. Take him for what he is. Don't be comparing him as to if he was an endgame boss. He's not an endgame boss. If this guy was like the final boss of the game, maybe I could see some disappointing, but he's not. Take him for what he is, which is a tutorial boss. And speaking of those 10 out of 10 bosses, we've got Slave Knight Gale, who, for a lot of people, is their favourite boss. I've seen quite a few people say it's their favourite in not just Dark Souls 3, but all of Soulsborne, and I can see it. He's like the true protagonist, the true hero of the Dark Souls trilogy, and it's so sad, his lore as well. Kind of like Father Gascoigne's. I know more about Father Gascoigne because Bloodborne's my favourite game ever, so I've delved deeper into the lore of Bloodborne, but I do know a lot of Dark Souls 3 as well. Dark Souls 3 is my second favourite game ever, and Dark Souls 3, and Slave Knight Gale specifically, the lore there is just great. His runback's non-existent, I should quickly mention that. His soundtrack is really, really solid. I do prefer Father Gascoigne's, I do prefer others as well, but his soundtrack is really, really solid. His arena, both his phases are perfectly fair, really, really good. I like how it's in his second phase, his cape also comes in. So it's like a roll catch, but it's a really good roll catch. It's not like a BS one from Elden Ring, or it doesn't feel BS. You've kind of just got to roll really late to dodge them both. But it seems more skill than BS, and I just really like it. He's not got a single move I think's bad. His entire fight's great. Like I said, his lore's great. And you fight him at like the end of the world. Like if you look around you, the world's like destroyed, and it's the end. Like this feels like the true final boss, not Soul of Cinder. I love Slave Knight Gale in literally every aspect. He even has like AoE attacks that aren't annoying, they're perfect. Like, he just does everything, and he does everything perfectly. I absolutely adore Slave Knight Gale, and on another day, he could be first on this list. I generally, if somebody says this is their favourite boss, I could 100% like agree with them. I'd be like, yeah, that is a sick pick. Like, I will not, he's third on my list, but this is out of 172 bosses. And speaking of that, we've got a Bloodborne boss coming up next, the best Bloodborne boss in my opinion, Ludwig the Holy Blade. But like German, with Ludwig the Holy Blade's music, I feel something. And that's, to make someone who's tone deaf feel something, is impressive. Ludwig the Accursed / Holy Blade, his first phase moveset, perfectly fair, perfectly balanced, absolutely brilliant. I fought this guy on Blood Level 4, died to him like a gazillion times. I don't think it was triple digits, but it was quite a lot of times. Still wanted to refight him again. I thought he was absolutely great. There was a few times I raged, but it was all my own fault. There was not a single time it was Ludwig just being crap. And his second phase, his phase transition cutscene is great. I don't think I'll show it here, but it's great. And then his second phase, I actually prefer his first phase in terms of the fight itself, but the second phase I think is way better in terms of lore. It's just so cool. He's like a beast in his first phase, but then he gains like some semblance of humanity of what he used to be, and then because of the Holy Moonlight Sword, which is like his sword, I suppose, and then he fights you more like a human. I just think it's so cool, and his weaknesses actually change. He goes from being weak to serrated damage and fire, which is what beasts are weak to not being weak to them, or at least not as much, which I think is so cool as well. His second phase, if you're leveling normally, I think his second phase is far easier. But if you're not leveling normally on Blood Level 4 or something, I think his second phase is way harder. Personally, I think it's just because I like his first phase fight slightly more, like I like the moveset a bit more. But his second phase moveset is really, really good, and I just... Ludwig the Holy Blade is just an absolute 10 out of 10 fight in every aspect. His run back also, especially for Bloodborne standards, but just in general, is almost non-existent. There is a slight run back, about 15-20 seconds, but it's so minuscule, and during his run back you can actually kill a guy who's only one shot, who gives you 5 blood vials every single time, so you can get infinite heals from him as well. So I just really like Ludwig the Holy Blade. My favourite Bloodborne boss currently. It probably won't change anytime soon, but ask me on a different day, I might change it. But after all of this, we've got a boss that I think does everything but perfectly. It has its first phase, which I think is great. Its second, and badass. Its second phase, which is, it's a duo fight. But I mean, I'm teasing it, and you probably know who this is, you know. But the second phase is a duo fight, but it's the best duo fight in my opinion. Because it's not an only duo fight, I don't count it the same as Ornstein and Smough. But I actually like this duo part better than Ornstein and Smough. It's the best duo part of the entire game, and it's not even the main part of the fight. But then after that, you've got, when you think it's all over and done, you think, oh, okay, the boss is over, you get your Titanite slab, and then there's a secret third phase. And you might be like, oh, that's annoying because there's a third phase. I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna say it because I'm leading on. It's Sister Frieda. Oh my god. The first phase is great. The second phase is the best duo fight in all of FromSoft, in my opinion, in all of Soulsborne, any of this list. I think it's way better than Unseen and Smo. But then you do that and you're like, oh, okay, that's an okay fight. It wouldn't be first on my list personally, but those two phases are great. You get your reward for beating them, a Titanite slab. And then you're like, okay, the fight must be over. And then Father Ariandel, who's the one that joins Sister Frieda in the second phase, he says something along the lines of like, when two souls come together, or that two souls are light, or whatever. And then Sister Frieda's corpse rises from the dead once again, because she does, after you kill her in the first phase to the second phase, and she becomes Black Flame Frieda. She gains an additional scythe. She looks badass while doing it, and although I did make the fight look far more difficult because I was just so gobsmacked, I think, but usually I do no-hit Black Flame Frieda, or at least close to, because she's a boss that I purposely kill myself to just to fight over and over again, and you can, like, dodge her moves just by running under them, so she's relatively easy. She's not hard, she's nowhere near the hardest boss, but my god is she fun to fight, and my god is she badass. She does everything right. Design-wise, one of my favourite bosses. Music-wise, one of my favourite bosses. The arena is absolutely fine. Run back, non-existent. Moveset, there's not a single move I dislike with any of the 3 phases. She's got 3 gosh darn phases, yet it's not annoying. Like, you would think a boss with 3 phases, and 3 phases with quite a lot of health, you would think that it would get annoying, like, oh, I have to fight the third, because if you die to a third phase, you have to do all 3 phases again. But it's just so fun to fight, especially that third phase. Like, the third phase is the best phase. Oh, her black flames also look badass and cool. She still has the ice attacks. Her first phase when she goes invisible, and her third phase when she goes invisible as well. Oh, she's just an absolutely amazing fight. She does so much, and everything she does is a 10 out of 10. There's not a single thing about Sister Frieda I dislike. Sister Frieda is just an absolutely fucking amazing boss, and she is my favourite boss in all of Soulsborne. And I appreciate you for watching this far in the video if you did, or at least skipping to this part of the video if you did. But yeah,